Chapter 61, Potions Tutorial, a chance encounter in the restricted book zone. Half an hour later, Wayne walked out of the charms classroom feeling slightly tired. Professor Flitwick is asking too much. As if he was competing with Professor McGonagall, the spells Flitwick asked him to use and the proficiency required were ridiculously high. I was still a little dissatisfied in the end. Lawrence, your talent has been wasted too much. Why haven't you learned the Vajra blocking curse? You are exempt from homework, but you must master this spell before Halloween. Wayne almost vomited blood. This spell is for 6th and 7th graders, and it's extremely biased. Isn't it normal that I didn't learn it? But in order to avoid another homework, Wayne still agreed. This scene happened again in the herbal medicine class. Professor Sprout was very satisfied that he could remember so many herbs and their habits. But the homework is not waived. Because there are very few homework assignments in the herbal medicine class, there is no point in simply writing papers. It is more about practical exercises in class. When Hermione learned about Wayne's experience today, she felt envious and lonely at the same time. Seeing the determined light in the little witch's eyes, Wayne understood. Hermione was going to get more curly. As night falls, the Hufflepuff lounge is as lively as usual. Everyone enthusiastically shared each other's homework and made their own contribution to fooling the teacher. When Wayne appeared, there was a brief silence in the lounge. The little badgers all watched him walk out of the barrel door with the eyes of a warrior. Everyone knew that Wayne was going to Snape's place to make up lessons, and this lasted until just before Christmas. They all expressed their respect for his brave behavior. Just going to potions class was torture enough. The gloomy environment, Snape's poisonous tongue, and those bad-smelling potions. Combined with these factors, potions class has become one of the most hated classes for young wizards. And Wayne actually rushed to make up classes on 1, 2, 7, and many people were already worried about his mental state. Boom, boom, boom. In the office, Snape, who was reading a newspaper, heard a knock on the door without even raising his eyelids. Enter. The door to the room was pushed open, and Wayne walked in, sitting on the only empty chair with Jill. Seeing Snape reading the newspaper, he didn't say anything. He just sat there and looked at the furnishings in the room. Snape's office was actually very large, not much smaller than the potions classroom. But there is not much space for activities, because it is full of windows and cabinets. There were various bottles and jars placed on it, containing everything. There were even a few eyeballs. The broken arm was soaked in the solution, which looked particularly eerie. But in Wayne's eyes, this is all money. Lace wings, 2 galleons. Pufferfish eyes, 4 galleons each. African tree snake skin, 30 galleons for a small section. The horn of a horned beast, 150 galleons, is still worth nothing. Really. No potions master is poor, and Wayne had the same idea as he had in the principal's office. Steal him. It is said that Snape also has a special storage room for storing various materials. Maybe there are more good things there. If he could rob that place, he probably wouldn't be short of materials in the next few years. If I lose something, I will be the first to find you. Lawrence, put away those greedy eyes. You are here to take classes, not to purchase goods. Snape's cold voice came, and at some point, he had put away the newspaper and was standing next to Wayne quietly. Professor, you misunderstood me. Wayne said calmly, I am Hufflepuff, why would I come to steal your things? But do you sell the African tree snake skin? I've written several letters to Diagon Alley, but they never have it in stock. Snape took a breath, then returned to normal. Want it? Give me phoenix tears in exchange. Forget it. Wayne shook his head. Feng Wang is my best partner and my first pet. How can a mere African tree snake skin compare to her tears? Gotta pay more. Snape was almost knocked up to his waist by this U-turn. But then there was a deep surprise. Lawrence, please make a price. For many wizards, galleons are a necessity second only to the wand, but for the truly powerful, it is really just a number. Those precious treasures cannot be bought with galleons, such as the 3 Deathly Hallows, the Philosopher's Stone, and the Pensieve. Another example is the tears of the Phoenix King in Wayne's hand. Perhaps to Snape, even the 3 sacred artifacts were not as valuable as the Hoa's tears. It's too vulgar to talk about money. Wayne shook his head. You are my professor, how can I accept money from you? I don't want more. I'll split the potion refined with Phoenix tears into 30-70. 30%. Snape frowned. No, it's too much. I'll give you 20% at most. Professor, Wayne kindly reminded, 70% is mine. Snape's face turned green with anger. I'll take 30%? Wouldn't that be like kneeling down to beg for food? Don't waste time. In order to avoid being tempted to curse Wayne, Snape abruptly changed the subject. Let me first find out what the potion level of Hufflepuff's little genius is. Several other professors took turns testing Wayne, and of course Snape knew about it. However, Snape didn't mean to be too shocked. Who is not a genius anymore? He created a lot of magic when he was in school, and there was even invisible black magic. Wayne faced Snape's question without any hesitation. Looking only at pure theoretical knowledge, Wayne has a memory palace and is familiar with the sources and properties of countless materials. As for the various techniques for brewing potions, I can also memorize them by heart. After asking questions for more than 10 minutes, Snape also gave his own evaluation. I can only study hard and lack my own thinking. The contents in the textbooks are all old-fashioned stuff. If you believe them all, your achievements in this life will be nothing more than this. Faced with Snape's cynicism, Wayne secretly raised his middle finger. Sooner or later one day I will take advantage of you. Waving his broad sleeves, Snape summoned a blackboard, on which the detailed process of making the potion was written. You can take the materials yourself, but you can only take one portion. In 2 hours, I want to see the complete picture of the medicine. If it can't be finished. Snape sneered and sat back down to read the magazine without finishing his sentence. Wayne twitched the corner of his mouth after reading the content on the blackboard. The hate potion is a magic potion that brings out the worst in the person who takes it. It is completely opposite to the love potion. He had seen this potion from advanced potion making. According to the classification, it was something that only grades 6 or 7 should learn. The cooking process is very complicated. It not only requires strict material handling, but most importantly, it also requires the use of a wand for stirring. While stirring, release the right amount of magic. The right amount, a small amount, a certain amount. Can't we use quantifiers more accurately? Did Snape deliberately use a difficult potion to persuade him to defeat him? Resisting the urge to take out his wand and exchange spells with Snape, Wayne went to get the materials honestly. Salamander blood, griffin powder, dragon liver, and nettles. Following Snape's steps, Wayne began to process the materials step by step. In order to avoid making mistakes, he even turned the wand into a ruler, accurate to the millimeter. This made Snape take a high look. In his mind, potions should be such a discipline that is both rigorous and creative, full of charm. The prerequisite for being creative is to start to have your own ideas after thoroughly learning what people with abilities above you teach you. Wayne was a bit at odds with him, but he also knew what was best for him, which was 100 times better than Potto. Isn't this what a true Slytherin should have? Obey the strong, desire strength, and become the stronger. Snape's heart ached when he thought of the pure-blooded little wizards in his academy who thought highly of themselves but had little real ability. The liquid will appear light blue, and the dragon liver can be added only after the bubbles disappear. Hearing the reminder, Wayne immediately stopped his hand, waited until the last bubble completely disappeared, then decisively put in the dragon liver and stir-fried it. No, it's boiled. After 2 hours, the brewing of the potion of hatred came to its final moment. With Snape's reminders and corrections from time to time, there were no mistakes in the previous work, but now it was just the final step. Mix with the right amount of magic. The medicinal properties of various materials are combined with magical power to finally complete the finished product. This step is also the most difficult. How much magic power is added and the speed of stirring with the wand are all based on experience. Wayne could only control it carefully, neither too fast nor too slow, and relied on his own intuition to operate. Boom! A line of red smoke exploded and quickly spread, occupying the entire office. Snape frowned and waved his wand. Whirlwind sweeps away. The breeze blew away the smoke, and Wayne stopped moving. At this time, the potion of hatred was dark red like blood, and it didn't look like a good thing. Snape came over to check and even put the wand in, saying somewhat dissatisfiedly, "Failed. You have no problem with the previous steps. Why do you need to add so much magic power at the end? It can only be considered barely qualified." In Snape's heart, if a potion is not perfect, it has no value in existence. He waved his wand and disposed of the potion in the crucible as garbage. Wayne Xiaoxiong spread his hands. "Professor, there is nothing I can do. Maybe the right amount of magic power for you should be a small amount for me, right? If you let me cook it again, I will definitely do better." After saying that, he shook his head in disgust. Oh, too much magic power is not a good thing. Hearing Versailles' speech, Snape was so angry that his chest heaved, and he squeezed out 2 words through his teeth. "Get out of class is over." Wayne, who was kicked out of the door, walked in the deserted corridor. He did not intend to go back to the lounge directly, but walked towards the library on the 2nd floor. Snape had just mentioned the names of several books and the potions he needed to brew for the next class. Wayne remembered that there were 2 books in the library, and they were placed in the restricted area. Laodang is really capable. He actually put books that could be bought outside into the restricted area. Arriving at the door of the library, Wayne paused. Is there someone inside? He had traveled so many times at night and met many little wizards in other places. Some go to the kitchen, some go to the 5th floor to play with armor statues, and some go to the tower to fall in love. Some people even went to play Quidditch late at night. But this was the first time I met a little wizard wandering at night in the library. Casting a silencing charm on the door, Wayne pushed it open and walked in. He wanted to see which academy had a young wizard who was so eager to learn. Fred, George. When he saw the 2 figures sneaking around in the forbidden book area, Wayne shouted in surprise. When they heard someone calling their names, the twins jumped up in fright. Just as he was about to run away, he felt that the voice sounded familiar, so Fred asked tentatively, "Wayne, it's me?" Wayne lifted the disillusionment spell as if someone had walked out of the bookshelf. George clutched his chest. "Next time, can you lift the disillusionment spell before speaking? My heart almost jumped out of my chest just now." After saying that, he realized something and looked at the young man in front of him in surprise. "Wait a minute, you even mastered the illusion curse." Wayne tilted his head. "Is it difficult?" The twins fell silent. Never mind, Wayne wouldn't understand their pain. How could Gemini never try this magical skill of traveling at night? In the 2nd grade, they spent a full 2 months learning the disguise charm, but later gave up because it was too difficult. "Why did you 2 think of a night out in the library?" Wayne crossed his arms and asked doubtfully. "It's not because you said those cursed books are in the forbidden book area that we came here." Fred sighed and took out a bulging money bag from his robe pocket and handed it to Wayne, "But you came at the right time. This is the profit from selling the quills, a total of 300 galleons. We took the 30 galleons ourselves, and there were 270 galleons in it. Take it away quickly. We don't dare to put so much money in the dormitory for fear of something going wrong." "Why? Sold so quickly?" Wayne took the bag in surprise. "It's only been 2 days, and you've sold 150 sticks. A proud smile appeared on George's face. "We are the Weasley twins, so it is not easy for us to do this kind of thing." Fred also had a bad smile on his face. "Even Percy was tricked by us into spending a semester's pocket money and bought 2 copying quills. Percy has that much pocket money. He is a model student, 1st in grade, and the bonus and pocket money given by his mother will be much larger. But it's probably about the same." Percy's face was as black as a troll at that time. The 2 of them said something to each other, which made Wayne laugh 3.0. These 2 people are really qualified businessmen, even their own brothers will not be spared. Telling the 2 of them that he would take out some more quills tomorrow and pointing out a few books that would be helpful to them, Wayne also went to find his goal. At 1 o'clock in the morning, the twins couldn't hold it any longer, so they said hello to Wayne and left the library. Another hour later, Wayne left too. He has already copied the contents of several books on parchment with a copy quill, so that he can read them slowly when he returns. Unfortunately, the books here are all enchanted and cannot be copied directly using the copy spell. Otherwise a spell can do it. But it's not a bad thing for Wayne. It was precisely because books could not be easily copied that his copying quills were marketable. For example, Percy spent a few galleons to buy a book, but one quill can copy more than a dozen books, which is why he gritted his teeth and bought two. Back in the dormitory, the two roommates were sleeping soundly, with no intention of being woken up. Wayne used a silencing spell as usual to block Toby's snoring, and then lay down on the bed after washing. The points have once again increased to more than 2,000 points, and it has only been 3 or 4 days since the last time I drew a card. Wayne didn't intend to keep it either, so he started walking straight away as soon as he thought about it. For the first time, there was only one purple in the 10th round, but the reward was good. It was a purple alchemy experience book. After using it, a large number of images of alchemical experiments appeared in Wayne's mind, as if he had experienced it himself. After a full 10 minutes, these images stopped and turned into memories into my mind. Some of the problems that had troubled him were solved. Wayne was a little excited. It seemed like he had pretty good luck today. The second 10 companies also proved that he was indeed very lucky today, with 2 purple cards in this wave. The first one is an advanced magic spell where the curse will stop immediately, and all curses will end. The second one is a skill that comes to this other world. Chapter 62, Silent Fear, Teaching Peeves a Lesson, Biting Cabbage. Silent Fear, Scarecrow Federico's signature skill releases a psychic shock wave, which can make the enemy say the most terrifying scene in their hearts. Isn't this the Scarecrow's cue? Magic that directly affects the mind or even the soul is relatively rare in the wizarding world, and most of them are black magic. For example, the 3 unforgivable curses have a certain relationship with the soul. If classified according to classification, Silent Fear should also be classified into the ranks of black magic. The most important thing is that this magic is invisible and instantaneous, and will not be blocked by the iron armor curse. This is enough to make Wayne happy. However, it is not without its shortcomings. The power of the fear spell is not controlled by the caster, but is judged based on the firmness of the enemy's will. If the enemy is really fearless, then this magic will have no effect. At most, it can only harass and make the enemy upset. But if you meet some cowards, or people who are not mentally strong enough, it will be an absolute miracle. A magic spell can make it lose its resistance and let others slaughter it. Sleep. Having gained a lot, Wayne tucked himself into bed happily. Soon he fell asleep. 11 or 12 years old is the age when the body grows. Although his body has been optimized by the system, he is not very sleep deprived. The next morning, Wayne didn't get up until 8:30. The 2 roommates were even more outrageous. If he hadn't called them up, they would have slept until noon. He came to the cafeteria and handed the quills he had promised last night to the twins, and told them to speed up their learning so that they could make their own magic quills as soon as possible. Wayne ate a hurried breakfast and walked towards the direction of greenhouse number 2. After passing through the atrium garden and arriving at the greenhouse on the east side of the castle, Wayne found that the little wizards were all blocking the door. No one went in, and there were clanking sounds coming from the greenhouse. What happened? Wayne asked Susan Bones in front of him. Wayne, here you are. Peeves is wreaking havoc in the greenhouse, throwing all the shovels and buckets all over the floor. Susan said with some worry. Everyone is afraid of being hit, so we can only solve D3 by coming on behalf of the dean. Pushing through a passage, Wayne arrived at the door. Sure enough, I saw Peeves holding a shovel in one hand and beating the iron bucket around like a quaffle. The harsh clanking sound made many little wizards cover their ears. Unlike ordinary ghosts, Peeves is an extremely special existence. It can even be said that he is not a real ghost. All ghosts were formed by the wizards before their death due to their nostalgia for the world and various mysterious reasons. At least they were once human beings. As for Peeves, he has existed since the beginning of the school and was born together with Hogwarts Castle. There is no prototype character in his lifetime. Another point is that he can touch entities, which other ghosts cannot do. It is not so much a ghost as it is a special spirit formed by the naughty thoughts of the little wizard living in this castle. Peeves, who was having fun, suddenly shivered, and a chill suddenly rose out of thin air. It was as if he was being targeted by Bloody Barrow. Peeves was so frightened that he quickly looked around for Bloody Baylor. Unexpectedly, he did not see Bloody Barrow, but only saw a young wizard looking at him with interest. Peeves was furious. Usually he looks at other young wizards like this, but today he turned against Tiangang. Hey, that kid, what are you looking at? Peeves put his hands on his hips and the hat on his head shook, which was very funny. My name is not Hey, my name is Chu. Wayne answered subconsciously, then realized something was wrong and changed the subject. Peeves, if you continue to be naughty, do you believe I will bring Bloody Barrow here? Hearing Bloody Baron's name, Peeves was really scared, but after taking a look at Wayne's school uniform, he immediately regained his composure. You little Hufflepuff wizard, and Man Barrow has no business with you. If you dare to scare Uncle Peeves, see how I deal with you. With that said, Peeves flew up with the iron bucket filled with fertilizer, preparing to fall down next to Wayne to scare him. He also knows some sense of propriety. If he really pours fertilizer on the little wizard, Dumbledore will come to him. Seeing what this guy was thinking, Wayne also took out his wand, ready to teach Peeves a lesson. He suddenly remembered the magic spell he had drawn last night, and his heart moved. The silent fear is instantaneous, without even the light of the magic spell. Peeves, who originally had a smirk on his face, froze, sweating all over his body, and then screamed loudly. I don't know what scene I saw that could frighten Peeves, who is usually fearless, to such an extent. By the time the effect dissipated, Peeves' look at Wayne had completely changed. Is it your fault? Yeah, Wayne admitted. Do you still want to try again? As he spoke, he pretended to wave the wand again. This frightened Peeves so much that he immediately dropped what he was holding and ran away through the ceiling. Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff's little wizards all cheered, and Padma Patil's eyes gleamed as she looked at Wayne without blinking. With such a good-looking and powerful little wizard, she wanted to drink Ganges water with Wayne. After drinking, it becomes a family. Just when everyone was happy, Professor Sprout also came. After understanding what happened, he patted Wayne on the shoulder happily. Also added 10 points to Hufflepuff. However, the greenhouse has been made a mess by Peeves. Originally, this lesson was to let the little wizards fertilize the evening primrose and prune the leaves. Now I have to change my plan. Sprout thought for a moment and then led everyone to the number 3 greenhouse next door. At the door, she reminded somewhat seriously. The plants here were originally prepared for third-year students, so they are somewhat dangerous. Everyone, please remember that after entering the greenhouse, you cannot touch anything without my permission. Upon hearing such a serious warning, the little wizards nodded obediently. Sprout feels a lot more relieved. Fortunately, there was no Gryffindor in this class, otherwise she would not have dared to bring those ADHD little lions to greenhouse number 3. Everyone followed Sprout obediently into the greenhouse. Then there was a burst of exclamation. What's this? It looks so scary. In the cultivation field closest to the gate, there was a row of strange light yellow plants. After the students came in, their mouths opened and closed, full of sharp teeth. Biting cabbage, stay away from them, children. Sprout reminded, their teeth are so sharp that they can even pierce the skin of a fire dragon. Some little wizards have been so frightened that their faces have turned pale. This is exactly the effect Sprout wants. There are too many dangerous plants in the magical world, and it can become very dangerous if you are full of curiosity about everything. She led everyone to the innermost row of vegetable plots and held up a jar of plants. Does anyone know what this is? In his dean's class, Wayne was more active than other classes and immediately raised his hand after Sprout asked a question. Lawrence, tell me. Sprout called him up cooperatively. Sneezewood is a poisonous plant that can easily cause encephalitis and make people reckless and impatient. It is the main material for making potions and sneezing powder. Very good, very comprehensive. Sprout added another 2 points for Hufflepuff. I hope everyone will remember what Mr. Lawrence said. This grass is poisonous. Don't add it to food randomly because it looks like coriander. Hannah calmly retracted her hand from the sneezewood, pretending as if nothing happened. Sprout obviously knows the virtues of his little wizard, and his first reaction when seeing the plant is to put it in his mouth. Generally there is no risk. She just turns a blind eye and closes one eye. Just go with it and let the little badger have a taste. After all, she is also from this grade. But sneezewood is different. It is more dangerous and can easily damage your brain. Sprout didn't want to see a bunch of giggling little badgers. In order to ensure safety, Sprout was very detailed and even repeated the precautions. Then the students were asked to take out tools to loosen the soil of the sneezewood, apply fertilizer, and apply liquid to accelerate growth. After these materials are grown, some of them will be given to Snape to be used as teaching materials for potions class. The other part is used to sell to the shops in Diagon Alley in exchange for some funds for the school. Sprout specially assigned Wayne to Hannah, so that they could form a team and let him keep an eye on the biggest foodie in the college. Wayne's face twitched as he looked at the tears overflowing from the corner of the girl's mouth. Wake up, girl. This is really inedible. Wayne was very energetic during this class. It was not until Professor Sprout asked everyone to put the tools back in their places before they get out of class ended that he took his eyes away from Hannah. After everyone left, Wayne was left alone again. What's the problem, Lawrence? Professor, can you give me some biting cabbage seeds? Wayne looked at his dean expectantly. I want to refine a batch of steel potions. The seeds of biting cabbage are also a medicinal herb. The steel potion can make the wizard's body become as hard as steel within a certain period of time. Biting cabbage is one of the main ingredients. Really? Sprout was a little confused. You can brew steel potion? You don't want to grow your own biting cabbage, right? This kind of thing is not without a history. Hufflepuff students are all little badgers with a talent for farming, and they often create strange potted plants in their dormitories. When she was in school, someone had a piranha plant in her dormitory. Her roommate would sleep inside the plant every day, and every morning she would worry about whether she would come out alive. Professor, how can you think so? Wayne shook his head like a rattle. What I brewed last night was a potion of hatred, and the steel potion is not difficult at all. Even if I want to grow biting cabbage, there's not enough sunlight in my dormitory. Sprout nodded in agreement. What biting cabbage needs most is sunlight and sufficient humidity. Hufflepuff's dormitory does not have such conditions. After Wayne promised not to grow his own biting cabbage, Sprout gave him a bag of seeds. She trusted Hufflepuff's honesty. After leaving the greenhouse, Wayne immediately divided the seeds of the biting cabbage into 2 parts. One part is used to refine steel potions, and the other part, of course, is used for planting. But he is an honest Hufflepuff, and since he promised the professor, he will never break his promise. So Wayne is going to find Hagrid. The biting cabbage grown by Hagrid has nothing to do with me, Lawrence. Inside the cabin. After hearing Wayne's request, Hagrid waved his hands repeatedly. No, this thing is too dangerous. Yes, why did you plant it? You planted it. Wayne corrected. I just gave you the seeds, and you gave me the ripe, chewy cabbage. The hybrid giant looked at him blankly. What's the difference? Of course. Wayne explained earnestly. I didn't participate in the planting process, so I didn't violate school rules. Hagrid was already confused, but still insisted not to agree. Wayne could only use his ultimate move. Hagrid, you don't want to not be able to see Phoenix King in the future, right? Out of sight, out of sight. Hagrid hesitated for a moment, then maintained his position. His favorite is the powerful magical animal like the fire dragon, the phoenix. It's not enough to defeat 227. If Wayne could really pull out a fire dragon, he would be able to plant a whomping willow, not to mention biting cabbage. Wayne thought for a while and then made a decisive move. Hagrid, you don't want me to beat up Luwei every day from now on, do you? The hybrid giant was shocked. How do you know Luwei? Isn't it just in the corridor on the 4th floor? I communicated with him twice and we got along very well. Wayne blinked. If you don't help, don't rely on me if the dog is kidnapped one day. Now Hagrid was finally scared. He knew that Wayne had a fatal affinity for animals. Every time his hound Yaya saw Wayne, he forgot about him as his owner and would just follow him and wag his tail. When he thought of Wayne stroking his dog, Luwei had an expression of enjoyment on his face and ignored him. Hagrid whimpered. No. In the end, he agreed to Wayne's request and planted biting cabbage on the edge of the Forbidden Forest. If it is planted in a vegetable field, when the biting cabbage grows up, it is estimated that other vegetables in the field will be cleaned, and those steel-like teeth are not meant for use. Fortunately, Hagrid also has a piece of cultivated land in the Forbidden Forest. The area is not large. It is enough to plant a dozen biting cabbage seeds. After burying the seed, Hagrid wiped the sweat from his head. I still don't know why you grow this stuff. It tastes terrible. Wayne looked at the fertile land that had been turned over and nodded with satisfaction. The season is not right now, but it doesn't matter. The world of teachers does not talk about science but magic. With the magic potion, this batch of biting cabbage will mature in 2 or 3 months next year. He can also gain a group of thugs. Hearing Hagrid's doubts, Wayne said without looking back, I'm a Hufflepuff. Is there anything wrong with liking farming? In the next few days, Wayne prepared many potions to speed up growth and went to the edge of the Forbidden Forest to water the fields in the afternoons when he was free. Hagrid also turned a blind eye to Wayne's intrusion into the Forbidden Forest. The two of them are now in cahoots. Wayne also asked Hagrid if he could get a batch of moon-crazy beast excrement to use as fertilizer, and Hagrid agreed. There is indeed a tribe of moon-crazy beasts in the Forbidden Forest. It's just some feces, so it's not a difficult task for him. It's Friday again in a blink of an eye. Quirrell stepped on the bell and walked into the classroom. There was no student in the first 3 rows of the classroom because no one could stand the smell of garlic on Quirrell's body. Quirrell didn't care about this either, silently opened the book and said in a stammering voice, Today, we are going to learn the classification of magic spells. Charms are divided into curses, jinxes, and spells. Thank you Reen for your 1000 point reward, and thank you boss for your support. Chapter 63 The Devil Rises and the Little Badgers Rebel. Quirrell struggled to read the contents of the book. The little wizards have become accustomed to his poor performance. According to Quirrell himself, he was cursed by several dark creatures at the same time, so he had to spend a lot of energy to fight against the curse. Although everyone sympathizes with this, they still feel helpless. Defense against the dark arts was supposed to be the most exciting course, but now it has become like this. Many people have already begun to fish, read extracurricular books, or do homework in other subjects. Regardless of Quirrell, the professor would keep reading the textbook until the bell rang as long as no one interrupted him. Perhaps the only good thing is that he never checks his homework. Wayne's arm rested on the table, supporting his chin. Somewhat worried. Perhaps Quirrell no longer cares about his targeting, or maybe he has repeated a single behavior too many times. Recently, Wayne has been able to gain fewer and fewer points by deliberately making things difficult for Quirrell in class. It's not even as much as going out for a night out. But with such a good score-boosting machine in front of him, Wayne felt uncomfortable if he didn't make good use of it. Seeing that no one was paying attention in class, Wayne breathed a sigh of relief and made a decision in his mind. Professor, Wayne said directly without raising his hand. This is actually very rude, but if you raise your hand, Quirrell will just treat it as invisible. Professor, Wayne shouted again, and Quirrell reluctantly stopped reading. Again, what's the problem, Mr. Lawrence? All the students looked refreshed. I had fun watching it. Do you still remember our agreement? Wayne asked politely. As long as you teach me a powerful spell in this class, I will give you a vial of phoenix tears. The little wizards let out bursts of exclamations. Tears of the phoenix. That's a good thing and can be sold for a lot of money. This. Quirrell was a little moved. He still remembered Voldemort's request. Don't agree to him, it will expose you, idiot. Voldemort's snort sounded in Quirrell's mind. Once Wayne's temptation is successful, what will the other little wizards think? If you don't give good things, you won't teach magic spells? It would be strange if they didn't explode. Even if you want Phoenix's tears, you can't do it this way. After hearing the master's order, Quirrell also said, You are still at the age where you are laying the foundation. There is no benefit in learning powerful spells too early. Wayne was reluctant, but I heard from senior students that you didn't teach any magic in their classes. It's all about studying, but I just changed the book. Quirrell blushed. Teaching, how can you call it studying? Next, there is a series of difficult words to understand, such as what magic spells are dangerous, and to lay the foundation. The students burst into laughter, and the atmosphere inside and outside the classroom was full of joy. Wayne finally mocked. Professor, you didn't buy this position, did you? No wonder Cedric told me that the food at Hogwarts is much better this year. Cedric, who was weeding the devil's ivy in the greenhouse, sneezed and woke up the devil's ivy in an instant. The vines were entangled from all directions. It took him a long time to break free. Cedric was puzzled. Weird, why do I suddenly want to sneeze? In the defense against the dark arts classroom, Quirrell was angry for the first time and deducted 5 points from Hufflepuff. Wayne achieved his goal and no longer struggled. After class, roommate Norman found Wayne in the crowd with confusion. Why do you feel like you're not in a good mood today? It doesn't count. Wayne shook his head. I just think it would be a waste of time to have such a professor. What do you think we can learn this year? Hearing Wayne's words, Norman also felt sad. So far, he has only learned a repel spell by self-study, and what he taught in class is completely useless. Not only Norman, but also many young wizards around showed approval. A girl from Ravenclaw comforted her. Wayne, you don't have to worry too much. I heard that the defense against the dark arts position has a curse. No one has ever been able to work in it for a full year. 1 year. Wayne shook his head regretfully. Hogwarts only lasts 7 years, so 1 year was wasted. We're fine, but those 5th and 7th grade seniors, how big of a loss must they have suffered? After saying that, he left lonely. Wayne's words quickly spread among several colleges. As he said, the 5th and 7th graders were really miserable. The examiners of owls and newts don't care what your professor is like. They will only take assessments according to the requirements of the Ministry of Magic, so now the seniors are a little overwhelmed and can only rely on self-study and talent. But so what? I could only curse a few words behind my back, and then continue reading hard. Night falls. Tomorrow is the weekend, so Hufflepuff's common room is particularly busy. Ahem, everyone. Wayne held his wand to his throat and cast an amplifying spell. At this moment, the eyes of the entire lounge were focused on him. Wayne, what's wrong with you? Cedric asked strangely, not knowing why he was so crazy. Don't interrupt. Wayne glared at him and took out a piece of parchment from his arms. You know how much it costs to buy a loaf of bread. I'm sorry I got the wrong paper. Thunderous laughter erupted in the lounge, and his 2 roommates were laughing so hard. But this also made more people curious about what Wayne wanted to do. So, when he took out the second piece of parchment, the rest room became silent. Everyone is looking at him. Dear Hufflepuff classmates and seniors, I believe everyone knows how important defense against the dark arts is. We have the greatest principal in the world, the most powerful white wizard of this century. We have the most rigorous but also the most competent transfiguration professors. We have the kindest, gentlest herbalist as a professor of herbal medicine. We also have a very patient professor of curses who has won several duels in a row. Of course, we also have a potions professor who, although he has a sharp tongue, doesn't pay attention to personal hygiene, and is overly partial to a certain college. His abilities are unquestionable. However, we only lack a competent defense against the dark arts professor who is willing to teach us real magic. The smiles gradually disappeared from the faces of the little badgers. Cedric's eyes widened and he wanted to stop Wayne from talking anymore, but the boy pushed him back to his seat with a look. Wayne continued his impassioned speech. Now, it is the darkest period in the history of Hogwarts, and we are about to waste a year. In this year, we will not be able to learn anything useful from the defense against the dark arts class, and it will not be able to effectively help us pass the graduation exam. I know that professors are all worthy of respect, but our needs should also be taken seriously. It's been a month since school started, and I can't imagine how much magic everyone will learn to protect themselves after the 1st grade. But I know that our enemy has appeared. He will shake the image of Hogwarts in the hearts of all people, and he will destroy the harmonious campus created by Headmaster Dumbledore. I must do something. Wayne showed a heroic expression. The reason why I am taking up everyone's time today is that I just want to tell you that if I am fired by the principal, I will miss you. Upon hearing that she would be expelled, Hannah couldn't help but stand up. Wayne, what are you going to do? I am going to write a letter of report to the principal to report Professor Quirrell's inaction. Even if I fail, Quirrell will not be in trouble. Wayne showed a bitter smile. By then, everyone may get a new good professor. Wayne, forget it. The little badgers were all moved by Wayne. We can also study by ourselves. Although it is a little slower, we can still learn something. The young man showed a disgusted expression. How many self-taught students does Hufflepuff have? Everyone was stunned. The little badgers usually listen to the lectures in class, but after class, there is really no one studying. Mainly a random one. Don't worry about me. Wayne blew his nose. Tomorrow morning, I will send a report letter to the principal's office. After saying that, he turned around and walked into the men's dormitory passage and went back to the house. A bunch of little badgers were left looking at each other. No one wanted Wayne to be fired, but they couldn't persuade him. Cedric gritted his teeth and said, I'll write a report letter too. With Wayne alone, the principal will be very angry, so I have to help him share some of the burden. The tradition of Hufflepuff is unity. After hearing Cedric's method, everyone nodded. Susan Burns said loudly, plus me, my aunt works at the Ministry of Magic, I can talk to her too. Count me in too. And I. Almost everyone started to respond, took out parchment and quills, and wrote a report letter. Wayne, who was lying on the door and eavesdropping on the goings-on, showed a knowing smile. Early the next morning, all the little badgers are waiting for Wayne to appear in the lounge. Surrounded by his 2 roommates, Wayne finally walked out of the dormitory. Everyone holds new envelopes in their hands. Shocking cheers erupted in the lounge, and then everyone rushed out of the common room. They did not go to their favorite dining hall, but walked directly upstairs. Hundreds of little wizards formed a small torrent. The other college students who saw them were stunned and didn't understand what was happening. Harry, who had just come downstairs, also met Wayne and others. Ronald shivered. Why do I feel murderous? Harry ignored Ronald's complaints and asked in confusion, what are you going to do? Look at this direction, is it going to the 8th floor? What's on the 8th floor? Ronald asked. Harry thought for a long time, and finally took out the map and said with certainty, Principal room. Wayne, is this here? How do we get the letter to the principal? When we arrived on the 8th floor, everyone suddenly became nervous, and their original aggressiveness turned into cautious. They walked very quietly, just like walking at night. Wayne shook his head. No, the principal's office has its own mailbox. We can just put the letter in the mailbox. Hearing what he said, the little badgers breathed a sigh of relief. Arriving at the door of the principal's office, there was still the familiar gargoyle. Perhaps it was because he sensed Wayne's arrival that the gargoyle, which had been sleeping with its eyes closed, suddenly woke up. Huh? It's you, kid. Why are you here so early? Dumbledore probably hasn't gotten up yet. Thank God the password has been changed. It's Lemon Olaf. Say it quickly so I can open the door for you. The little wizard behind made everyone dumbfounded. This guard is really dedicated to his duty. I was afraid that Wayne wouldn't remember the password, so I told him specifically. At this time, the gargoyle stone beast also realized that there were so many people following behind it, and asked with some confusion, what are they here for? I can only make the decision to let you in alone, but not others. No need. Wayne waved his hand. I'm not here to see the principal. I wrote him a letter. Please hand it over to him for me. That's it. The gargoyle stone beast opened its mouth, then let him in. I will remind him later if he enters through the front door. Wayne didn't hesitate and put the letter directly into his mouth. Is this the mailbox? Cedric tugged on Wayne's clothes and whispered in his ear. Well, put your letters in too. After putting them in, we'll go have dinner. Taking courage, Cedric also threw the letter into the stone beast's mouth. You also have a letter for Dumbledore. Wait, what are you going to do? No, hurry up, stop it. It's going to be full. Don't be so rough. Be gentle. Finally, when the last little wizard stuffed the letter into the gargoyle's mouth, he swallowed all the letters with tears in his eyes. My belly is visibly bigger. Thank you for your hard work. Wayne patted his head and said, be sure to remind the principal. After saying that, he ran away with the little badgers. Everyone had an abnormal blush on their faces. It was so exciting. In the history of Hogwarts, there has never been such a grand occasion, where a whole school of young wizards collectively complained against a professor. They are about to be recorded in history. It's a big deal. There are no secrets in Hogwarts. In less than a day, the news that all Hufflepuffs complained about Quirrell spread like a whirlwind throughout the school. When everyone first heard this shocking news, their first reaction was disbelief. However, every Hufflepuff student said so, and many people saw them walking towards the upper floors in the morning. In an instant, the whole school exploded. Hufflepuff has always been the most low-key college, never causing trouble, and other colleges will not provoke them. The sense of existence is extremely thin. Even parents educate their children by saying that if you have no characteristics, you will be assigned to Hufflepuff. Good job, but this time, Hufflepuff did something big that Gryffindor envied, Slytherin laughed at, and Ravenclaw looked at. Dinner time. The atmosphere in the auditorium was extremely strange. There were only a few teachers present at the guest of honor. The positions of Professors Dumbledore, Snape, and Quirrell are all vacant. Sprout was so restless that he held his knife and fork backwards. Pomona. Professor McGonagall sighed, hesitated for a moment and then said, you should have stopped them. Professor Sprout put down the tableware helplessly. Do you think I don't want to? The problem is, I only found out this afternoon. Professor McGonagall's eyelids jumped in shock. They didn't tell you about such a big thing. She couldn't believe this was something Hufflepuff could do. If it were a Gryffindor, she wouldn't be so surprised. Well, in fact, what Professor McGonagall didn't know was that after learning about the feats of the Badgers, the Lion Cubs also took action. How can Hufflepuff be so exclusive in something so public? In one afternoon, the gargoyle had nearly 100 more complaint letters from Gryffindors in its belly. Of course, McGonagall doesn't know this now. She quickly asked Sprout, what's going on? Who caused this? On the side, Professor Flitwick also cast a concerned look. Sprout smiled bitterly. It's Mr. Lawrence. The two professors were stunned. Lawrence. Are today's first-year students already so bold? On Hufflepuff's long table, Wayne was surrounded by a group of people, including Hufflepuff and Gryffindor. The Weasley twins were even more submissive. Wayne, this is so cool. We never dreamed we could play like this. Boom! A figure roughly squeezed through the crowd, came to Wayne, and pulled Wayne out without any explanation. Wow! Cedric exclaimed softly. Not the Gryffindor one, this is Ravenclaw's new seeker. Chapter 64 Wayne, I recommend Snape as defense against the dark arts professor. Boom! Chuyi pressed Wayne against the oak door of the castle, showing such strength that even Wayne was a little surprised. Are you crazy, Wayne? Different from the gentleness in the past, Chu now is more like a cat with explosive hair, with anger and impatience written on his face. Why do you want to be in the limelight? Even if you are reporting, you can do it alone. Why bring anyone else with you? Chu was really angry. She was angry about why Wayne was so reckless. She has received some Eastern education and understands that many British people do not know how to twist and turn. Once something gets serious, the nature of the matter has changed in the eyes of the superiors. Even if what you do is right and you have your own reasons, inciting others is destroying harmony and stability, regardless of the overall situation. What will Dumbledore think of Wayne then? Wayne could clearly see that Chu's eyes even sparkled. My heart trembled. Without saying anything, Wayne raised his arm, and a fallen leaf turned into a tissue, gently wiping the corners of Chu's eyes. The young man's intimate movements made Chu's face blush slightly, but she quickly adjusted it. Don't interrupt. What should we do now? Wayne smiled. Don't worry, Chu. I understand your concerns, but I would not do this if it were a different principal. He raised his head and looked at the tower through the dark night. But the current headmaster is Dumbledore, and he won't be angry. In this world, Wayne is the second person who knows Dumbledore. The first one is imprisoned in Nurmengard Tower. Seeing how confident he was, Chu didn't know what to say. He looked around and then asked, where's Hermione? Such a big thing happened, and she didn't get angry at you. Why not? Wayne smiled bitterly, stretched out his hand and rubbed his waist. It took me a whole class to get Miss Granger to extinguish her anger. It still hurts now. Looking at Wayne's movements, Chu chuckled. Just as she was about to scold him, fire appeared in the air. This time it was not the Phoenix King who flew in, but Fawkes, the phoenix belonging to Dumbledore. Fawkes circled around and landed on Wayne's shoulder. Chirp. You said the principal is looking for me. Wayne nodded, looked at Chu who looked a little pale and comforted. Don't worry, I'll come as soon as I go, nothing will happen. Principal's office. The huge desk was already filled with all kinds of envelopes. Dumbledore was holding a letter, reading it with gusto. It said that I accepted Quirrell's gift money to make him a defense against the dark arts professor. What a pity, old man, I haven't fallen to this level yet. Snape, who was sitting on the other side, sarcastically said, if 600 galleons can make you change your mind, I can fill your office with gold galleons at any time. To be honest, Snape was feeling a little happy now. He has been applying for the defense against the dark arts course for many years, especially after Harry arrived this year. His request for this position became even more urgent. But Dumbledore actually gave it to Quirrell. Well now, the little wizards below are going to rebel. Sorry Severus. Dumbledore read one letter and opened another. Your defense against the dark arts is equally excellent, but the potions class at Hogwarts needs you more. Well, this letter says it well. Quirrell deceived me in some way, but why was it a love potion? Dumbledore put down the letter and showed a relieved smile. I'm glad no one sent a shouting letter. My old bones can't bear the volume. Don't tell me that these are all available. Snape interrupted him irritably. He felt tired every time he chatted with Dumbledore and couldn't get to the point for a long time. What are you going to do about it? Dumbledore looked confused. What to deal with, and who to deal with? Of course it's Wayne Lawrence. Snape raised his voice. Didn't you hear what the fat monk said? With that kind of incitement, cohesion, and his own terrifying magical talent, you are not afraid that he will be the next. Snape took a deep breath. The next Voldemort. The portrait that had been pretending to be dead suddenly came to life, and Phineas Black even shouted. That's right. I support Snape. You dare to complain about the professor and incite so many people to act with him. This is such a deception. Expelled? Must be expelled. If this were the time when I was the principal, I would have fired all the Hufflepuffs. Red-nosed Principal Hufflepuff couldn't bear it anymore and jumped into Phineas' portrait and punched him. Shut up, you idiot. The daily beating of Phineas begins. In order not to be disturbed, Dumbledore waved his hand, and the red curtains covered all the portraits, and the annoying shouts finally disappeared. Severus. Dumbledore put his hands together on the table and leaned forward slightly. A series of oppressive movements took Snape's breath away. Don't judge our student with malice. He is only a first-year wizard. You still think of him as an ordinary first-year student. Snape looked at Dumbledore in disbelief. Don't you see his talent? Multiple, transformations, magic skills that are enough for graduation, and even potions are at the level of Newt's. And that Celia shop that Lawrence was tinkering with made thousands of galleons from my students. Snape looked very excited. If he is an ordinary first-year wizard, what is Potter? Preschool education. I'm very happy that the school has produced a talented little wizard. Dumbledore pushed his eyes with his middle finger, and Snape always felt that the old man was taking the opportunity to hint at him. You are right. Mr. Lawrence is indeed very dazzling. He is more talented than Tom. But you can't make a crude analogy between the two. Dumbledore analyzed Snape carefully. Mr. Lawrence was indeed born in a Muggle family, but his family has a high status among Muggles, and his personality is also very sunny and cheerful, and he has. I remembered what I had investigated about what Wayne did in elementary school. Dumbledore struggled to find a positive adjective. A very fulfilling childhood. His family environment and his intelligence will not let him follow Tom's old path. Even in school, Mr. Lawrence has friends all over the colleges, which goes against Tom's pure blood theory. To be honest, even I am a little envious of such good popularity. Snape didn't say a word, but his expression softened. There was a brief silence in the office, and in the end it was Snape who was the first to lose his composure. So what are you going to do? Just pretend nothing happened. How is that possible? Dumbledore looked at Snape in surprise and pointed at the hill of letters on the table. Such a number of complaint letters have never appeared in the history of Hogwarts. It is very possible that after this incident, I will change from the greatest principal to the most notorious principal, surpassing Phineas. Of course I have to handle it carefully. Of course. He suddenly showed a smile. Before dealing with Quirrell, I have to ask the person involved for advice. Fox, can you help me bring Mr. Lawrence over? It's still the principal's office. Snape has disappeared here, and the person sitting in his original seat has been replaced by Wayne. At this time, Wayne was smiling all over his face, and he couldn't hold back the corners of his mouth no matter how hard he tried. The reason is also very simple. The notification sounds in his mind are almost maxed out. This wave of big rhythm really made him a lot of money. Mr. Lawrence, you seem very happy. Dumbledore asked curiously. Of course. Wayne smiled shyly, seeing that you are not angry, Principal, it means that my punishment should not be too serious. My classmates are also innocent. They are all trying to support me. Please don't punish them. Dumbledore looked at the boy sitting opposite with relief. Mr. Lawrence, you are a true Hufflepuff, and I'm glad the Sorting Hat has noticed the sparkle in you. The Sorting Hat, which had been sitting on the high stool, wanted to say something. I really don't see how he fits Hufflepuff at all. I was completely lured into it. The most important thing is that the little wizard has not yet received the care tools he promised. Hats off, but I think you misunderstood. Dumbledore comforted. I don't have any intention of punishing you or other students. On the contrary, I would like to solemnly apologize to you. Dumbledore said very sincerely, because of my negligence, everyone's magic progress was delayed. I came here to ask you for your opinion. My opinion? Wayne said in surprise. Professor, my opinions are all in the letter. Either Professor Quirrell can teach some useful spells in class, or find a new defense against the dark arts teacher. But, Dumbledore frowned, a little embarrassed. The semester has already begun, and it is too difficult to change teachers rashly. Professor, Wayne talked eloquently. I have also heard about the curse of defense against the dark arts. You find people to die. Well, I mean the class is very difficult. But the school year has already begun. If you change teachers from Christmas, find a substitute, and only teach for half a year, the curse will not take effect, right? Seeing Dumbledore's expression, he continued to strike while the iron was hot. If it doesn't work, you can find a teacher from the school to take over. I recommend Professor Snape. Stop, stop, stop. Dumbledore quickly grabbed Wayne and said, Professor Snape has already worked hard enough, and it is unrealistic to ask him to take over the class. Loudang felt a cold sweat in his heart. This is to send his right-hand man away directly. The same goes for these two people. One of them disliked the little wizard and wanted to punish the other in some way. The other one was even more ruthless and directly made him a professor of defense against the dark arts. There is a saying now circulating in the British wizarding world. If you hate someone, recommend that they teach defense against the dark arts at Hogwarts. Okay, Mr. Lawrence. Dumbledore said softly, "Thank you for the suggestion you just made, it was a great inspiration to me. But firing a teacher is not a simple matter and requires the approval of the board of directors. Usually teachers in this position leave voluntarily." Wayne's mouth twitched slightly. Automatic resignation, what a novel way. "I will have a good chat with Quirrell before deciding which approach to take. For your unity and courage, I will add 50 points to Hufflepuff." Dumbledore comforted Wayne for a moment and then let him leave. Wayne stepped out of the principal's office, and Snape pushed open an invisible door and walked out with a terrifyingly gloomy expression. He heard the conversation between the two just now. Although he also wanted to be a defense against the dark arts professor, Wayne was obviously not here to help him achieve his wish. This kid. Snape thought for a long time and came up with a word that was more extreme than birth. What a dimtang-san? After leaving the office, Wayne walked downstairs at a brisk pace. Chu was still waiting for his news in the auditorium. The auditorium at this time was still overcrowded. They all already know the news that Wayne was taken away by Phoenix, and they are waiting nervously. As soon as he opened the door, countless eyes fell on Wayne. The hall became silent, and even the professors couldn't help but be curious. Wayne didn't hide it. He smiled widely and said the words that everyone was concerned about. "Professor Dumbledore said he would take our opinions seriously and gave Hufflepuff 50 points. Boom! Thunderous applause and excited roars resounded throughout the auditorium, as if the stars on the ceiling were shaken. Everyone hugged the classmates next to them excitedly. Chu finally stopped worrying and looked at Wayne with a smile on his face. Hermione snorted softly, closed the thick book and turned around to leave. She didn't realize that the books had been placed upside down just now. "That's so cool." Ronald's hands turned red as he clapped his hands. He looked at Wayne surrounded by the little badgers and shouted, "It turns out that reporting is really useful. Harry, let's complain to Snape. Get rid of the old bat and our life will be easier." When the little lions around heard Ronald's words, their eyes lit up. "Yes, since complaining about Quirrell is useful, then complaining about Snape is not justified. Let him favor Slytherin every day, and even grab Gryffindor to deduct points. As long as Snape is gone, don't they have hope of winning the Academy Championship?" Now not only Harry's heart was moved, but the other little lions were also eager to try. "Prepare to imitate Hufflepuff and fill the gargoyles at the door of the principal's office tomorrow morning." There were too many people around and it was difficult for Wayne to get away. "I could only briefly talk to Chu and make an appointment to meet at the Black Lake after class tomorrow, but was pulled back to the common room by two roommates." Not only was Wayne not punished for today's action, but he also earned 50 points for the students, which must be celebrated. As a Hufflepuff, it's so easy to celebrate. At the door is the kitchen. Several senior students went in and ordered a lot of snacks and cakes, and asked the elf to go to a broom and buy some butterbeer. "Wayne, here's to you." Pierre, the 7th grade prefect, raised his glass and touched it with Wayne. "Professor Dumbledore wouldn't have said that if you weren't so brave. Finally we can get rid of this fake Professor Quirrell." Pierre's face turned red with excitement, and Wayne smiled and agreed, but he didn't have much confidence in driving Quirrell away. Is it necessary to sacrifice the progress of the young wizard's defense against the dark arts course for a year, or to observe Voldemort's movements right under their noses? Dumbledore's choice was obvious. This is so consistent with what he said. All for the greater good. However, Wayne wouldn't spoil everyone's interest by speaking out. At least in the future, Quirrell must make some changes, otherwise even Dumbledore will not be able to convince the public. The celebration lasted until 11 o'clock, and everyone dispersed one after another. Wayne also returned to the dormitory. Toby and Norman kept asking about the conversation between him and Dumbledore, and Wayne didn't hide it. After hearing that he recommended Snape to be the defense against the dark arts professor, the two quickly turned around. Toby said seriously, "Wayne, how could you do this?" "That's right." Norman was also a little dissatisfied. "How can Professor Snape be a substitute professor? He must attend the entire semester. I suggest that everyone continue to write a joint letter next semester to recommend Snape as the defense against the dark arts professor." Wayne, you are still ruthless. Chapter 65, The Lion Seeking Death, a major system event, the confrontation between the Black and White Devils. In the dead of night, the two roommates had too much energy and kept discussing until very late. How can I get Snape to take over the defense against the dark arts class? After thinking about 7 or 8 ways, I was able to sleep contentedly. Only then did Wayne have time to check the reminder that had been ringing in his mind for the whole day. After the little badgers handed over the letter, several prompts appeared on the system panel. It has been detected that the host is showing its edge, allowing Hogwarts to feel the joy of chaos. The event is being opened. Ding! The setting of the large-scale event, The Power of the Badger Yard, has been completed. The final reward will be comprehensively assessed based on the event's influence and event results. Ding! The chain mission Evil Professor is opened, and rewards will be assessed based on Quirrell's miserableness. Note, The Power of Badger Yard is the first major event that appears after the system upgrade. The final reward is 10 times the critical hit. Please continue to work hard and add luster to the boring world. Wayne has also experienced the so-called big events in the system. Most of his previous points were earned through such big events. Not only are the points rewards generous, but there are also final event rewards. Especially this time, the system generously gave 10 times the critical hit, and the reward was definitely very impressive. Unfortunately, Wayne knew that Quirrell would most likely not leave Hogwarts, which would reduce the reward. Those who are content will always be happy. Thoughts of regret flashed through Wayne's mind and disappeared quickly. He has already made a lot of money with 10 times the critical hit. The second mission was the same as the one given away for free, but in terms of the level of misery, Wayne still had to work hard. I looked at the points on the panel. Things have not yet settled, and the event rewards have not yet been generated, but in just one day, the points have soared by more than 2,000. And it is foreseeable that the impact is still continuing, and there will be another wave tomorrow. Wayne kept the points for the time being and waited until everything was settled before spending them. Indeed, as Wayne expected, the impact of the incident is still unfolding. His operation was like turning on some strange switch. In the morning, the Gryffindor seat was almost empty, and Quirrell did not appear in the Great Hall. It is said that he took a sick leave. Snape led 2 defense against the dark arts classes in high spirits in the morning, and was invited to the principal's office at noon, along with Professor McGonagall. Half an hour later, the 2 of them came out with ugly expressions. Professor McGonagall took a small bottle of potion from the pocket of his robe and poured it into his mouth. Professor Snape, do you need it? This is what Pomfret prepared for me. I drink some when I feel my heart and heartbeat are racing. Thanks, no need. Snape decisively refused and said quietly, if you can control those daring idiots, it will be more effective than any potion. After saying that, Snape went away minding his own business. Professor McGonagall gritted his teeth in anger, but it was not because of Snape, but because of those idiots in his family. They actually reported Snape, not just 2 little wizards, but almost the entire college. Seeing those letters from Dumbledore to him, McGonagall wanted to find a crack in the ground and crawl into them. Can Snape and Quirrell be the same? Not to mention that the other party is the youngest dean in the history of Slytherin, and has very good relations with many pure-blood families. Based on his own potion skills alone, after expelling Snape, can Hogwarts hire another potions professor who can compete with him? This is completely different from Quirrell's professor who has no real materials and can only write books. Because of these reasons, even if they knew that the other party was partial to their own college, all the professors did not take it seriously. So when the Little Lions reported him, they really hit the wall. There were not many points, but 66 points were directly deducted by the extremely vengeful Snape. Why are there parts and holes? Because Gryffindor only had so many points, he deliberately left 5 points to give Professor McGonagall face. Well, there's Potter's Potions class the day after tomorrow, so I guess I can't keep my 5 points. Seeing the almost empty scoreboard, the Little Lions also wanted to cry without tears. Dare you laugh? Hermione pinched Wayne angrily. In her opinion, Wayne was just gloating about his misfortune. If it hadn't been for his bad start, Ian's family wouldn't have written the same letter of report. This guy is simply cheating people to death. Hey, don't do it. Wayne avoided his delicate and smooth hands. No matter how beautiful his hands were, it still hurt when he pinched someone. I'm just happy for you. It's all over anyway. If you don't have desires, you'll be strong. Now even if Snape wants to target you, there's nothing he can do about it, right? Wayne was telling nonsense, but he didn't expect that someone actually believed him. The Weasley twins' eyes lit up, and they laughed weirdly after looking at each other. Looks like we're free, George. Now you can show off your skills, Fred. Hermione was dumbfounded. What kind of college did I get assigned to? No matter what you do, you will be the first to get into trouble. On the 4th floor, in the Defense Against the Dark Arts office, under the shroud of the soundproof barrier, Quirrell trembled on the ground, letting out shrill screams and moans. Master, Siamikey, please forgive me this time. I also followed your arrangements and deliberately hid my clumsiness. Who would have thought that Lawrence was so bold and dared to drag so many people to report me? At this time, Quirrell hated Wayne very much. If it hadn't been for him, he wouldn't have been punished by the Dark Lord, and he wouldn't be like now, like a rat crossing the street, not daring to go anywhere, and could only stay in the office to hide from the limelight. You mean you blame me? Voldemort's murderous voice came from Quirrell's mind. No, Master. Quirrell quickly excused himself. It's all Lawrence's fault. That damn mudblood, he ruined your plan. I only saw your incompetence. Voldemort's face was ferocious, and Quirrell felt the pain all over his body and screamed again. The pain lasted for a long time before it stopped, and sweat had soaked his clothes. I don't care what method you use, get me dragon's blood, mandrake juice, and the venom of the winged demon quickly. What do you want to do? Dumbledore will definitely talk to you, and I have to hide deeper to avoid his detection. Voldemort would never allow himself to leave Hogwarts, he had to get the Philosopher's Stone. After receiving the order, Quirrell did not dare to delay and left the school through the fireplace in the office. After spending all his savings and robbing several dark wizards in Nocturne Alley, he barely scraped together enough money to buy all the materials Voldemort needed. After a night, Quirrell returned to Hogwarts. Not long after, there was a knock on his office door, and Snape's voice came in. Quirrell, I know you're in there and Dumbledore wants to see you. Standing at the door, Snape had a playful expression on his face. He wanted to see how Quirrell would get through this. Will the foxtail be exposed? 2 minutes later, the office door was pushed open, and Quirrell walked out with a calm expression. Let's go, Professor Snape. Seeing his state, Snape frowned slightly. Didn't you say you had a cold? Thank you for your concern, but I bought some medicine yesterday and I'm much better now. Snape looked at him pitifully. If you need potions in the future, just come to me. It's free. No need, I can handle it myself. Quirrell cursed inwardly. If I ask you to get some medicine, who knows if there are any strange things added to it, such as truth serum. Since the beginning of school, Snape has been monitoring his actions overtly or covertly, and he hasn't even found out the specific situation on the 4th floor yet. Therefore, I don't know how many times I was scolded by Voldemort. Quirrell also hated Snape, second only to Wayne. The two came to the 8th floor, took the people there, and Snape left. The gargoyle stone beast received instructions in advance and opened the passage directly without a password. Forced to calm down, Quirrell clenched his fists and walked in. Quirinus, glad to see your cold is gone. Dumbledore was still as approachable as ever, but Quirrell was already on alert. This was his first personal contact with Dumbledore after successfully applying for defense against the dark arts. To be honest, he was a little panicked. What if Dumbledore suddenly explodes and takes him down directly? Even Voldemort's Jinhuriki, in his master's current state, is no match for this white-bearded old man. Took the medicine twice and I feel much better, Professor. Quirrell replied softly, deliberately not looking into those bright eyes. Dumbledore nodded. Then I'm relieved. You must have heard about what happened recently, right? I know everything. Quirrell responded according to the method taught by Voldemort, the curse of ghouls and vampires is constantly eroding my brain. Sometimes my reaction is slower. I'm sorry for the impact this has had on students. Then what are you going to do? Dumbledore followed Quirrell's words and said, the curse of dark creatures is indeed very difficult to deal with, and even I need to deal with it carefully. I sympathize with your situation, but the student's defense against the dark arts cannot be delayed. Quirinus, my suggestion is that you go back and recuperate for a while. Dumbledore filled a cup of hot tea for Quirrell. Other professors can take turns teaching, and it will last for a while, and it won't be too late to come back when you have fully recovered. 0, please give me flowers. Quirrell, of course, heard the implication. If it's still like this, you don't need to take classes anymore. Cursing Wayne again in his heart, Quirrell forced out a smile. Professor, I think it's better not to use it. I am safe inside Hogwarts. You know, I've been avoiding those guys. As for the issue of classes, please don't worry. I will definitely do my best to help the students. Oh, Dumbledore's expression suddenly became much more serious, and he looked at Quirrell. Are you sure? If there are any more complaints, I'm afraid your departure will not be too dignified. I'm sure. Quirrell calmed down, but I still need some help suppressing the curse. Dumbledore was non-committal. What do you want? Snape's potion. No, I need the Tears of Phoenix. Silence fell in the office, and neither of them spoke anymore. Only Fawkes shouted twice in dissatisfaction. Quirrell was sweating in his heart. What he said was all taught by Voldemort. In order to ensure that he could stay at Hogwarts, Voldemort had already fought hard. Isn't it defense against the dark arts? I teach it myself. When he failed to apply for this position, Voldemort has always been resentful about it, and even more so, he hated Dumbledore. Now it can be regarded as a different way to realize the dream. Using the curse as an excuse to let Quirrell's contrast between before and after dispel Dumbledore's suspicion, the only problem was energy consumption. 0. Although he could control Quirrell's body movements, he couldn't do it for long. Voldemort plans to trick Dumbledore into using Phoenix Tears first to respond to the emergency, and then go to the Forbidden Forest to find unicorns and use their blood to restore his strength. Compared with white magic, black magic works faster and is more in line with Voldemort's appetite. In order to completely hide himself, Voldemort had completely fallen into a deep sleep before coming here. Now Quirrell is extremely nervous, wondering whether Dumbledore will agree to this condition. Well, for the sake of your body, I have no choice but to give in to Fawkes. Dumbledore finally spoke, then walked to the phoenix and stroked its feathers. Although Fawkes was dissatisfied, he still squeezed out a small bottle of tears. Then he angrily pointed his butt at Loudang and flew out of the window to play with Wong. It is foreseeable that Fawkes will not give his master a good look recently. Quirrell, who was in tears, left happily and promised that after one more day of rest, normal classes would begin. Not long after, Snape came again. What did you see? Many and very few. Dumbledore turned into the Riddler. Quirrell asked for a bottle of Phoenix Tears, or rather, this was what Tom asked for. Snape's expression changed, and his body twisted unnaturally. Then you gave it to him. I gave it. A wise light flashed in Dumbledore's eyes. If I didn't give it, he would definitely take more drastic methods to achieve his goal. Instead of asking Quirrell to do something we don't know about, let me help him. At least we still have the situation under control. Can't you just arrest the person? Snape clasped his hands irritably. If you give me a bottle of truth serum, I guarantee he will tell you anything. The results are as important as the process. Severus. Dumbledore swept away the tea that Quirrell had left untouched. You can't completely kill Tom. Even capturing Quirrell would just make him hide again. I'm getting old and new people have to step up. In Dumbledore's eyes, today's Tom and Quirrell are just a whetstone, used to sharpen Harry and Wayne. What he has to do is to control the hardness of the whetstone so as not to hurt the knife. Dumbledore had no intention of gathering a trio, he just wanted Harry to have more friends and helpers. This way, at least he would have someone to rely on when he actually faced Voldemort in the future. Wayne is the best candidate in his eyes. If Wayne gets a Gryffindor, things will be much easier. Unfortunately, this little guy seems to have more Hufflepuff qualities. Snape obviously knew what Dumbledore expected of Harry. He didn't want Harry to be involved in the turmoil, but there was nothing he could do about it. What Dumbledore decides is no different from what Voldemort decides, because no one can resist. Looking at Snape's worried expression, Dumbledore chuckled and comforted. Severus, don't think so much. I'm going to bother you with the defense against the dark arts class tomorrow. Let's wait and see what kind of surprises Quirrell can bring. Chapter 66, The Power of the Heart, Bursting with Luck. Legendary Talent? The final decision regarding Quirrell was quickly passed through the major deans to the prefects of each house, who informed the other young wizards. It can be regarded as giving everyone an explanation. Many were disappointed that Quirrell was not fired. But Dumbledore also announced Quirrell's assurance and reasons. There was no other dissatisfaction. Nowadays, Dumbledore's words are still very convincing to the young wizards. After all, he is the most powerful white wizard in the world. The sound of the completion of the event in Wayne's mind also sounded. The big event, the Power of the Badger, ended. Quirrell paid a huge price. Event impact evaluation, good. Reward points plus 500, 10 times critical hit reward has been generated and can be claimed at any time. Wayne, who was taking a transfiguration class, kept his expression unchanged, waved his wand gently, and the apple on the table turned into a teacup. Getting a good evaluation is already a good result, because the sender still stayed at Hogwarts. If he was really fired or died directly, his evaluation would be even higher. 500 points, including the previous points. He gained a total of nearly 4,000 points from this incident, which was close to half of the guarantee. Wayne did not claim the final tenfold critical strike reward immediately. He had to wait until it was quiet at night and find a safe place to pick it up to avoid making any noise. Hermione, hold your hand a little smaller. This is a magic wand, not a baton. Miss Granger glared at Wayne, but still followed his advice and restrained her movements a lot. Mr. Finnegan, don't point your wand at Longbottom. Seeing Professor McGonagall teaching Neville and Seamus, Wayne leaned against Hermione's ear, and his hot breath hit the little witch's fair face. Go to the room of requirement tonight and let me know your recent study progress. Because of the report, Hermione had noticed that his eyes were not his eyes, his nose was not his nose, and his attitude was quite bad these past 2 days. But Wayne knew that it was all because he was worried about him, so he was angry. He planned to find a quiet time in the night to close the relationship between the two of them, and at least to calm Hermione down. The two of them were very close, and a blush appeared on Hermione's face, but she didn't refuse. What time? 10:30, don't come too early. The time given by Wayne made Hermione's face change slightly. Isn't it already curfew? It would be nice if we don't get caught. Wayne said matter-of-factly, Gryffindor's tower is very close there, so don't worry about Filch, he is more used to moving around the 4th floor. In the end Hermione didn't refuse. Her bottom line has been slowly disintegrated. Rather than obeying school rules, she wanted to study with Wayne. Late at night, the room of requirement. Compared to the weekend, Hermione was much better at using the disarming spell. But it's a little soft. Expelliarmus. A ray of red light hit Wayne's wrist, and the wand flew away, but the next second, Wayne just stretched out his hand slightly and took the wand back. Hermione felt a little embarrassed. This power is indeed too small. Be more focused and have fewer distracting thoughts. Wayne saw Hermione's problem at a glance. When casting a spell, no matter whether it is a person or an object for practice, you must treat it as a real enemy every time. This is something you should learn from Harry. He is very talented in fighting and will devote himself wholeheartedly. 11. It wasn't just Voldemort's influence that had the Sorting Hat recommended that Harry enter the Snake House. Let's see. Apart from being reckless, Harry is really suitable for Slytherin. He has a really big temper. I quarreled with Ronald countless times. In the 3rd grade, I blew up my aunt. In the 5th grade, I dared to yell at Loudang and smashed things in the principal's room. In the 6th grade, I even used Shen Feng Wuing directly on Malfoy. Cover up the name, even if you say it's not a little snake, Wayne won't believe it. Hearing Wayne say that she was not as good as Harry, Hermione felt a little dissatisfied and said distressedly, "What you said is too abstract, can you be more specific?" "Forget it, let me demonstrate it to you." Wayne shook his head, stretched out his hand to summon a puppet, and read the spell clearly in the most standard posture. Expelliarmus. In an instant, Hermione felt Wayne's momentum change. The red light hit the puppet and exploded. The stone puppet fell apart and scattered on the ground. "You." The little witch stuttered. Is this a disarming spell?" He was chanting the disarming curse, but he was using the explosive curse, right? Don't worry about these details. Wayne waved his hand. Did you understand what I was in just now? I probably understand. Having seen that change with her own eyes, Hermione naturally understood with her intelligence. Then try it. Wayne recruited another puppet, and this time Hermione showed no mercy, imagining that the puppet was the villain who stole her book, and that the teapot in his hand was her book. Emotions were aroused, red light flew out, the puppet was pushed back nearly 10 meters, and the teapot also flew backwards towards Hermione at a very fast speed. Beautiful. Wayne applauded. That's how it feels. Whether it's a spell, a gesture, or a mental state, it's all a process of strengthening concentration and mobilizing emotions. The combination of the three, and then continuous simplification, is the standard step for learning most magic. In this idealistic world, the strength of wizards is not constant. When the mood comes, ordinary wizards can also explode with impressive power. Just like Jasmine Weasley, is she really objectively stronger than Bella? Obviously not. As Voldemort's right-hand assistant, Bella is very powerful. But in order to protect her family, Jasmine directly used the crushing spell to kill Bella, leaving nothing behind. Hermione nodded happily as she found herself knocking on the door. She started training again, and her progress was very obvious. After another half an hour, Wayne took the initiative to stop and took Hermione back to sleep, who was still unfinished. After sending Hermione to the fat lady, Wayne returned to the room of requirement. System, receive event rewards. Gift package is opening. Congratulations to the host, you have obtained the legendary talent, the Thunder Lord's Decree. Buzz? A simple red stone talisman appeared out of thin air, spinning and flying towards Wayne's eyebrows. At the same time, rumble, rumble, the dark sky was filled with dark clouds, gathering towards the top of the castle. Click. A bolt of lightning tore the world apart, followed by continuous thunder, which was extremely dull. Such a loud noise woke up many little wizards in their sleep. Not knowing what happened, Hermione also jumped out of bed not long after she lay down. Principal's office. The window was wide open, and Dumbledore stood looking out. The thunder continued, and lightning flashed from time to time to illuminate the oppressive night sky. This situation is too abnormal and does not appear to be natural. Fox, has any Thunderbird come to Hogwarts as a guest? As the spirit of birds, Phoenix can also sense other birds. Fox landed on Dumbledore's shoulder and tilted his head. Chirp. Isn't it? Dumbledore murmured softly. He did not feel the existence of magic power from the thunder, so he ruled out the possibility of man-made effects first. After thinking for a long time, he still didn't find any emotion. Loudang shook his head and just regarded it as some strange natural phenomenon and ignored it. The room is filled with requests. Wayne closed his eyes, and the ancient runes disappeared, and his body floated, emitting red light. The red electric arc is like a small snake, lingering around the body. Wayne accepted the huge information brought by the runes. The Thunderlord's Decree. It also has a name. Electrocution. Completely fused with runes, Wayne has established a connection with thunder. Not only has the thunder and lightning magic been greatly improved, but other magic can also be imbued with the power of thunder. Even the body is becoming stronger under the stimulation of thunder and lightning. It can be said that he is now the controller of thunder and lightning. Call. With a casual wave of his hand, lightning exploded, and several stone puppets were blown to pieces. This talent is really too strong. Wayne opened his eyes. System, the reward after Tianbei's critical attack is so expensive. The basic reward is a 97% probability of purple quality and a 3% probability of gold quality. The host is extremely lucky. The original reward was the Golden Talent Thunderbird bloodline. After being amplified, it became the legendary reward Thunderlord's Decree. Seeing the explanation given by the system, Wayne was also filled with emotion. I am destiny? Then he looked at his current panel. Host, Wayne Lawrence. Magic SS+. Charm SS. Defense against dark arts, white magic SSS. Black magic S. Polymorph S+. Potion A+. Alchemy A. Special talents, Memory Palace, Natural Holy Spirit. The power of the patron saint is greatly improved, and the defense against black magic is bonused. Wandless spellcasting. It is easier to master wandless spellcasting skills, and the wandless spellcasting power is improved. Thunderlord's Decree. Controls all things. Thunder. Thunder spells are more powerful and can be attached to other magic spells. Thin ribbon of mana flow. Dynamic perception. Comprehensive evaluation. SS+. Legend. One step away from you. Compared with before, Wayne's magic talent has been upgraded by a small level, and his black magic defense, white magic, has jumped to the SS level. Even black magic has reached S level. Unfortunately, the overall evaluation is still stuck at SS+, and Wayne is not too disappointed. The higher the talent goes, the more obvious the gap becomes. This is the so-called sometimes the gap between people is bigger than that between people and dogs. The system only has talent evaluation, but no strength evaluation. After a while, the system beeped. The strength attribute panel is generated. Hereby remind you that the positioning of strength in the magic world is vague, and the evaluation provided by the system is for reference only. In a real wizard battle, anything can happen. As the voice fell, Wayne's strength panel appeared in front of his eyes. Host, Wayne Lawrence. Magic, 0.8 Snape. Has mastered the spells, Shattering Curse, Shield of Equith, Disarming Curse, Patroness Curse, Unforgivable Curse, omitted. Strength evaluation, Professor level, full talents, / elite aura level, normal strength. System strength classification, student, adult wizard, auror, elite auror, professor, archmage, legend, myth, local. In other places, Wayne has no doubts and thinks this evaluation is reasonable. The two talents of dynamic perception and Thunder Lord still have a great impact on actual combat. With his current physical fitness, even a few professors in the college can't do anything to him, because the magic spell can't hit at all. The only thing that made him feel speechless was this magic power. What the hell is 0.8, a magical version of Kakashi, right? I teach. It's shameless. In the basement, Snape, who was studying the Phoenix King's tears, sneezed. The next day, the little wizards were still discussing the lightning and thunder that happened late yesterday night. There must be a Thunderbird passing by Hufflepuff. A Hufflepuff student said confidently. I once went to Arizona in the United States with my grandfather, and the valley there was exactly the same as the thunder and lightning last night. I heard that Dumbledore is practicing magic. Another young wizard had a different opinion. A Ravenclaw retorted, impossible, how could there be such a terrifying weather spell? Maybe it's some other powerful magic. Wayne listened to their discussion and drank his oatmeal silently, with no intention of participating. After hearing what happened last night, he knew that it was most likely his own fault. Unexpectedly, hiding in the room of requirement would trigger strange phenomena in the outside world. It seems that he must be more careful when drawing cards in the future, as he has to go there every time to draw. Thinking back to his recklessness in drawing cards in the dormitory, Wayne was a little lucky. Fortunately, he didn't get the talent of Thunderlord's Decree. Otherwise, he would have to send Toby and Norman into oblivion. His two roommates, on the other hand, looked confused. What are you talking about? Did it thunder last night? Justin Finch-Fletchley looked at Toby doubtfully. Didn't you hear that? No. Toby said blankly. It was done when I woke up. I didn't know anything about thunder and lightning. Norman also echoed. Me too. I don't feel it at all. How about you, Wayne? I did see it, but it disappeared after a while and went back to sleep. Wayne buried his head lower. In order to let his two roommates sleep more soundly, he added 2 drops of living hell decoction, which is the water of life and death, to their bedtime drinks. This is a powerful sleeping pill. There is no difference between falling asleep and dying. But Wayne controlled the dosage, and 2 drops gave Norman and Toby just 8 hours of sleep. As class approached, we stopped discussing it. The little badgers went to the defense against the dark arts classroom on the 3rd floor. Coincidentally, the last class Quirrell attended before being reported was their class. The first class after returning from sick leave this time was still their class. Many people were looking at Wayne. If Wayne is still not satisfied, will he continue to complain? Wayne, who was sitting at 1.0 by the window in the classroom, said helplessly, don't look at me, I won't deliberately cause trouble for the professor. Hehe. Hannah smiled happily. Wayne, if you still want to complain, you must call everyone. Everyone nodded in unison. Feelings are addictive. The school bell rang, and Quirrell walked in, looking no different from usual, wearing the same wide turban and smelling of garlic. This disappointed the little wizards. The classroom became slightly noisy. Since class is already in session, don't discuss irrelevant matters. Shockingly, Quirrell stopped stuttering and raised his head instead of looking at the book. I'm sorry to have delayed everyone's time for a month due to my personal health. But with Dumbledore's help, I feel better now. Let the class begin. The classroom became silent. Everyone found that Quirrell was really different. Wayne also sat up slightly and looked at him carefully. Quirrell rarely opened the curtains, letting the sunlight shine into the room, and said in a calm voice, if you want to learn defense against the dark arts, you must understand why we need to learn this type of magic. Is it for defense? Yes and no. Learn defense against the dark arts and you can use magic to protect yourself from dark wizards and black magic. But essentially, it's an offensive discipline. Da-da-da. The wand was tapped on the blackboard, and 3 words appeared on it. Defense, counterattack, defeat the enemy. In just a few words, all the little wizards were attracted by Quirrell's words, which contained an unspeakable charm. Wayne understands that with such ability, there is no such grace. Then the person who is giving the lecture can only be Tom. Chapter 67, Voldemort's personal disciple, Azkaban per capita. Quirrell's mind has become delirious due to Voldemort's stay, so letting him come to class would risk exposure. In order to stay at Hogwarts, Voldemort really spent a lot of money. Although he is only giving lectures now, he has not used magic power. But for a remnant soul who struggled to speak even a few words, it was also a heavy load. Normally, when nothing happens, Voldemort stays in deep sleep to reduce energy consumption. Fortunately, Quirrell's small treasury has been emptied by him, in exchange for a lot of precious materials, as well as the phoenix tears given by Dumbledore. This allowed Voldemort to regain some strength, so it shouldn't be a problem to survive this period of time. Defense is the core of everything. Quirrell, or Voldemort, is a model of doing what he does and loving what he does. Since he is the one giving the lecture, he is not allowed to be perfunctory. If word spreads, wouldn't it mean losing the Dark Lord's face? In keeping with Quirrell's character as much as possible, Voldemort pulled out a lot of real stuff. Stay alive, this is the most important thing to consider when facing danger. The so-called defense does not only use magic spells to resolve the enemy's attacks. Evasion, even escape, is part of defense. Mr. Lawrence. Quirrell suddenly called Wayne's name and asked, if a dark wizard stops you, what is the most correct course of action? Wayne stood up calmly and said, analyze the opponent's purpose, compare the strength gap, and if you have to fight, then go all out. A look of appreciation flashed in Voldemort's eyes. He did hate Wayne, because it was Wayne who had pushed him to this point, where he had to risk being in the front office. But he will not deny a person's talent because of personal grudges. Only by facing up to the strength of your enemies and defeating them can you show your extraordinary strength. Voldemort did the same thing. He did not hesitate to show Potter's specialness, even calling him the boy who lived, just to prove it. He can defeat the so-called chosen one and break the shackles of fate. Although it failed in the end, because he didn't know Wayne's specific strength. In Voldemort's eyes, Wayne today was far from the level of an enemy, but this did not hinder his appreciation. 03 Reason, talent, means, charm. Everything is top-notch. There is a bit of his demeanor back then. That's very correct, Mr. Lawrence. Quirrell asked Wayne to sit down. Before fighting, you must understand why you are fighting. To survive, to defeat the enemy, or... The corners of Voldemort's mouth raised slightly, but quickly disappeared and he stopped talking. Wayne looked at the little wizards who had been completely attracted by what Voldemort said and felt very subtle. What do they think? Voldemort's personal disciples, all Azkaban reserves? But one thing is for sure, Dumbledore's vision is indeed poor. With this teaching level, my application for defense against the dark arts was rejected. The things Voldemort talked about did not contain any specific magical knowledge, but they were extremely crucial. It can't be compared to just learning a few magic spells. To develop students' basic understanding of defense against the dark arts and even the use of black magic. Tall buildings rise from the ground, and if your mentality and spirit are strong, you will get twice the result with half the effort in whatever you do. Just as Wayne taught Hermione, with focused thinking and a clear purpose, the success rate of spellcasting will be greatly improved. Very well said. Even he listened. No wonder so many people followed Voldemort back then. The definition of defense is clear and battle is inevitable, so we must gain the initiative and suppress the enemy. Having the initiative, you can advance or retreat. If you advance, you can subdue the enemy. If you retreat, you can protect yourself. If you want to suppress the enemy, you must rely not only on powerful magic, but also on wisdom and experience. With one look or movement, you can observe the enemy's intentions and the magic he is preparing to release. 27. It wasn't until the bell rang that the lecture stopped abruptly. Voldemort drank water calmly and assigned homework. A 2-foot treatise on how to stay calm in battle and judge the enemy's movements through movement. Get out of class is over. The little wizards woke up from a dream, and there was thunderous applause from the podium. Their excited shouts were enough to lift the ceiling and could be heard in classrooms far away. Marvelous. Professor, is this your true level? Everyone was so happy that there was no magic spell in the whole class, but they learned something more precious than the magic spell. The only thing that makes them sad is 2 feet of paper. Are you sure this isn't killing them? Converted, that's 60 centimeters? They walked out of the classroom still unfinished, and some students were already looking forward to the next defense against the dark arts class. Mr. Lawrence, please stay. Wayne was walking among the crowd, but was suddenly stopped. The little badgers thought that because of the previous complaint, Quirrell was going to settle a score with Wayne, so they protected him. This is a good lesson, but little badgers will never abandon their friends. Don't get me wrong. Quirrell also guessed what they were thinking. I just have something I want to talk to Lawrence about. Wayne also advised, it's okay, Professor Quirrell won't do anything to me. He said this, but the magic wand was already in his hand inside the wide-sleeve robe, and the dynamic perception was turned on quietly. As long as Voldemort dares to take action, he will definitely react immediately. Wayne would treat an old man with limited health with caution, but he would never be afraid. After hearing what Wayne said, everyone had no choice but to leave. Soon, only Wayne and Quirrell were left in the classroom. Lawrence, although I didn't teach specific spells in this class, it can barely be said to be qualified. Quirrell's attitude was very gentle. I wonder if you can give me some phoenix tears. My curse is not completely cured yet. Professor, how about I teach you the magic spell in the next class? Weiss said with a smile. Brat, sooner or later, I will flatter you one day. Voldemort cursed inwardly, his expression unchanged, and he pulled out a piece of paper. This is a magic I got while exploring the ruins. It's so powerful that even I haven't mastered it myself. Do you think it's enough? Wayne took it and looked at it. Thundernet, made of lightning threads and woven into a net, can not only effectively control the enemy, but also has considerable lethality after being touched. If you feel really sleepy, just use the pillow. I just drew Lord Thunder's decree last night, and today Voldemort sent me a thunder spell. Wayne put the spell away with a smile. Thank you, Professor. Wayne would not learn rashly, he was going to let Dumbledore inspect the goods first. At first glance, there was nothing wrong with the spell, but who knew what pit Voldemort had buried in it? His strength is not what it used to be, but in terms of magical attainments, Voldemort is far ahead. After receiving the benefits, Wayne also shed tears happily. Quirrell quickly took it, fearing that Wayne would regret it, but his expression soon changed. Aren't these the tears of your phoenix? No. Wayne said happily, recently, my Feng Wang has suffered from trachoma and can't shed tears. These are Fox's tears. They are both phoenixes. There should be no difference, right? From the beginning to the end, Wayne never thought about giving the Phoenix King's tears to Voldemort. Recently, Fox has become the younger brother of King Fang. I don't want it to be too easy to shed tears. Goddamn Phoenix got trachoma. Why didn't you say that your Phoenix has become angry recently? Voldemort gritted his teeth, fearing that he could not help but pull out his wand and give Wayne 2 melons to gnaw on. Professor. Wayne observed him, looking at you, you don't seem satisfied. Why don't you return your tears to me, and when King Fang recovers, I'll collect some for you? No need. Voldemort took a deep breath. If he returned it, who knew how long Wayne could delay it? By then, even Fox's tears wouldn't fall. Let's use it like this for now. If your Phoenix is good, it won't be too late to trade with me. I have other high-level magic. Voldemort could only continue to lure, and Wayne nodded. Without leaving in a hurry, he asked a few more questions. While Voldemort is here, how can I wait until now if I don't pluck out the wool? 15 minutes later, Wayne left the defense against the dark arts classroom with satisfaction and came to the auditorium to eat. When he sat down, a line of words appeared on the plate out of thin air. Lawrence, would you mind drinking tea with a lonely old man? I will be waiting for your arrival in the office after class. 27. After Wayne read it twice, the handwriting slowly disappeared, as if it had never appeared. Looking up, Dumbledore at the guest of honor winked at him mischievously. Wayne understood and nodded gently. I don't know what kind of medicine Lao Dang sells in his gourd, which is so mysterious. Wayne agreed anyway. Originally, he was planning to take Shu and Hermione to the edge of the Forbidden Forest to see the biting cabbage. This time I have to postpone it for a while. After eating and talking to the 2 girls, they were very envious. Having afternoon tea with the principal was an honor they didn't know anyone other than Wayne had had. You just think too highly of Dumbledore. Wayne smiled. Calm down, he is just a lively old man's son. Autumn rolled her eyes. That was Dumbledore, the great wizard who appeared in various textbooks and historical records. He is the greatest white wizard of this century. Who can treat it with a normal heart? Potions class in the afternoon. Snape arranged the content of this lesson with a gloomy face. In the morning, Gryffindor's score was finally cleared, but Snape's anger still had not been completely vented. When he saw Wayne, he would think of what this kid said to Dumbledore in the headmaster's office. The materials are placed in the wrong order. 5 points will be deducted from Hufflepuff. Wayne talked nonchalantly about Toad Bile and Puff Down changing places. Deductions were equal to bonus points, and he wished Snape would be cruel and deduct hundreds of points from him. Lawrence. Snape said in a voice that could only belong to the 2 of them. You gave Ho-Oh's tears to Quirrell. He only found out what happened in the morning when he overheard the little badgers chatting before going to class. Wayne blinked with an innocent expression. Feng Wang recently got trachoma, so I gave him Fox's. Puff. Snape couldn't help laughing, and Hannah thought she had heard wrongly and looked up at him in surprise. Look what I'm doing, setting up a crucible. Lawrence, watch your bottle. 5 points from Hufflepuff. Snape changed his face at the speed of light, and walked away to another place after scolding. Hannah was speechless, and Wayne quickly comforted her, and then raised his middle finger at Snape's back. After getting out of class after deducting 20 points, Wayne went straight to the 8th floor without any delay. Building principal's office. Lemon. Before the command was finished, the gargoyle stone beast gave way to the passage. Go away quickly, I don't want to see you. I almost died from the letter 2 days ago. Wayne smiled and patted the dog's head and walked into the office. A dessert tower has been placed on the desk, and the exquisite teacups are steaming. Professor. Wayne was not polite and sat directly opposite Dumbledore. He said hello, took a bite of the cheesecake, and drank a sip of black tea. It was very comfortable. Dumbledore's eyes were full of smiles as he watched Wayne enjoy the food. He also enjoys the feeling of getting along with students. It's just that everyone respects him a little too much and seems particularly reserved in front of him. Only Wayne really thinks of him as an ordinary old man. After a piece of cake and a cup of black tea, Wayne also regained a lot of energy. Professor, why did you ask me to come? He also knew in his heart that this was definitely not a simple afternoon tea. Oh, by the way, Wayne slapped his head and said belatedly, please wait for your business. This is the spell Professor 390 Quirrell gave me this morning. I can't understand it. Can you help me? Shall I take a look? Wayne made an excuse at random, but he couldn't be the one to see that there was something wrong with Quirrell. After hearing his words, Dumbledore straightened up and looked at the spell recorded on the parchment. About 10 minutes later, he suddenly picked up the wand beside him and chanted a spell. Zhyla? A small thunder net appeared in midair and quickly dissipated. Dumbledore then smiled and handed the parchment back to Wayne. There's nothing wrong with this spell. It's a good spell. There are very few thunder spells in existence. Quirrell should have found it from some ruins. With your talent, you can get started quickly. Then, Dumbledore explained his understanding and some techniques. Wayne listened very carefully, and as expected of Dumbledore, he figured out a lot of tricks in such a short time. Wayne quickly successfully cast the spell. In order to keep a trump card, he also deliberately suppressed Lord Thunder's decree. Even if this is the case, it is enough to make Billaduo amazed. Mr. Lawrence, you are the most outstanding student I have ever seen, and perhaps the most outstanding student the school has ever had. This sentence was once used by him to evaluate Voldemort, but in front of Wayne, Voldemort seemed to be eclipsed. Professor, you're flattered. Wayne bowed his head shyly. At least compared to you, I'm far behind. In terms of white magic, Wayne is confident that his talent has surpassed that of Loudang. But when it comes to black magic, the old man in front of him is not the kind of wizard who only knows white magic. His talent for black magic is not inferior to white magic. This is the master of dark magic recognized by the first Dark Lord Grindelwald. After a business exchange, taking advantage of Dumbledore's good mood, Wayne asked a lot of questions. Voldemort tutored me in the morning, and Dumbledore gave me some tutoring in the afternoon. 2 devil-level teachers, Wayne is like a hungry sponge, absorbing their knowledge and experience. After a full class period, he remembered that Hermione and Chu were still waiting for him, so he took the initiative to bring the topic back on track. Is such that Dumbledore talked about why he asked Wayne to come. You gave me some of Phoenix King's feathers before, which are very different from fox. I'm not an expert on magical beasts, so I sent one to an old friend of mine. He has considerable research on magical animals, and it would not be an exaggeration to call him the best. I received a reply today. He was also very surprised. He also wrote a letter to you and asked me to deliver it to you, Dumbledore said, placing a letter in front of Wayne. After listening to his story, even if he didn't say his name, Wayne also guessed who the old friend he was talking about was. Pokemon Master. Nonsense. Expert of magical animals, legend of Hufflepuff Academy, and the man hated by the first-generation Dark Lord. Newt Scamander. Chapter 68 Newt's Letter, Unexpected Surprise. Speaking of Newt, this name is definitely one of the most familiar to all little wizards. Not just Hufflepuff, but students from other houses as well. The book Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them has become one of the best-selling books in the world, in the wizarding world. It is not only the designated book for the magical beasts courses in all magic schools, but also the bedtime reading for many young wizards. His research has had a profound impact on the entire magical world. Before Newt, magical animals also existed, but no one had ever proposed the concept of protection. It was his own research bit by bit, going deep into various parts of the world, saving all kinds of endangered magical animals, and making the world more colorful. Poison-horned beast, horned camel beast, soundless bird, poisonous leopard. These creatures, which were almost extinct at the time, reproduced their offspring with Newt's help, and their populations gradually grew. Many of the magical animals in the Forbidden Forest were sent by Newt later. In Hufflepuff, Newt is the idol of almost all the little badgers. It was he who added another tag to Hufflepuff. In addition to herbalism and food magic, Hufflepuff is also good at dealing with magical animals. In addition, Newt also played a great role during the Wizarding War. Apart from Grindelwald and Dumbledore, he is the most famous wizard. He has thwarted Grindelwald's plot several times and is one of the people he hates the most. It's exactly the protagonist template. In the final battle, Dumbledore defeated Grindelwald, and Newt returned to the United States and settled in New York with Aurortina, where they remain until now. Wayne did not hesitate and opened the letter in front of Dumbledore and read it. To Mr. Wayne Lawrence. Hello, I'm Newt Scamander, a former Hufflepuff. I'm glad that a genius like you has appeared in the school. I always firmly believe that Hufflepuff is the most perfect school. A few days ago, I received feathers and some excrement from Dumbledore. What I find incredible is that your phoenix is so special, even more so than Fox. A bunch of academic speeches follow. If possible, could you please give me some research materials? Also, I will return to Europe during the summer vacation. Would you be lucky enough to visit me? Your loyal Hufflepuff Senior, Newt Scamander. The letter was very long, and the words were filled with Newt's deep curiosity about the Phoenix King, as well as a bunch of precautions for taking care of the Phoenix. It is completely impossible to tell that this is a letter written by a real social worker. Professor. Wayne looked up. How should I reply to Senior Newt? Dumbledore's smile froze for a moment. Although there is nothing wrong with calling him that, he is indeed your senior in theory. But Newt is almost 100 years old. Dumbledore took out a piece of parchment, wrote Newt's address on it, and left a mark with his wand. Just send the letter to this address. Remember to leave this mark, otherwise Newt won't receive it. He is quite introverted. He is afraid that book fans will come to visit him. Oh, and there are some old friends who also miss him. Old friend. It must be the group of saints under Grindelwald back then. Wayne cursed. After putting away the letters and parchment, Wayne and Dumbledore said goodbye and left the principal's office and headed to the library. Cho and Hermione were waiting for him there, doing some homework. When the three of them walked out of the castle, Hermione asked casually, "What did you and Dumbledore talk about?" Wayne told the truth. "It's nothing. Newt Scamander wrote me a letter and asked Dumbledore to deliver it." "Oh," Hermione responded subconsciously. He immediately stopped. Scamander, such a familiar last name. Who? Her eyes widened. Newt Scamander? The Scamander who wrote Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Yes, that's him. Wayne looked at her doubtfully, not understanding why Hermione had such a big reaction. Autumn was also surprised. Newt Scamander actually wrote to you. That's the author of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Hermione screamed, holding Wayne's finger in excitement. What does the letter say? Why does he know you? Can you get me a signature? This look is no different from a star-chasing muggle. After being pestered with so many questions, Wayne simply took out the letter and showed it to the two of them. There is nothing shameful on it. When she saw that Newt actually said he was coming to visit Wayne, Hermione was so excited that her face turned red, and Chu didn't give in too much. Only then did Wayne realize how high Newt was in the wizarding world. "Wayne, can I come and see Mr. Scamander when he comes?" Hermione asked expectantly. Chu didn't say anything, but her beautiful eyes were staring at the boy. "No problem." Wayne agreed. "I will write to Newt and let you know when the specific date is set." The two women cheered in unison. The three of them walked all the way to Hagrid's farmland on the edge of the Forbidden Forest. After a period of growth and ripening with magic potion, the biting cabbage has barely grown into its mature shape. But they looked particularly peaceful. Wayne broke open a biting cabbage and looked at it, and found that their teeth hadn't grown out yet. Wayne, why are you growing biting cabbage? Hermione was too lazy to care about his violation of school rules. Wayne is much smarter than her, and even if he breaks school rules, he won't leave any clues. Now Hermione has gradually become a qualified Gryffindor. If you haven't been caught, you haven't violated it. First, I want to taste it, and second, I want to use it against the enemy. When the time comes and a dozen biting cabbages are thrown out, the enemy will not be able to escape. Hermione looked unconcerned. This is Hogwarts, the safest place in the world. With Dumbledore here, there won't be any enemies. You have to be careful and don't hurt yourself. Wayne opened his mouth. The safest place. Well, I hope you can still say this after everything happens. As Professor Sprout's proud disciple, and with a brand that goes deep into his soul, Wayne is also very talented in farming. With two little witches, they loosened the soil, fertilized the biting cabbage, and finally cast a spell to drive away the beasts, and then the work was completed. You just brought us here to work as free labor. Chew complained as he wiped the sweat from his forehead. Her robe was dirty from farming just now, and Hermione turned into a little cat with dirt on her face. Don't say that. Wayne smiled and said, I'll give you some biting cabbage as reward. I do not want it. I don't want it either. Both women are a little disgusted. Biting cabbage is ugly and fierce, and only Wayne likes it. Wayne asked again, what do you want? Hermione thought for a while. Just a few bottles of the potion from last time. I think it's quite useful. What potion? Chew became curious. It's just an ordinary refreshing potion. I gave it to her after teaching her the magic spell that time. You're still teaching Hermione spells. Chew looked at him dissatisfied. Why don't you teach me? Wayne shrugged. You usually have to participate in Quidditch training, and you are already very tired. Chew still refused. I don't care. I still want to participate. Wayne had no choice but to agree. Having received the benefit, Hermione and Chew let Wayne go. Late at night, sitting at his desk, Wayne was writing a letter to Newt. He was also very interested in this senior, who was simply the Harry Potter of the previous era. Moreover, the other party's professionalism in the field of magical animals is worthy of his admiration. The most important thing is, Wayne has taken a liking to Newt's box. He has indeed mastered the traceless stretching spell, and has even practiced it to an advanced level. Several pockets are no smaller than this summer house. But if you want to make a box that can be carried around in the Forbidden Forest, there are still too many differences. Newt's box is not only a traceless stretching spell, but also involves various alchemical issues such as space fixation and magic power conversion. It is an extremely clever alchemical product. That is Scamander's unique heritage, a secret that is not passed down from a pure-blood family. Newt's brother became the head of the Auror office at a young age. Even though Newt was expelled from school, his mastery of magic was not weak and he was able to defeat Grindelwald in 2 ways. The reason why he was not included in the ranks of the 28 sacred families was purely due to personal grudges. According to rumors, Newt did not have a good relationship with Cantankerous Knot, who wrote the Pure Blood Directory, and was very disgusted with the other person's behavior of cheering for the Pure Blood family. That's why they were deliberately excluded. Wayne doesn't have the ability to make this kind of suitcase for the time being, so he plans to trade one with Newt. The worst that can happen is sacrificing the Phoenix King's appearance. But he will definitely not mention it right away. He will first write a letter to get closer and then slowly deceive him. During Christmas, Wayne plans to go to the United States, so just let him know when he comes to visit. Not specifically for Newt, Wayne had other things to deal with. This year is a very special year. A shocking event will happen on Christmas Day. A huge thing will collapse, and countless people will eat it with their mouths full of oil. Even after entering the magical world, Wayne would not give up on the wealth at his fingertips. He has also recently written to his Uncle Humphrey and made some arrangements. Just wait until the time comes to join this gluttonous feast. Time has entered October, and it has suddenly become much faster. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. As the temperature gradually gets colder, the little wizards become listless and are about to enter hibernation. But the professors didn't care about this and suddenly increased the workload. The first month of school is just for everyone to adapt and slow down from the summer vacation, so the progress of many courses is not fast. When October comes, professors start to get more intense. In the Transfiguration class, Professor McGonagall severely scolded the little wizards who couldn't even turn toothpicks into needles, and gave them separate homework. Ronald was on the verge of tears. The other little wizards were not too relaxed. With a preliminary concept of magic, Professor McGonagall began to let everyone transform from living things to dead things. Resisting their disgust at earthworms, the little wizards waved their magic wands. There are no specific requirements. As long as it becomes a living creature, it will be considered a success. With a green face, Hermione asked Professor McGonagall to apply for a mouse. She would rather double the difficulty than face earthworms. Most of the other courses are similar. The assignments assigned by the professors are becoming more and more arduous, and the little wizards are everywhere. Wayne became the envy of everyone because he was exempted from charms, transfiguration and potions homework. Some young wizards also tried to negotiate terms with several professors, and Flitwick announced the terms with a smile. If anyone could finish the wardrobe, just dance a tango and you won't have to do homework this year. Unfortunately, no one succeeded. Professor McGonagall's condition is also very simple, that is, just like her first class, just turn the podium into a fat pig. As for Snape, no one is willing to die to negotiate terms with Snape. Not even the Slytherin snakes dared. Many people have secretly asked Wayne how he got Snape to agree not to hand in his homework. He always claimed that his talent impressed the professor and there was no need to waste any more time. Few people believed it, and they didn't know that Snape disliked Harry as much as Wayne. He only told the truth when the little witch Hermione and Chew asked. I gave another bottle of Phoenix King's tears. You actually bribed the professor. Hermione was shocked. This is the way the world is. Wayne patted her shoulder and walked away. There is more homework, which has many benefits for Wayne. First of all, he doesn't have to write most of the time. When others are rushing to catch up on homework, he can sit aside and enjoy cakes and desserts, which directly doubles the pleasure. In addition, the business of Celia's store has been getting better and better recently, and people come to buy various quills every day. The latest quills are made by Fred George, who have managed to get the hang of it, but the quality is so poor that they only sell for a galleon. But they couldn't stand it anymore. Fred and George were so happy that they spent a lot of money at Zuko's joke shop. With Wayne's newly added refreshing potions, sleeping potions, and a series of other products, the little wizard's wallet has been squeezed out. On this day, Wayne, Qianyuo Zhao, was having dinner in the auditorium, listening to Cedric complaining about Quirrell opposite. I don't know if he's crazy or if the world has changed. I have to write 2-foot-long papers every week. I almost don't have time to practice Quidditch. Cedric was talking about Quirrell, and he was the only one who kept homework so crazy. Wayne sometimes wondered whether Voldemort was giving them back to them twice as much because he was tortured by homework during school. The homework in one class is worth the weight of the other 3. But because Voldemort taught so well, he conquered all the students in the 7 grades of the school. So everyone just complained and didn't react too violently. The only pity is that Quirrell claimed that due to the curse, his brain is still severely damaged and he will have seizures from time to time. So sometimes, even if you say something nice, you suddenly start to get sick, just as submissive as before. Nowadays, people give nicknames to gods and ghosts. Everyone hopes that they meet God Quirrell in class instead of psychotic Quirrell. You can buy 2 bullshit quills. Wayne reminded Cedric, covering his wallet warily. You won't even let me go. I would rather break my hand than save money to buy Nimbus 2001. Business has been good recently, and Cedric and the twins have also received a lot of money. He immediately set his sights on the new broom that will be released next year. Because he had hope, he became even more reluctant to spend money than before. He only brought things for Wayne when he went to Hogsmeade, and never bought a country for himself. Wayne also obeyed this miser and said nothing more. While the two were chatting and spanking, there was a sudden commotion at Ravenclaw's long table, and some people hurriedly walked out. However, they didn't pay attention and continued to chat about some issues related to the art of disguise. After a while, those Ravenclaws who went out came back. Soon, the cause of the commotion reached Hufflepuff. Wayne's expression changed. Chapter 69 Hermione, Chew, are you still alive? The unicorn's request for help. He was injured during Ravenclaw's Quidditch training just now. There was no malicious injury, and no one was targeting Chew. She fell off the broomstick flying at full speed while completing a difficult move. The injury was quite serious and he has been sent to the school doctor's office. I'll go take a look first, and you can go back to the lounge by yourself. After figuring out the situation, Wayne spoke to Cedric and hurried to the school doctor's office. Looking at his back, Cedric shook his head. Tisk, this is the most beautiful girl in the 2nd grade. Since what Wayne said last time, Cedric has also started to have sexual feelings and wants to find a girlfriend quickly to avoid having to take over in the future. It's a pity that after a long time of picking, there was nothing that caught my eye. Ravenclaw does have a few good seniors, but unfortunately they already have owners. On the other hand, Wayne, forget it, don't look back, it's too annoying. Cedric tapped the table with his wand resentfully. Give me a glass of lemon juice. 2nd floor, infirmary. After a series of examinations, Madame Pomfrey took out a bottle of potion with an unknown smell and poured it into Chew's mouth, then asked her to lie down and have a good rest. Then he said to the group of people around him, the problem is not serious, just 3 broken ribs, a broken wrist, and the rest are all skin injuries. Just take the medicine and wait until the bones grow back. Just stay in the school doctor's office these days. If placed in the Muggle world, Chew's injury would be considered a serious injury, but in the Wizarding world, as long as it is not an irreversible injury caused by magic, it is really not a big problem. Bones can grow back if they are gone. Ravenclaw's Captain Isaias Jail breathed a sigh of relief, but Madame Pomfrey's next words made everyone present feel excited. But there are a lot of broken bones. Please don't do strenuous exercise in the past 2 months. But the Quidditch match is about to start next month. Isaias blurted out. Chuke is currently the only Seeker in the team. Last year's Seeker has graduated. Except for Autumn, Ravenclaw can only prepare for the next school year in advance if it recruits people at short notice. Madame Pomfrey glared at Isaias angrily. What's more important, body or Quidditch? Given her physical condition, it is easy for her to suffer a secondary injury, which may leave sequelae. I told Dumbledore a long time ago that such dangerous activities should be banned. If we have this time, wouldn't it be better to switch to a weekly medical class? Madame Pomfrey finished her sentence by complaining about Dumbledore. She firmly opposes any behavior that can hurt the little wizard. Flying lessons 440 and Quidditch are the top priorities. The little wizards were trained like quails. Although they were not convinced, no one dared to refute. Madame Pomfrey is the dominant one in the school infirmary. Even when the principal comes, she has to smile with her. They don't dare to stab her. Okay, don't crowd here. The patient needs a good rest. Pomfrey began to yell at people, and in the end only 2 young wizards were allowed to accompany him here. But you can't stay too long, you have to leave after half an hour. Chew's eyes were red. Obviously she had just cried. Not because I was injured, but for the next competition. She had prepared for so long and trained hard every day, but she couldn't participate in the competition. I'm almost dying of sadness. Marietta comforted her from the side. Chew, we just missed 1 game. We still have a chance. There will only be 2 Quidditch matches at Hogwarts in November, with the remaining matches in March and June. The team with the most total points in the end will win the championship of this school year. Marietta's comforting words didn't have much effect. Chew understands that every game is crucial. If you lose by a big margin in the first game, it will be too difficult to catch up later. The girl said nothing, and Marietta had nothing to do. The other girl just stayed with her silently. At this moment, a figure sneaked in. Seeing his appearance, several people were startled, and even Chu, who was still sad, finally spoke. Wayne, why are you here? I heard the news that you were injured, so I came to take a look. Wayne nodded to Marietta, and the other blonde girl moved chairs and sat down. How did you get in? Marietta couldn't help but ask. Didn't Madame Pomfrey stop you? I used the disillusionment charm. Madame Pomfrey didn't see me. Wayne explained. Seeing the girl's pale face, he couldn't help but blame her. It's just training. Why are you working so hard? Chu felt a little aggrieved, but she also knew that it was her own problem. She recently had a cold and her energy and concentration were not very good. In the past, the action that caused her injury could definitely be completed. It seems we are a bit redundant here. Seeing the state of the two of them, the blonde girl joked with a smile, and Marietta also echoed. It's just that Chu didn't want to talk to us just now, but she started talking as soon as Wayne came. The girl blushed and turned to the other side. Wayne was thick-skinned and ignored the two's teasing. Instead, he asked, what do you call me, senior? Pinlo Cravat, just call me Pinlo. The blonde girl reached out her hand generously and shook Wayne's hand. You don't need an introduction, Wayne Lawrence. You are the genius of Hufflepuff and the owner of the Phoenix. I have heard of your name a long time ago. Professor McGonagall regretted that you didn't agree to her invitation at the Transfiguration Club. There is also that Celia store, but it cost me a lot of money. Pinello? Wayne knew that this senior was a very popular girl in Ravenclaw and was very likely to become a prefect next year. Exquisite facial features and beautiful blonde hair. And he also joined Professor McGonagall's club, which shows that his magic talent is not bad. She is a beauty with both talent and good looks. After a brief acquaintance, Pinello took Marietta away, leaving the space for Wayne and Chu. What did Madame Pomfrey say? Seeing the girl's brows furrowed in pain, Wayne couldn't bear to say any other harsh words. Chu replied very depressedly, I can't participate in the Quidditch match next month. Do you really want to play the game? Wayne asked again. What's the use of thinking about it? Chu showed a bitter smile. It's already like this. Just take good care of your injuries and try to have no problems in March. Forget it. I'll help you this time. Wayne made up his mind and said seriously, you must be careful in the future. If you get injured again, I won't care. Chu was a little confused, but saw a flash of fire in the sky, and the Phoenix King was summoned. Chirp. Phoenix King, use the sacred fire. Wayne ordered. Upon hearing the master's command, white flames appeared on King Feng's body, one of which flew out and landed on Chu, who was unable to move. The expected burning sensation did not appear, the hospital gown was not ignited, and the flames merged into the girl's body. Broken ribs and wrists were healing at an alarming rate. In less than a minute, Chu could no longer feel the slightest pain. She raised her arms in shock and sat up straight, and even her whole body was filled with strength. Am I okay? Why is it so noisy? The patient needs to be quiet. Madame Pomfrey heard the noise in the office next door and rushed over. Seeing Chu actually sitting up, he became even more angry. Lie down quickly. It will take 2 days for your bones to be completely reattached. No, madam. Chu waved her hands in panic. I feel like I have no problem. How is it possible? Pomfrey wanted to say something else, but when he saw Phoenix King in the sky and saw Chu's hands waving freely, he felt a little unconfident. Did you do it, Lawrence? There is only one young wizard who raises phoenixes, so Madame Pomfrey naturally knows Wayne. The young man said modestly, Feng Wang's contribution has nothing to do with me. Phoenix King raised his head proudly, extremely proud. Although she is still too young to be resurrected from the dead, minor injuries such as fractures are definitely not a problem. Pomfrey examined Chu with some suspicion. He worked for a long time, his expression was full of disbelief. It's actually getting better. Is the Phoenix's healing ability so strong? It's not like she hasn't seen Dumbledore's fox save people, and it doesn't have such an obvious effect. According to the conclusion of her investigation, nothing happened to Chu now, as if she had never been injured. Madam, can I be discharged from the hospital? Chu asked expectantly. No. She glanced at King Feng suspiciously, but Madame Pomfrey flatly refused. Stay one more night, and I will let you out of the hospital if there are no problems. Then Quidditch. Staying for one night is not a big deal. Chu is more concerned about whether he can participate in the game next month. There was no answer. Madame Pomfrey just told Wayne to lower his voice and not stay too long, and then walked out of the infirmary. But the attitude is already obvious. Wayne, thank you. When Madame Pomfrey disappeared, Chu hugged Wayne excitedly and expressed gratitude. Soft, it's quite soft, but a little small. Feeling Chu's soft body, Wayne murmured softly. But with the two of them in their current positions, Chu could still hear her voice no matter how quiet it was. His face immediately turned red. Not shy, but angry. Wayne. Wayne then realized his mistake and quickly explained, I mean, the future is promising, and you still have a lot of room for development. I'm only 12 years old, I can definitely grow up. Chu's voice was thin and weak, trying to regain her respect. The atmosphere in the school doctor's office suddenly became a little charming. Chu raised her head and looked at the boy's straight nose, bright eyes, and long eyelashes. For some reason, her breathing became a little short. Seeing the blush on the girl's face, Wayne also twitched his index finger. Those eyes like autumn water contained a little moisture, which stimulated him to use his hands harder to make the two of them stick closer. Although I am not old enough, it is not bad to try a lip balm. The two of them didn't speak, but they both knew what was about to happen. The girl closed her eyes, her eyelashes trembling, and Wayne slowly possessed her. Boom! The door to the school doctor's office was pushed open. Chu, I heard that you were injured. You didn't die. Hermione looked at the two people embracing each other, her eyes gradually becoming complicated. Wayne, how's Cho Chang doing? Seeing Wayne return to the lounge, Cedric asked casually. It's nothing serious. You'll be fine after just 2 days of rest. Then why do you have such a strange expression? Cedric looked at his friend, rubbed his chin and asked suspiciously. It's a bit pity, but also a bit obscene. Swing. It's a pity indeed. Wayne sighed. It would be nice if Hermione could come later. Cedric looked confused. What's it got to do with Granger? Could it be that she was also injured? Late at night. Inside the room of requirement, Wayne has forgotten the beauty of the school doctor's office. Just let nature take its course. It doesn't mean that if you can't eat it today, you won't have a chance in the future. He still has plenty of time. The top priority now is to improve strength. In the system's evaluation, he was already comparable to the professor at full combat power, but that was only because of his talent. The time of exposure to magic is too short and the foundation is not enough. He is too young and his total magic power is insufficient. These are the problems faced by Wayne. Professor level sounds very strong, but in fact, Dumbledore, Voldemort, Grindelwald, and other wizards are not on the same level at all. There is no one above, and there are all living beings below. The gap is really too big. Wayne shows no sign of complacency. Time is short, so use hard work to make up for it. Talent only represents potential and upper limit. If you don't convert it into real strength, it will be just a mirror. With the thin mana flow belt, Wayne can increase his magic power by practicing other magic spells to advanced levels. Therefore, his recent training direction is to practice as much as possible those spells that are still at the intermediate level. The results are pretty good. In the past half-month, he has practiced 5 or 6 magic spells to an advanced level. In the system's evaluation, the magic score has changed from 0.8 to 0.9. Split into pieces. The blue light spell hit the steel plate, splitting it into more than a dozen pieces, and Wayne's magic power increased slightly. This means that his split spell has also reached a high level. Just as Wayne was about to leave the room of requirement, his heart palpitated when he heard the call from the Phoenix King. In the familiar firelight, Phoenix King flew out and screamed hurriedly. A unicorn is about to give birth. Do you need my help? Wayne understood what she meant and didn't hesitate immediately. Where is it? Take me there. Grabbing Wayne's hair, Phoenix King started to apparate again. The next second, the two people appeared in the Forbidden Forest. The host explores the depths of the Forbidden Forest for the first time, reward points plus 50. Wayne didn't pay attention to the beep in his head, but focused his gaze on the foot of a tree. A magical animal with a pure white body and a spiral horn on its head was lying there. It had a big belly. It was obviously the unicorn that King Feng said was about to give birth. The Phoenix King flew to the top of the unicorn and sprinkled sacred flames to relieve her pain. The unicorn neighed weakly, as if in thanks. No, how can I help? Wayne was a little numb, and he had never learned to deliver a baby. It would be better if Newt were here. But soon, Wayne understood why Feng Wang called him over. There was a rustling sound in the dense jungle, and a faint light suddenly appeared in the darkness, densely packed. After a rustling sound, a large number of spiders surrounded him from the trees and the ground. These spiders are nearly 1 meter tall, with 8 eyes and 8 slender legs. Under the eyes are huge poisonous pincers and long fangs. With such distinctive features, Wayne recognized the origin of these spiders at a glance. Acromantula. A 5x level magical creature, the same level as the fire dragon. A single acromantula is far inferior to a fire dragon. But spiders reproduce very quickly, with a clutch hatching in 6 to 8 weeks. The terrifying numbers are matched by the incredibly lethal venom. This makes many wizards rather encounter the fire dragon than see the acromantula. It's fine for the fire dragons to hide in their lairs, but the acromantula can eat people. These acromantulas did not launch an attack, but instead surrounded the area in an orderly manner, staring at Wayne and the unicorn with eager eyes. The most primitive desire to eat is just around the corner. Suddenly, these spiders made way for a passage, and an acromantula larger than a house crawled over. Jajaja. In addition to unicorns, I didn't expect to meet little wizards. It seems that this meal can be added to the meal. Chapter 70 Killing? A provocation from the centaurs? The unicorn was at the critical moment of giving birth. Seeing so many acromantulas, fear flashed in his eyes, but his body could not move. Chirp. As the Phoenix King cried, the flames around her became even brighter, and many acromantulas stepped back. Phoenix King also discovered the danger in advance. With her strength alone, she might be able to repel these acromantulas, but she couldn't distract herself from protecting the unicorn. That's why I called the owner over, to help. Fire is what spiders fear most. A cold snort came from the huge spider's mouth, and the retreating movement stopped. Little wizard, if you want to blame, just blame your bad luck. The acromantula's voice was particularly old, like an old man who was about to die. Although I promised one person that I would never eat humans again, my descendants have no such restrictions. Who told you to break Dumbledore's rules and enter the Forbidden Forest? Wayne raised his eyes slightly, and the wand appeared silently in his hand. You must be Aragog, right? You know me. Aragog, the giant spider, was a little surprised. I'm Hagrid's friend. Hagrid's friend. Aragog pondered for a moment, and finally took a step back. Even as Hagrid's friend, I can't help you. You brought it to the door yourself. No one can save you? I think you misunderstood. Wayne shook his head. I just wanted to say, for Hagrid's sake, get out now and I will spare your life and that of your children. Oh, Aragog laughed angrily. Does Hogwarts now have a course to teach people to tell lies? I want to see how you can spare us. All the acromantulas made clicking sounds and surrounded them. This terrifying scene was enough to scare a cryptophobic patient to death. The eyes of thousands of acromantulas exude green light, which is their desire for food. The venom, the tentacles, the spider legs, even the webbing. Wayne raised his wand and suddenly smiled. I just discovered that the acromantula is full of treasures. Aragog's voice suddenly turned cold when he heard Wayne's comment. Kill him for me. Countless spider silks are sprayed out from the mouth of the acromantula. These spider silks are extremely sticky. Once trapped, it is very difficult to escape. Spider webs and clumps are the most effective means for spiders to hunt. The flames are raging. A blazing fireball emerged from the tip of the staff, expanded rapidly, and then exploded with a bang. A ring of fire centered on Wayne and spread in all directions. All the spider silk was burned to ashes after contacting the flames. After the acromantulas at the front came into contact with the flames, they let out a shrill scream, and soon they smelled of burning. Not only did this not scare off the spiders behind, it actually made them more ferocious. Spiders are a group of cruel predators who don't even spare the corpses of their companions, but Wayne is helping them make food rations. Spider silk loses its effect in the face of flames, and they still have venom. The highly corrosive venom made a sizzling sound when it hit the ground, and the poisonous smoke filled the air. Wayne put on the shield of Equus for himself and looked at the unicorn under the protection of the Phoenix King. With the Phoenix King around, these toxins cannot affect them. Wayne pointed out and vomited softly. Click. The wrath of thunder descended from the sky, bombarding the body of the acromantula frantically, and part of it was attached to the surface of the flame, with sparks and lightning all the way. Wayne also gave this combo a name. Thunderfire Sword? Holding the shield, Wayne held the wand and rushed into the spider swarm. Shattered to pieces. Thunderbolt explosion. All petrified. Thunder. Colorful magic spells erupted from the tip of Wayne's staff, thunder rolled from the sky, and accompanied by howls, acromantulas fell in pieces. Coupled with dynamic perception, even in the dark, spider silk and venom cannot hit Wayne. Damn it, why is a little net master so powerful? Aragog backed away and cursed, stop, stop, we'll let you go, and the unicorn, stop it. Aragog's heart was bleeding, these spiders were his children. Although he had thousands of children in his life, his heart was still bleeding when he saw a little wizard slaughtering his own offspring in front of him. You still don't understand the situation, Aragog. Wayne fired another explosive spell, blasting a deep pit into the ground. The spiders nearby were all gone, and he sneered. Now it's not about you letting me go, it's about whether I let you go. Zhyla? The giant web formed by the electric arc fell down, and the blue light illuminated the nearby night sky. Those spiders that touched the power grid were dismembered by the strong current and scattered on the ground. Their hard shells and sticky spider silk have no effect when facing thunder nets. I give up. Little wizard, how can you let us go? Aragog endured the pain and begged. It was not completely out of the attack range of the power grid just now, and one of its legs was cut off. Woo, woo. On the killing battlefield, the whimpering sound of the little beast was particularly obvious. Wayne's offensive pace stalled slightly, and he turned around to see the 10-year-old unicorn was lying in front of its mother, sucking. The unicorn mother is also nuzzling the little unicorn affectionately. Seeing this heartwarming picture, the murderous intention in Wayne's heart suddenly calmed down a lot. Aragog the spider has matured and sensed that Wayne's emotions were not as strong anymore, so he quickly struck while the iron was hot. Little wizard, this time it's all my fault, but you also killed so many of my descendants. For Hagrid's sake, please let us go. If you come to the Forbidden Forest again in the future, we will never dare to cause trouble for you. I won't seek revenge on a unicorn either. Within a few minutes, there were hundreds of dead acromantulas, and they didn't even touch a hair on Wayne's head. Aragog had no doubt that if the little wizard was given enough time, none of the spiders here would be able to escape. That's it. Wayne scratched his ears disdainfully. You wanted to eat me when I was little, and now you want to run away if you can't afford it. There is nothing so good in the world. He snapped his fingers, and another thunderbolt struck, killing the nearby spiders. Then he stretched out his hand to grab it, and a thunder net that was even larger than before covered the entire area. Although the distance between the silk threads was a bit larger, if the size of the acromantula was to pass through, it would require at least 2 arms and legs. As for Aragog's size, it is not a problem to divide it into 180 pieces. What on earth do you want? Wayne walked up to the unicorn, and wherever he passed, spiders that could still move fled desperately. According to legend, only pure girls are allowed to approach and touch unicorns. They are an out-and-out LSP. But Wayne has the talent of being friendly to animals. He had just protected 2 unicorns. The unicorn mother had no objection to his approach and even called out affectionately. Seeing the little guy enjoying his meal, Wayne smiled and stroked his still wet body. To be honest, the newly born little beast is not very pretty, but once its hair grows, it should be a cute creature. After doing all this, he stood up and looked at the acromantula. Even for Hagrid's sake, you have to pay a price if you want to survive. After speaking, he used the deformation technique to turn a broken tree next to him into a barrel 1 meter high and half a meter in diameter. Fill this barrel with your venom and you're good to go. Seize the young master. Aragog couldn't believe his ears. Are you crazy for riding a horse? The venom of acromantulas is the essence of their whole bodies, not saliva. You can vomit as much as you want. You have no right to bargain. Wayne stretched out his hand again, and the vines on the ground suddenly flew up, tightly binding Aragog's body and pulling him into the air. No matter how hard he struggled, he couldn't get rid of it. If you don't fill this bucket for me today, I will personally remove your poison sac and take it myself. You have to figure it out yourself. After saying that, Wayne removed the mine net. He is not afraid that the other acromantulas will take the opportunity to escape. As long as Aragog is controlled, these spiders will not have the courage. Controlling such a large acromantula consumes a lot of magic power. Coupled with the fact that he still maintains the shield of Equus, Wayne can still save a lot of money. I promise you. But you can't break your promise. As long as this barrel is full, you will let me and my children go. Feeling the killing intent rising from Wayne again, Aragog finally gave in. The older a person gets, the more afraid he is of death. The same goes for spiders. Aragog has lived for 50 years and his eyes have severe cataracts, but he has not lived enough yet. He wants to live until the end of his life and does not want to die at the hands of this little wizard. I'm Hufflepuff, how could I lie to you? Wayne said without blushing. Aragog was dumbfounded. He thought that such a cruel little wizard, even if he was not a Slytherin, should be one of the Gryffindor doctors. It's Hufflepuff? Does your dean know that you are so cruel? Being stronger than anyone, Aragog could only place his hope on Hufflepuff's reputation. He made a series of strange calls, and the other acromantulas took action. Then a strange scene occurred at the scene. Hundreds of acromantulas lined up in 2 rows in an orderly manner. They climbed onto the barrel one by one, squeezed out the venom and then fell down weakly. Then they slowly crawled away to make way for the spiders behind them. If you lose the venom, you will lose the essence of the encounter. It would be strange not to be exhausted. 0, please give me flowers. Wayne's lips curled up slightly. Acromantula venom is definitely one of the most expensive materials in the wizarding world. A pint, approximately 550 ml, sells for up to 100 galleons, and there is no market for it. It is not only a necessary material for making high-level magic potions such as blessing potions and intelligence enhancers, but it can also be added to many potions to act as a catalyst to further improve the quality of the potions. Even Snape only had 1 can of this precious thing. Wayne took a second look and Snape put it away as if to guard against thieves. You're stingy. Wayne's big wooden barrel can hold 30 to 50 pints. At least within a year or 2, he won't have to worry about losing his 8 eyes. As for running out, the Forbidden Forest is the territory of Hogwarts. As the flower of the school and the future successor, it is reasonable for him to charge a protection fee, right? The acromantulas were milking the cows honestly, so Wayne didn't pay too much attention and focused on the unicorn. After eating and drinking enough, the little unicorn fell asleep obediently. In addition to its good looks, the unicorn also has a holy aura about it. The breath made him feel very comfortable. The unicorn was also very close to him, rubbing its big head against him. Stroking the unicorn mother's soft hair, Wayne guessed that this might have something to do with the gift of the Holy Spirit. The venom in the wooden cave was already less than half filled, but there were not many spiders left. Aragog, who was hanging on the tree, kept shouting and ordered other acro spiders to squeeze out more. He has to make up the rest by himself? Rustle, rustle. The forest that had returned to tranquility once again became turbulent. Suddenly, there was a sound of horse hooves in the darkness in the distance, and Wayne turned on his dynamic perception vigilantly. Hunter, get out of this land. If no one arrives, he will arrive first. A strong and powerful roar came along with the sound of horse hooves. King Fang wanted to fly into the sky angrily, but was calmed down by Wayne. Soon, a dozen centaurs jumped over the bushes and landed in front of Wayne. These centaurs were both male and female, very tall, each holding a bow and arrow, and they looked extremely powerful. But when they saw the remains of spiders all over the ground, the burnt land, and the scene where the remaining acromantulas lined up to squeeze out their venom, they were all shocked. After seeing Wayne and the unicorn beside him, he directly raised his bow and arrow and pointed it at him. Hunter, let go of the unicorn. Wayne was speechless. Are you blind? Have you ever seen a hunter as young as me? Also, don't you recognize my school uniform? Although he is relatively tall among first-year students, he is still just a child after all. Not even 1.7 meters tall? Wizards are cunning. Who knows if you used polyjuice potion and turned into a dark wizard who sneaked in as a little wizard. The leading centaur was still vigilant and looked around. The sight of corpses strewn across the field made veins pop out of his hands, and he said coldly, if you want to hunt the acromantula, I won't care about you, but the unicorn must be called out. Aragog, who was still looking forward to a fight between the two sides, was almost so angry that he vomited blood. What's the meaning? Should we spiders die together? Don't you have human rights if you are ugly? I'm giving you shame, aren't I? Wayne's face suddenly turned cold. What do I do? Do I need your consent? Put down the bow and arrows for me. Although he is usually very kind to his classmates, laughing and joking, and gets along well with everyone. But that's because everyone is a classmate, and if someone talks to him nicely, he will naturally treat him politely. But, it's just based on Wayne's training. His system is the Demon King system. Then he is also the devil? Now a group of centaurs who were not even human were still pointing their bows and arrows at him after he explained his identity. This has triggered Wayne's anger. The thunderclouds in the sky condensed again, and the air became particularly oppressive. A dozen centaurs were tapping restlessly with their hooves, but their bows and arrows were still aimed at Wayne, with no intention of moving away. Let go of the unicorn and leave this forest. This is not the place you should be. It was the centaur leader who was warning just now. As his voice fell, the bowstring was already fully drawn. A group of magical creatures living under someone else's roof, do they really think of themselves as their masters? Wayne sneered and waved his wand, causing the bows and arrows to undergo astonishing distortions. In the shocked eyes of the centaurs, the bows and arrows in their hands turned into pythons that preyed on people. They tightly wrapped around their arms, opened their bloody mouths, and bit down on their necks. There was a chaos of war, and the centaurs tried to get rid of the snakes in their hands, but they were entangled tighter and tighter. The sharp fangs bit their necks, causing them to scream in agony. When Aragog saw this scene, the 7 legs that were struggling quietly stopped unconsciously. Did you even say you were a Hufflepuff? If it weren't for Slytherin, I would give you a bucket of acromantula venom every year. Chapter 71, Make a Fortune, Jealous Snape. Amidst the miserable screams, the centaurs fell to the ground one after another. Wayne actually didn't kill him, and it looked like he was bleeding profusely, but given the centaur's physique, it could only be considered an ordinary injury. After all, it's just an ordinary python transformed, and it doesn't have any strong venom. The mother unicorn suddenly began to neigh, and Wayne probably understood what she meant. You want me to let them go? The unicorn nodded, his clear and ignorant eyes containing no trace of impurity. The unicorn barked a few more times, and with his talent, although he didn't fully understand, Wayne probably understood what she wanted to express. It probably means that she used to have a good relationship with the horse people tribe, and the horse people would also share some of the fruits and vegetables they cultivated with her. We are all friends. Stop fighting. No one will die this way. It's okay to let them go. Wayne stroked the unicorn's slender neck, but you have to let me play with you in the future. The unicorn blinked in confusion. Even if you don't say it, it will not refuse Wayne to look for it in the future. Reading the unicorn's expression, Wayne suddenly felt that he was guilty and his thoughts were too complicated. The animal world is that simple. If you are kind to it, it will treat you well in every possible way. Even Aragog, the acromantula, is the same. Hagrid is a special existence in his heart. For Hagrid, Aragog has forcibly given up the habit of cannibalism for 50 years. As for ordering other acromantulas to hunt him just now, it was just animal habits at work, and it did not affect Wayne's ability to see his merits. I'll give you some face. After Wayne finished speaking, the pythons that were still fighting the centaurs turned into ropes and temporarily controlled them. Go talk to them, or I'll have to fight again after I untie them. Upon hearing Wayne's command, the unicorn propped up the sleeping baby with its head, placed it in Wayne's arms, and walked over. After neighing 473 several times in succession, the horseman stopped struggling. Wayne then untied the rope. Clutching the wound on his neck, the leading centaur staggered up and walked to Wayne's side, the humanoid part of his body leaning slightly downward. I'm sorry I misunderstood you, little pony. My name is Lacey. Please forgive our recklessness. Seeing Hestia beside you, we thought you had captured her. Wayne Lawrence. Wayne said his name lightly. Hestia? Is that your name? He said the last sentence to the unicorn. Woo. Okay, then I'll call you Hestia from now on. After saying that, Wayne frowned again. Who told you to stop? Aragog, do you not want the poisonous axiom? Aragog was shocked and quickly ordered the remaining acromantulas to continue to contribute venom. Be sure not to anger this evil star. Seeing the acromantula continue to milk, Wayne nodded with satisfaction. Lacey, right? You are the leader of the centaurs. No. Lacey shook his head. Horses are all equal. There is no so-called leader. I am just the captain of the patrol team. During the patrol, my will is the main one. I'm not interested in how you divide it. Wayne waved his hand. As long as what you say works. Although I let you off today, it's not without a price. Did you see what happened to the acromantula? Wayne pointed at the cows. Those venoms are the price to pay, because they angered me. So, what are you going to pay to calm my anger? Wayne watched the centaurs gather together in a leisurely manner. Adhering to the spirit of plucking the geese's feathers, even foxes would have to leave some feces when passing by, let alone these wise horse people. There must be a lot of good stuff on hand. Don't promise him, Lacey. A centaur with stern black hair and a beard roared angrily. A centaur will never be a slave, evil little wizard. You can never make us surrender. Boom. Before he finished speaking, Wayne raised his hand and cast a magic spell. The red light blasted the centaur away an unknown distance, as if he was swallowed by darkness. Vain. Lacey had no time to stop him and could only watch his companion disappear before his eyes. Little pony, you've gone too far. Lacey said angrily. Aren't you afraid that I will tell Dumbledore? Dumbledore. Wayne's shining black eyes exuded coldness. Even if you bring this matter to the Ministry of Magic, I will be justified. I am just breaking school rules, but what about you? Pointing bows and arrows at underage wizards? Which side do you think Dumbledore will take? As for that mean-mouthed centaur, I'm just teaching you the rules. Prisoners should have the consciousness of being prisoners, and their mouths are used to make you beg for mercy, not to scream. Also, call me by my name. I'm a human, not a horse. Don't keep calling me a pony. Lacey was speechless after all these words. In the final analysis, they were the ones who were reckless and subconsciously mistook Wayne for a poacher without fully understanding the situation. What do you want? Lacey lowered her head and asked in frustration. Human gold and jewels have no effect on centaurs. We never collected them. Who wants those crappy things? Wayne waved his hand impatiently. He lacked everything except money. When the galleons are gone, just keep selling gold bricks. I heard that horse people are not only good at prophecy, bows, and arrows, but also have good achievements in herbal medicine. Bring some herbs and the matter will be over. You measure the specific quantity yourself. If it's less. Wayne sneered twice, then don't blame me for visiting your tribe. Lacey was immediately relieved when she saw that Wayne just needed herbs. The Forbidden Forest is the home of the horse people. It is not easy to collect herbs. No problem, please wait a moment, I will go back and bring it over. A horse can pull as much as they want, and they will go back with you? Wayne was not afraid that these horsemen would never return. Horse people are all one-minded, and as long as they promise something, they will definitely do it. Sure enough, seeing Wayne trusting her so much, Lacey looked at him with respect. Bowing again, he ordered other centaurs to follow his pace. Looking at the direction, we should first look for Bane who was just blasted away. Wayne yawned involuntarily. After struggling for so long, look at the time, it should be almost 2 o'clock in the morning. Fortunately, tomorrow is the weekend, so he can sleep in. The acromantulas carefully lined up to be milked. In the end, all the spiders were exhausted, but the barrels were still about 1/5 full. Wayne smiled half-heartedly. Aragog, what do you say? No. Can fill it up. I still have venom, count my share. Aragog's legs were numb as he had been hanging. Wayne clicked his tongue, and the vines instantly released their control. Aragog fell to the ground, and it took him a long time to get up. He had almost drained himself of the poison, but he could still fill up the last fifth. Aragog collapsed on the ground. No more, really not a drop left. Okay, get out of here. Wayne waved his hand, chasing people away like flies. Not only did Aragog not feel angry, but he was grateful that Wayne could keep his promise and let them live. As for the thought of revenge in the future, it doesn't arise at all. At Wayne's age, he will only get stronger as time goes by. It's a blessing not to cause trouble for his own tribe. Aragog has decided to move when he returns. The further away from where the unicorn lives, the better, to avoid encountering this evil star in the future. Unfortunately, Aragog didn't know that he and his descendants had honorably become Wayne's designated suppliers, and would inevitably have opportunities to deal with him in the future. After they left, the horse people left and returned not long after. This time, it was not just the dozen or so people who came before, but several more, each carrying bundles of herbs on their backs. The leading centaur put down the herbs and walked up to Wayne. Hello, I'm Forenza. Wayne nodded, impressed by this name, and would become the prophecy professor at Hogwarts in the future. The Mars is very bright tonight. I have warned Lacey and the others to be careful. Unfortunately, they did not take my advice to heart. I'm sorry for this completely unnecessary conflict and for Bane's rudeness. Lacey lowered her head in shame. Most of the horse people's divination relies on astrology, and Mars often represents war and disaster. It's okay. If we don't fight, we won't get to know each other. After the sharp-eyed Wayne saw the number and types of herbs clearly, he could not remember the unpleasantness just now, and talked to Firenze with a smile. After saying a few words, all the centaurs put down the herbs. Firenze thanked Wayne again for his mercy, nodded to Hestia, and led the rest of the tribe away. Woo. The time has come to part ways. Hestia called softly, and Wayne rubbed her head. Okay, you are very tired just after giving birth. Go back and rest. With her big eyes showing reluctance, Hestia carried the baby on her back, turned back step by step, and finally disappeared into the darkness. Feng Wang, take me back. After returning to the Forbidden Forest, please stay with Hestia for the time being. Chirp. The firelight flickered, and Chen Lin regained his composure again. The next morning, Wayne went to see Chu again, and the little witch blushed when she saw him. After Madame Pomfrey checked, she determined that Chu was fine and released her from the hospital so that she could participate in Quidditch matches. Chu thanked Wayne again and again. But this time, there was no hugging. Speaking of which, does this count as my rival? Wayne suddenly laughed and joked, don't forget, Ravenclaw's opponent in the November game is Hufflepuff. Chu rolled her eyes, even if you say that, I won't be merciful. Wayne nodded in agreement, don't be merciful, I'm afraid you'll come crying to me after losing so miserably. You're the only one who cries. Chu Bai said, I'm not the kind of girl who cries when something happens. Oh, Wayne said in a long tone, I don't know who it was yesterday. When I came over, those eyes were red. Oh, stop talking. Chu blushed and chased Wayne. Soon, the sound of two people chasing each other was heard in the corridor. Fortunately, Filch and his Mrs. Norris were not on the second floor, otherwise they would have been detained. Chu's lightspeed healing caused quite a stir in Ravenclaw. Many of them had heard Madame Pomfrey's diagnosis yesterday, but Chu was discharged from the hospital after just one night. Not only that, but you can also participate in the Quidditch match next month. Faced with everyone's inquiries, Chu just smiled and said that Madame Pomfrey had used some special medicine for her. It is a very precious special medicine, which is why I can recover so quickly. This is what Pomfrey taught Chu to say, and the purpose is to protect Wayne and not reveal the secret of King Phoenix. Needless to say, in terms of caring for little wizards, the professors at Hogwarts are quite qualified. This is one of the reasons why Wayne doesn't mind revealing some of his secrets in school. Overall, the wizarding world is relatively peaceful. Excluding the uncertainties brought by the defense against the dark arts professor, Hogwarts is indeed a pure land. He didn't have to worry about his wealth being coveted by Dumbledore and the four heads of house, and others. What kind of stinky fish or shrimp deserves to worry him? If you piss him off, you can directly use the missile to coax him. Don't forget, in addition to being a wizard, he is also a noble. However, the recovery of Autumn is certainly a joy. But one thing that worries Wayne is that the atmosphere between him, Chu, and Hermione is a little weird. In the past, the three of them often acted together, and Chu and Hermione would even go to the library to do homework together when Wayne was away. The relationship between the two is very good. But since that night, there have been very few scenes of Hermione and Cho being present at the same time. Even if Wayne forcibly pulls them together, the two rarely speak. It's quite normal when you're alone. Wayne didn't have much to do about it. He's been very busy lately. During the day, while others were doing their homework, he also had to develop new products for the Celia store. Every night, he not only had to go out at night to practice spells, but also browse the books in the restricted area. From time to time, I have to go to Hestia, see her and the little unicorn, and bring them some food. Time management is already stretched. It's another Tuesday night. Wayne came to Snape's office as usual. The difference is that this time it was not Snape who specified the potion, but Wayne himself. You want to brew an intelligence enhancer. Snape frowned. It wasn't that Wayne wasn't up to par. With him as a master of potions, combined with Wayne's own talent and abnormal memory, Wayne's potion skills have improved by leaps and bounds. Even if it is an intelligence enhancer, it is no problem. What troubled Snape was the materials for refining the intelligence enhancer. Scarab beetle, ginger root, and armadillo bile are three common ingredients, but he is reluctant to take out the other acromantula venom and rune snake skin. Both materials were very precious, and he didn't have much on hand. Professor, I have rune snake skin and acromantula 5.3 venom here. Wayne took out the two materials. Snape's eyes widened when he saw a gallon of acromantula venom. Lawrence, where did you get so much venom? And this snake skin, it's at least 50 years old. Bought from Diagon Alley, Professor. Wayne smiled brightly. The rune snake skins were sponsored by the Centaurs, and there were more than a dozen of them. To make a pot of intelligence-enhancing agent, all that was needed was a small section of a whole snake skin. Snape gave him a damn look. He has established cooperation with the pharmacies in Diagon Alley. Once precious materials arrive at the store, he will definitely be notified in advance. Snape was too lazy to listen to Wayne's nonsense and ask directly, sell it. Snapped. Wayne slapped a gold brick on the table and raised his eyebrows. Do you think I'm short of money? Wayne and Snape had a strange relationship. They were teacher and student, and Snape even tutored him individually. But I also want to trick the other party. He would never let go of the opportunity to see Snape deflated. A waste of materials. Snape gritted his teeth, but still prepared the recipe for the intelligence enhancer. A high-level potion like this cannot be brewed in 2 hours. When Wayne arrived, he left the cauldron in Snape's office and went out. Looking at the steaming golden liquid, Snape felt itchy in his heart. Why does this guy have so many good things in his hands? The next day, Wayne crawled out of the warm quilt with difficulty. The weather was getting more and more awkward. Maybe it would snow soon. As usual, he woke up his 2 roommates, washed himself, and then went to the auditorium to eat. When he came to the auditorium, his steps were a pause. The entire auditorium was filled with the aroma of pumpkins, and the topics discussed by the little wizards all showed. Halloween is coming. Chapter 72 The Expanding Pumpkin, Hermione's Outbreak. Wayne was also a little emotional. Before I knew it, I had been living in Hogwarts for almost 2 months. Once people get busy, time passes very quickly. The 2 months he spent at Hogwarts were the most fulfilling 2 months he had spent, and it was much more interesting than a Muggle school. Perhaps because the holiday is coming. Starting from this week, professors' classes are more or less related to Halloween. Transfiguration class. Professor McGonagall gave each person a mouse and asked the little wizards to turn it into a pumpkin. Wayne looked at his mouse, which was very wilted, and poked Ronald, who was sitting in front of him, with his wand. Is something wrong, Wayne? Ronald turned back in confusion. I feel like this mouse of mine is not very smart. Why don't you lend me Banban? Banban is a pet, not a prop. Ronald immediately became nervous, and Banban is still in the dormitory. I didn't bring him over. That's it. Wayne was a little disappointed. How about you lend it to me next time and let me rent it, 1 second for 1 day. Ronald was really moved after hearing such a sky-high price. ASI can cost 1 day, which is close to 2 galleons a month. This is undoubtedly a huge sum of money for him. But after weighing his feelings for Banban, Ronald still refused with a heartbroken look on his face. Harry asked doubtfully, Wayne, why are you so interested in scabbers? Wayne said matter-of-factly, the lifespan of mice is usually 1 to 3 years. Banban has lived for more than 10 years. Of course I want to study such a long-lived mouse. Yes. Harry also discovered a blind spot. Wayne didn't even mention it, but he didn't even notice it. How could Banban survive so well? Sensing the curiosity in his friend's eyes, Ronald quickly defended, Scabbers is the wizard's pet, how can it be the same? Harry shrugged, but as you said, he is just an ordinary mouse and does not have magical animal blood. Ronald didn't know what to say. Perhaps Percy fed him some magic potion? You know, Scabbers used to be Percy's pet. Forget it, I won't force you if you don't want to. Wayne said nonchalantly, but you can come to me if you are short of money in the future, and remember to bring your rat. After saying that, he started playing with his wilted mouse. 03. Herbal Medicine Class. This week's herb class isn't held in a greenhouse. Braving the cold wind, Professor Sprout took the little wizards to Hagrid's garden. This is a pumpkin field. The pumpkins in the field are ready for picking. There are 2 or 3 pumpkins on each vine, and they look golden. The little wizard's task is not only to pick pumpkins, but also to make the already big pumpkins bigger. Professor Sprout took out bottles of potions from the big basket he brought and asked each little wizard to receive a bottle. Then explained, this is a swelling potion that can change the size of pumpkins. It should be noted that it must be dropped in the center of the melon base so that it can expand evenly, and be sure not to drop too much. After adding 1 drop, wait until the swelling is over before adding another drop. Professor Sprout warned, in the last class, there was a little Gryffindor wizard who poured half a bottle of swelling potion on the pumpkin. The 2 little wizards were almost crushed to death. You must be careful. There was a low laugh in the vegetable patch. Anything in the hands of Gryffindor will always lead to strange developments, and they are used to it. Wayne opened the bottle, put it between his nose and smelled it. His face turned a little dark. What's wrong? Hannah, who was drooling over the pumpkin, noticed Wayne's change and wiped the tears from her mouth and asked, my sister-in-law has been at Hogwarts for 2 months and has already gained a lot of weight. Nothing, I just think the potion is of good quality. Wayne forced a smile. Can it be bad? He did this with his own hands. He said why Snape suddenly asked him to brew a very simple swelling potion that day. He was treating him as cheap labor. Wayne silently made another note for Snape in the notebook. He has always exploited others, but he didn't expect to be exploited by Snape. Sooner or later he will have to be hung up on the street lights. As get out of class was about to end, the vegetable patch was already crowded with pumpkins. Each pumpkin was 2 or 3 times larger than before, as big as the millstone. Although pumpkins that have been treated with swelling potion can still be eaten, the taste will be very poor and they will not be full. Fortunately, these pumpkins are only used as Halloween decorations and will not get into the little wizard's belly. Well, maybe Hannah can't help but try it. Professor Sprout gave Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff 5 points each because no one was causing trouble in class. That's the power of the control group. With the Gryffindor Jade in front, it becomes a plus. Mr. Lawrence, please stay for a while. Sprout called out to Wayne in the crowd. Professor, is something wrong? Help me send these pumpkins to the storage room. With that, Sprout controlled half of the pumpkins to float. Wayne followed suit and controlled the other half of the pumpkin without even taking out his wand. Perfect levitation spell, plus 10 points for Hufflepuff. Professor Sprout smiled very happily. This is for Flitwick. Recently, Wayne has stopped answering questions in class, or even if he answers the questions, the professors will not give him extra points easily. Because when professors see Wayne, they always feel like a graduate coming back to take first-year courses. If you give him extra points, it will be weird. Professor Sprout also looked for an opportunity to compensate Wayne. There was no way she couldn't control just a few pumpkins. After putting the pumpkin in the storage room, Wayne said goodbye to his dean, had a casual lunch, and went to the potions classroom. The previous good mood was gone, and Snape could always pour cold water on everyone when they were happiest. All the professors had no homework this Halloween weekend, and even Quidditch practice was stopped. He was the only one who left 3 papers after class, corresponding to the main potions he had learned before. Although Wayne didn't have to write, Snape also gave him a task, which was to ensure that all Hufflepuff wizards' papers passed perfectly. The moment he saw him take out his wand, Snape floated away like a bat. The last day of October is Halloween. When I woke up early in the morning, the smell of roasting pumpkins in the corridor was stronger, and the ghosts were more active than usual. In the Hufflepuff common room, the fat monk gave an impromptu speech, calling on the little wizards to join the church and believe in the omnipotent God. Unfortunately, no one was interested. In Charms class, Professor Flitwick thinks they can start making objects fly. After the students saw him flying Neville's toads around the classroom, they were quite eager to see him. One person made a feather, and the little wizards waved their wands and muttered words. Wayne, what are you writing? Hermione successfully controlled the feather to float in the air for a few seconds, then contentedly put it away and let it fall slowly. Only then did I see that Wayne next to me was not practicing magic, but writing a letter. Oh, my clothes are a bit too small. I'm going to order 2 more sets from Twofin Clothing Store. Do you need it? If you don't know your size, the store will send you a set of magic rulers to help you measure it. Just send it back with the money and tools. The age of 11 or 12 is the age when you grow taller. Wayne has grown 3 centimeters in the 2 months since he entered school, and the robe that fit him before is now shorter. I don't need it. Hermione shook her head, educating Wayne like a little housekeeper. You have to buy a new robe in just 2 months. Why not just order a larger number? It can save a lot of money. Sigh. Wayne finished writing the last request, put the letter back into his pocket, and shook his head regretfully. After all, I am so poor that I only have money, and there is no place to spend money in Hogwarts. Do you want to deprive me of even this bit of happiness? Hermione was momentarily speechless. Only then did she remember Wayne's identity. This bad guy only mentioned that his parents were dead when they first met, and didn't mention that he was a count at all. If it were in the Muggle world, Hermione would respectfully call Wayne Lord when she saw him. Just show off. The little witch angrily ignored Wayne. After hearing that Ronald kept chanting the wrong spell later, he reminded him a little irritably. Pay attention to the pause. It's Ugia dim, Leviosa. The word Gia needs to be long and clear. After being pointed out a lot of mistakes, Ronald became angry and said, since you are so smart, come and try it. Hermione rolled up her sleeves without any politeness, revealing her white wrists, and waved them as Flitwick taught her. Winger dim Leviosa. Her feathers rose from the table, steadily and quickly, hovering 4 inches above Hermione's head. Oh, well done. Professor Flitwick was very happy. Look, Miss Granger has succeeded. 5 points for Gryffindor. Ronald didn't say another word during the entire class. Ronald's mood was extremely bad when Seamus lit his feathers on fire as a sign of the end of class. No wonder everyone can't stand her. Ronald complained to Harry, she's a nightmare. Harry already saw Hermione nearby from the corner of his eye, and Ronald quickly covered him. Don't Hermione and Wayne have a good relationship? They are both geniuses. There is a difference between geniuses. Ronald was still seeking death. Wayne is more talented than Hermione, but he has never been as domineering as her. Look at Wayne's popularity. Even Malfoy would take the initiative to say hello to him. But what about Hermione? She always looks at me through her nostrils. Is it because you are too short? Harry complained silently in his mind, but had given up on saving Ronald. There is no hope, just wait to die. But what Harry didn't expect was that Ronald continued to get out of hand and chattered on his way to death. No wonder I rarely see Wayne and Hermione together recently. He is always the second-year Ravenclaw next to him. What's your name? Chu Jong, right. She is so gentle. Harry subconsciously nodded in agreement. He also noticed Chu and would always take a peek at her from time to time. My heart skipped a beat every time. And seeing Wayne next to Chu, he could quickly cool down. What does he compare to Wayne? The upside-down golden bell. An angry voice reached their ears. Ronald felt like the world was spinning, and he flew up upside down and was hung on a pillar in the courtyard. Hermione was so angry that her hair was flying. Ronald Weasley, is there any point in talking about others behind their backs? You should really learn from your 3 brothers. What are the most basic manners of a person? After saying that, Hermione walked away angrily, and Harry was so frightened that he didn't dare to move. He had never seen Hermione so angry as he had seen Professor McGonagall angry. Here is the connection between the 2 castles. In the garden between the buildings on the side, students were coming and going, and the sudden conflict shocked everyone. But when they saw Ronald's embarrassed appearance, many people couldn't help laughing. It's actually a silent spell. Isn't that first-year Granger just now? It's her. What kind of spell is this? I've never seen it before. Today's little wizards are really awesome. There's Lawrence in the 1st grade, and then there's Granger. Would you like to go to the library together? I also want to learn this spell and have some skills. Ronald's face was as red as a monkey's butt after being pointed at by so many people. Harry wanted to put him down, but he couldn't touch Ronald at all and couldn't counter the curse. 3 full minutes later, after the spell expired, Ronald fell down, and Harry hurriedly held him up. Ronald, are you okay? Ronald, who had no face to see anyone, pushed Harry away and fled the garden in a panic. Time soon came to night. As night falls, the castle's decoration takes on a new look. Auditorium 297 is filled with colorful Halloween items. The original starlight ceiling has been replaced with a ghostly smiling face, and thousands of bats are flying on the walls and ceiling. There were countless dark clouds hovering over the dining table. The brass candlesticks were also replaced with pumpkins cast with a levitating spell. Through the gouged eyes and mouths on the pumpkins, dim candlelight flickered. Not only does it not look scary, it actually looks a little cute. Dumbledore waved his wand radiantly, without saying a word, and the golden plate was filled with delicacies, as rich as the opening dinner. All kinds of roast chicken, lamb chops, steaks, and pork knuckles are available. Hufflepuff's little badgers cheered and plucked at the plate as hard as they could. Normally, the school would not starve everyone and provide plenty of meat and vegetables, but it would never be as diverse as today. Wayne also got a whole chicken, 2 large pieces of grilled ribs, and a lot of beans. Before eating, he glanced at the long Gryffindor table and found Hermione sitting there with steak on the plate, so he paid no attention to it. Quirrell wanted to cause trouble tonight, but it had nothing to do with Wayne, so it was just a show, as long as Hermione wasn't in danger. As if understanding, Hermione also raised her head and met Wayne's eyes. The boy showed a big smile, but the little witch rolled her eyes, leaving Wayne a little confused. How did he mess with Hermione again? Xiu also saw Wayne at the long table next to him, smiled and raised a wine glass filled with juice, and the two congratulated each other from a distance. Hermione was even angrier. The knife and fork cut very hard, tearing the steak into pieces. Harry, who was not far away, swallowed his saliva and said cautiously, "Hey, Hermione." "What? Have you seen Ronald?" Harry didn't find Ronald all afternoon, not even in herbal medicine class. "How do I know where he is?" Hermione sarcastically said. "Maybe he is learning basic manners in the library." Ronald. Neville, whose mouth was full of oil, heard their conversation and suddenly raised his head. "I just saw him in the bathroom on the second floor, not long ago, but Ronald seemed to be crying and he was speaking twitchingly. Did something happen?" "Nothing." Harry laughed dryly and made up his mind to go find his good friend after dinner. The atmosphere in the auditorium was very harmonious, and Loudang's hearty laughter never stopped. Professor Flitwick drew a bat on the wizard's hat on his head, which can also flash. Professor Sprout also applied red camouflage to his face. Even Professor McGonagall raised his wine glass in a rare move and asked Barbling, Professor of Ancient Runes, to drink. The only person who spoiled the atmosphere was Snape, who was still cold-faced and not interested in Halloween at all. It can also be said that Snape hates all holidays. Just when everyone was immersed in the joy of the festival, the door was pushed open and Quirrell rushed into the auditorium with a look of horror on his face. Chapter 73 Water Prison Technique. You are all my wings. A giant monster, cracking open in the underground classroom. I thought I should let you know. After saying that, Quirrell fell to the floor and passed out. The auditorium suddenly became chaotic. Wayne rolled his eyes, jumped on the chair and shouted, "The troll is coming. Run." After yelling, he fell to the ground and accidentally stepped on the back of Quirrell's head. "AFK, Lawrence." Quirrell, who was pretending to be dazed, and Voldemort on the back of his head yelled at the same time. Voldemort secretly gritted his teeth and suppressed his anger to remind himself. Be patient? Being stimulated by him, the auditorium became even more chaotic. Many little wizards were running around like headless flies, and Dumbledore had to use his wand to fire off fireworks continuously before the house became quiet. He glanced helplessly at Wayne, who was still standing on Quirrell's head, and said in a deep voice, "Prefect, lead the students from each college to the dormitory immediately." Dumbledore's voice seemed to carry a strange power, and the chaotic situation was quickly ended. The prefect stood up and ordered the little wizards to line up and walk out of the auditorium, with the first grade hanging at the back. Only then did they realize that Quirrell had been stepped on countless times. Professor Quirrell. Looking at the almost deformed headscarf, Wayne shouted enthusiastically again. "Professor Quirrell has fainted and his turban is dirty. Let's take him to the school doctor's office. Someone take off the turban." "No need." Quirrell, who had been pretending to be dead, endured the pain all over his body and climbed up. I'm fine. Go back to the dormitory quickly. It's very dangerous here." After saying that, he ignored the concerns of the little wizards around him and limped to keep up with the other teachers. When leaving the auditorium, a little wizard was wondering, how did the giant monster get into the school when it's so big? "I don't know, maybe it's from the Forbidden Forest." "Then why are you in the underground classroom? No one saw you along the way, right?" Wayne was wondering about this too. It's not surprising that Quirrell can get a giant monster, but how he brought it in is very confusing. "Wayne." Hermione suddenly caught up with him from behind, grabbed him and ran in the opposite direction. Next to her was Harry, both of whom looked very nervous. Ronald is still in the bathroom. He doesn't know about the troll yet. What happened? Wayne was a little dizzy. Why was this going against Tiangang? Hermione was fine. Ronald was hiding in the toilet. The three of them walked in the other direction. They quietly entered an empty side corridor and rushed towards the bathroom. As they walked, Hermione explained the whole situation very remorsefully. If she hadn't caused Ronald to make a fool of himself, Ronald wouldn't have been hiding all afternoon, afraid to see people, let alone be in danger. "Okay, it's not all your fault. Ronald really needs to take care of his mouth." Wayne comforted him. This naughty kid actually dared to spread gossip about him. Suddenly, he grabbed the two of them and hid behind a nearby statue. There was a sound of hurried footsteps. It was Snape. He walked through the corridor, disappeared from the sight of several people, and hurried up the stairs. "What is he doing?" Harry asked in a low voice. "That direction is to the 4th floor. Where are the other professors?" "Okay, don't think about it. Professors are free to do whatever they want. Let's go find Ronald," Wayne urged, and the three of them got back on the road. Turning a corner, Wayne immediately wrinkled his nose and his eyes became blurry. This smell is so stinky. It was even worse than the smelliest potion, and he seemed to be able to see a green breath floating in the air. He was so frightened that he quickly turned off the motion sensing, and then he felt better. Wayne finally discovered the shortcomings of dynamic perception. One giant monster almost knocked him out. If more than a dozen of them came, he would just run away without taking action. Hermione and Harry also covered their noses, and then they heard a low grunt and huge footsteps. A behemoth, 12 feet tall, appeared from the other side and walked into the bathroom, followed by the screams of boys. "It's Ronald." Harry's expression changed and he immediately recognized his friend's voice and ran towards the bathroom. Wayne raised his hand and Harry floated up, his short legs swinging wildly. "You and Hermione stay here, don't cause trouble," Wayne shouted and walked to the bathroom. The door had been destroyed, and he directly saw the scene inside. Ronald was hiding in the corner. His wand had been broken into 2 sections and was casually discarded on the ground. The giant monster approached step by step, holding the huge wooden stick high in its hand. Wayne raised his palm slightly, and the wooden root in the troll's hand floated up and hit him on the head. Click. Ho. The stick shattered, and the giant roared, turning to look behind it. Wayne was speechless. Didn't it say that this thing will faint if it is hit with a stick? How come nothing happened? Phew. 2 faucets burst, and turbulent water spurted out. Under Wayne's control, it turned into a huge water mass, submerging the giant monster and floating in midair. Hermione and Harry also arrived at this moment. They were so shocked that they couldn't speak when they saw the giant monster struggling in the water prison but unable to get rid of it. Ronald, Tianlei. Controlling the water prison with one hand, Wayne quickly cast a head-soaking spell on himself with the other hand. Wayne secretly cursed himself for being stupid, only then did he remember to use a spell to isolate the smell. Hearing his reminder, Ronald finally recovered from his stupid state and staggered to Harry's side. The clear water washed away the filth on the troll's body and soon turned turbid, making the smell of the bathroom even more unspeakable. Except for Wayne, the three little ones held their noses tightly and looked at the bubbles on Wayne's head with envy, secretly vowing to learn this spell in the future. After 2 or 3 minutes, the giant's struggle gradually became weaker, until it finally became motionless. Drown already? Harry asked quietly. Let's soak for a while longer, be careful. Hermione gave cautious advice. Wayne thought so too, so he kept the water prison. The giant monster has rough skin and thick flesh, and is much more resistant to beatings than the acromantula and centaur. This is why he chose the water prison to torture the giant monster to death. In addition, he felt that the troll was too dirty, and he wanted it to die cleanly. I'm such a kind Hufflepuff. Wayne was thinking happily, when suddenly there was a sound of loud footsteps in the corridor. Hermione and the three of them turned around. A moment later, Professor McGonagall rushed into the toilet, followed closely by Snape Quirrell. Oh my god. Professor McGonagall put his head in his hands. What on earth are you doing? A giant monster was sleeping peacefully in the water prison, and the three little wizards just looked at Wayne. What a heaven-defying scene of riding a horse. Snape's face was gloomy and he was limping. After seeing the water prison, his pupils shrank. He casually glanced at Wayne, who was smiling and greeting Professor McGonagall. Quirrell also came in. He only glanced at the troll and let out a weak sob. He sat on a toilet and clutched his clothes tightly to wipe away his tears. Professor Quirrell. Wayne reminded, if you want to use the toilet, it's not very convenient here. Quirrell, who was crying, hesitated. Then he cried louder. You can stop, Lawrence. Snape said solemnly, do you want to soak this giant monster's hair? Hearing this, Wayne dissipated the magic, and the giant monster hit the ground with a dull sound. I need an explanation. What the hell are you playing? Professor McGonagall glared at several people. Harry had never seen her look so angry. Inexplicably, it overlapped with Hermione at that time. Needless to say, Snape sneered and said, in order to prove his strength, the genius Lawrence roped in his little girlfriend and 2 followers to cause trouble for the troll. Hermione had never found herself so pleased with Snape. Harry and Ronald were furious. Who is the follower? We are Wayne's friends. Wayne didn't take it seriously, but still smiled. Professor Snape, you are such a good person, but it's a pity that you have a mouth. Snape's face grimaced. Professor McGonagall Hermione lowered her head and her voice was low. This is all my fault, because No. Ronald interrupted. They all came to find me. I was running around and ran into the troll. Fortunately, Wayne and the others saved me. Professor McGonagall would naturally not believe this level of excuse. There must be more hidden things inside. But looking at Ronald's determined eyes, McGonagall pondered, Mr. Weasley, you deduct 5 points from Gryffindor for your recklessness. Snape let out a dissatisfied snort. Professor McGonagall, here. Halfway through his words, he saw Wayne quietly raise a finger, and then Snape quickly made a 3 sign. Wayne held out another finger. Snape changed his tone. Most of them are students from your college, so I won't comment. McGonagall looked at him in surprise. Just now she thought Snape thought this punishment was not harsh enough. But since Snape had no objection, the punishment stopped there. McGonagall really didn't want to add insult to the few points left in his academy. As for you Mr. Lawrence, for your bravery and kindness, Hufflepuff adds 20 points. Okay, let's go back to rest soon, right? The students are all over there still planning to have the Halloween dinner. Wayne gave Snape a look and led Harry and the 3 of them out of the toilet. Before leaving, Ronald felt distressed and took away the broken wand in 2 pieces, preparing to go back and wrap it up with magic tape. Hermione kept holding Wayne's hand tightly, and the boy felt helpless and had no choice but to follow them to the Gryffindor Tower. Halfway through, Hermione suddenly said, Sorry, Ronald, I was too impulsive this afternoon. I apologize to you. You were the one who helped me overcome my mistake just now. Thank you. After saying that, he bowed formally to Ronald, which made Ronald feel at a loss. No, it's my fault. I shouldn't have said those harsh words. The spells you taught are all correct. It's me who cares about face too much. Oh yes, and Wayne must like you more than Ravenclaw's Chu Chang. Hermione blushed, and Wayne slapped Ronald on the head angrily. Shut up, why are you always gossiping about me? I had just witnessed Wayne suffocate the troll to death, and Ronald was slapped in the face. Ronald looked down on him. I was wrong, Wayne. Even if this matter is brought to an end, it will be written off from now on and no one will be allowed to mention it again. Wayne cut through the mess quickly, and no one had any objections. Glancing at the wand in Ronald's hand, Wayne asked, What are you going to do about the wand? Ronald smiled bitterly. Just use it. If I tell my mother, she will definitely send me a shouting letter. Hermione was about to speak when she was stopped by Wayne. In this way, I will lend you the money first and you won't have to pay it back. But I will leave my astronomy homework and history of magic homework to you this semester, and this money will be used as payment. What do you think? Ronald nodded excitedly and agreed. A wand started at 7 galleons, and the homework for 2 subjects was not too much. He could finish it in the time it took to play a few games of wizard chess, and he had already made a lot of money. Thank you, Wayne. You're welcome. The 4 of them continued walking towards the tower. This is a fair deal. Arriving in front of the fat lady's portrait, Ronald and Harry walked in first. Hermione seemed to have something to say to Wayne and was left alone. The little witch lowered her head and played with her fingers, and said stumblingly, Don't worry about what Ronald said about you just now. Don't worry, he is just talking nonsense. Wayne smiled and rubbed her head. I know, I'm only in the first grade and I haven't thought about those messy things at all. But is there really no problem between you and Chew? You two haven't spoken for a long time. In fact, he really wanted to shout that you are all my wings, and I will be a 12-wing seraph from now on. But after considering my age and physical development, it would be useless to yell. Of course not. Hermione defended awkwardly. I'm just too busy recently. The day after tomorrow, I made an appointment with Chew to go to the library together. That's good, I'll take you to a place then. Wayne didn't care whether Hermione really made an appointment with Chew in advance, or whether she was preparing to make up for it later. As long as the two of them don't go too far and let him allocate too much energy to deal with it. Thank you for today. Hermione hugged Wayne. The shower gel mixed with milky fragrance penetrated into the nose, but the time was too short. Before she could savor it carefully, Hermione spoke the password and hurriedly got into the Gryffindor's lounge. Wayne narrowed his eyes. Ah, sweet-smelling and soft lowly. Principal's office. Snape limped and sat down in front of Dumbledore. It's quiet on the 4th floor for the moment, and Quirrell hasn't passed. Thank you for your hard work, Severus. Is the injury on your leg okay? Do you need to go to Pomfrey's? Dumbledore asked with concern. You don't have to worry about it. I can handle it myself. Snape took out a small crystal bottle distressedly. Shiveringly, he dripped 2 drops on the bloody wound, and immediately stood up, for fear of dripping too much. A miracle happened. When the water droplets touched the wound, it healed quickly and disappeared in just a few seconds. Dumbledore looked at this scene curiously. Are these Hoa's tears? The effect is indeed much stronger than Fox's. This is just the most superficial application. Snape looked complicated. You have no idea what these tears mean. Dumbledore followed suit. What is it? It's hope? Snape tightened his grip on the bottle and put it away solemnly. The shopkeeper asked. You should know what happened in the bathroom, right? Dumbledore nodded. Not long after Minerva left, Mr. Lawrence used a very beautiful water prison. Wandless casting, Snape added deliberately. Are you scared? Dumbledore chuckled. Don't test me again, Severus. I have the utmost confidence in Mr. Lawrence from beginning to end. There's something you don't know. Maybe I can help you dispel those doubts. Mr. Lawrence regards the Forbidden Book area as his second bedroom, but he has little interest in books about black magic. He's not going to be the next Dark Lord. What about the White Devil? Snape wanted to ask, but after considering the complexity of the old man in front of him, he chose to change the subject. Since you think so highly of him, then Potee. Dumbledore's smile gradually disappeared and he fell into silence. After a long time, he said, This is Harry's destiny, and no one can replace him. Get up. And I can only provide some help as much as possible. Chapter 74 Snape. This boy has the appearance of a demon king, and he will give Voldemort another blow. Facing Dumbledore's cryptic hint, Snape felt it became difficult to breathe. It was like a person who had just emerged from the water, but his head was pushed into the water again. Destiny, prophecy. Endless self-blame surged towards him. How did Harry's mother Lily die? It was because he told the Dark Lord the prophecy he overheard. There were 2 families eligible at the time. One is Harry and the other is Neville. In the end, Voldemort's choice was self-evident. Snape felt extremely painful in his heart. It was he who had killed Lily. The 2 main motivations that support his survival are to completely kill the Dark Lord, avenge Lily, and wash away his sins. The other thing is to protect those eyes. As long as these 2 goals can be achieved, he is willing to die. And because Dumbledore knew Snape's thoughts, even though Snape was not a good person in the traditional sense, he even did many wrong things. He also gave the utmost trust. In the face of greater interests, factors such as right and wrong, good and evil are all unimportant. Lawrence, are you now blatantly traveling at night? Snape, who walked out of the principal's office in despair, happened to meet Wayne, who had just come down from the Gryffindor Tower, and his depressed expression was gone. Professor, it's not curfew time yet. Wayne reminded. Confronting the professor, Hufflepuff will deduct 5 points. The points were deducted for Wayne, and Snape felt a lot better. The only pity was that this guy didn't care about the points. Or maybe Hufflepuff as a whole doesn't really care about scores. This at least halved his pleasure. Wayne didn't say anything, but looked playfully at Snape's torn trouser legs, which were still stained with blood. Did you get chased by a dog? Tisk, the majestic headmaster of Slytherin, you can't even deal with a 3-headed dog. How about I teach you some magic spells to defend yourself? Snape's smile suddenly froze and he looked at Wayne carefully. Have you been to the corridor on the 4th floor? Don't talk nonsense without evidence. Wayne spread his hands innocently. I am a good student who abides by the law. How could I violate the principal's ban? Snape walked ahead, pretending not to hear Wayne's nonsense. At the same time, I also had some ideas in my mind. I guess it was Wayne who beat the 3-headed dog so badly last time. What a little monster. Looking at Wayne, Snape felt like he was looking at a rising demon king. Those who come out of Slytherin are all Dark Lords. Those who come out of Gryffindor are all 100 secret kings. What about Hufflepuff? The 2 of them stopped communicating all the way until they reached the fork on the 1st floor. Wayne was going back to the dormitory in the direction of the cafeteria, while Snape was going to the potions office. Ahem. Snape finally couldn't bear it any longer and coughed twice on purpose, holding out 2 fingers. His meaning was obvious. Wayne suddenly realized, sorry, Professor, I almost forgot. As he said that, he took out the dragon skin bag and rummaged around for a long time, and finally took out 2 small finger-sized pocket glass bottles. It contains the venom of the acromantula. Professor, this is what I promised you just now. Snape looked like you were f-king kidding me. The 2 bottles combined are not enough for 1 ounce? Wayne innocently forced 2 small glass bottles into Snape's hands. Just tell me if these are 2 bottles. But what I mean. What he wants is the big bottle that Wayne took out last time? Oh, what are you doing? Just 2 bottles. Don't be such a bitch. Goodbye, Professor. Wayne slipped away as soon as he outputted. Snape was stunned for a long while, anger welling up in his heart. Lawrence UTM. There are no secrets at Hogwarts. In particular, among the participants in the incident, there was also a big mouth. Ronald has 5 super dazzling brothers above him, and a younger sister who is doted on by the whole family. He, the 6th child, is not taken seriously. After arriving at school, her academic performance was above average, and there was Hermione, a little witch who was always in the limelight. Her best friend was Mr. Savior. It has become a little transparent. Therefore, when faced with an opportunity to show his presence, Ronald would never let it go. However, he still had some moral integrity and told the story roughly according to the facts. The biggest change was to remove the part about him being autistic in the bathroom. So on the second day, the whole school knew. Gryffindors are not gossip makers, they are just spreaders. The Weasley twins specially waited for Wayne at the door of the auditorium. The moment he stepped into the door, they used magic to blast petals all over the sky and cheered. Here comes the hero who defeated the trolls. Thunderous applause erupted from the Gryffindor table. The little wizard singled out the troll and became the hero who saved the school. This kind of publicity is a favorite of young lions. Wayne blushed, because the king was dead. Everyone in the auditorium, including the professors at the guest table, were looking at him. Wayne glared hard at Ronald next to Harry, and then said to the twins, "Let's discuss it. Clean up, Adv, Ronald, and I'll give you a bottle of thinking potion." "What are you talking about?" George looked angry. "Ronald is our younger brother. 2 bottles. Wayne quickly increased the price. "Deal." Fred responded quickly, "How mature do you want it to be? Just take care of it yourself. Don't kill anyone. It's your turn." Got rid of the twins, but Hufflepuff's little badgers came around again. None of them knew what happened yesterday. They only knew that Wayne came back later. Keep asking questions here and there. Water prison spell. Cedric thought for a while. I have heard of this spell. It is a very advanced magic that requires extremely high levels of transformation and magic skills. Once you can triple transform, you can use this magic spell. Wayne said casually, "You are the first in the 3rd grade. It must be very easy for you." Cedric turned green. "Listen, is this human speech? It is a triple transformation. He has just barely mastered the transformation of living things into living things now, and it is still early for double transformation. Although Halloween is a very important holiday, in fact, except for Ireland, other countries do not have a holiday on this day. So, today's class is still the same as usual." What surprised Wayne was that Quirrell was seriously injured and his head was almost crushed last night, but he still insisted on coming to class today, but he changed his turban. "I don't know if Voldemort has passed away." The little wizards did not come to the usual classroom, but were taken to another larger classroom on the 3rd floor. Today you can freely practice the meditation, concentration, and body-fixing mantra." After stammering, Ji Luo just sat aside and closed his eyes to rest. It seems that today it is Quirrell the nerve, not Quirrell the god. However, in the practical class, the little wizards could cast spells at will, which made the little wizards even happier. "Professor Quirrell, are you alive?" Wayne came to Quirrell's side and asked with concern. Quirrell opened his eyes and forced a smile. "No, it's nothing serious. How is your phoenix doing lately? Is the trachoma cured?" "Not yet." Wayne shook his head regretfully and changed the topic, "But I have collected a lot of Fox's tears. Do you need them?" "Of course." Quirrell gritted his teeth secretly, but still did not refuse. No matter how small a mosquito's legs are, they are still flesh. Voldemort can hardly hold on during the intense classes recently. "Then what magic spell did you use in exchange?" Wayne waved a small bottle in front of Quirrell's eyes. Quirrell hesitated, and at this moment, Voldemort woke up and took over his body. "How about the fire spell?" Voldemort still whispered in Quirrell's tone, "Don't be afraid. Although fire is black magic, it is essentially just flame." He tempted Wayne. "If you had used the fire spell last night, the troll would have been burned to ashes long ago. Why waste so much magic power? What kind of water prison was used?" Voldemort wanted to see how Dumbledore would behave if he bewitched Wayne and made him a dark wizard. As for what he thinks, it depends on Wayne's extraordinary talent and taking him under his wing. He still had it before, but since it was stepped on by Wayne yesterday, it was subsequently used as a carpet by the little wizard. All he wants now is to kill this scourge. Fire. Wayne's expression turned cold, which made Voldemort's heart sink. Is Lawrence disgusted with black magic? So how did he lure Wayne into corruption? Wayne rubbed his brows and said displeasedly, "Professor, do you have the nerve to use a lousy magic like Li Huo? There are at least 10 books in the Forbidden Book area that record the fire spell. You are too insincere." Voldemort took a breath and felt a little doubtful about his life. Li Huo is an extremely powerful black magic attack that consumes less magic power and has a large attack range. Even this can be disliked. "What do you want?" Voldemort asked helplessly. "The last mine net was good." Wayne played with his fingers casually. "If it's thunder magic, it's better. If not, other lost magic is also good." Voldemort thought for a while, then gritted his teeth and said, "Come to me after class." After receiving a satisfactory answer, Wayne left with satisfaction. When get out of class was over, Indy handed him a piece of parchment. "This is some of my insights into continuous casting. It should be enough, right? There is no so-called fixed CD for magic spells, but if you cast the same spell continuously, there will be a lack of stamina, or even a spell failure. It's a bit like making a big effort, then waning, and finally exhausting." Wayne took it and looked at it. He didn't see any problems for the time being, but he was still going to give it a look. By the way, he also revealed that he gave Quirrell Phoenix tears. Wayne will not be careless in the face of major events. He knew Dumbledore's temperament very clearly, and as long as he saw his shining point, he would be very indulgent. Holding the small bottle, Voldemort stared coldly at Wayne's leaving back. No one has ever been able to blackmail him twice in a row. After getting the Philosopher's Stone and being resurrected, the first thing he has to do is kill Harry, and then Wayne Lawrence. And Dumbledore. I can beat him to death. In the afternoon, the last potions class ended. Under Snape's watch, Wayne walked briskly to the principal's office. Luckily Dumbledore was right inside. Professor, I have some questions about continuous casting. Still using the same rhetoric as last time, Wayne dictated the skills taught by Voldemort and waited for the old man to. Deng's comments. Professor Quirrell taught you. Dumbledore was an experienced man and quickly guessed the source. Wayne said cheerfully, yes, I exchanged Fox's tears for him. Fox, who was preening on his stand, was unhappy. It landed on Wayne's head and pecked his hair into a ball. Oh, what are you doing, Fox? If you make trouble again, I won't let King Fang play with you. After understanding his threat, Fox reluctantly let Wayne go. Dumbledore was still smiling. Professor Quirrell is indeed an outstanding student of Ravenclaw, and his insights into continuous spell casting are very unique. However, please let Fox go. He is about to reach Nirvana, but he doesn't have so many tears for you. Wayne understood what Dumbledore meant. There is no problem with this transaction. It is better not to go to Quirrell in the future. Wayne agreed decisively. After the boy left, Dumbledore stroked Fox's feathers and sighed. What a clever little wizard. In the library, Hermione and Chu were sitting in the corner completing their homework. When I get tired of writing, I will whisper for a while, as long as Mrs. Pinksy doesn't hear me. After the troll incident, Hermione took the initiative to find Chu to reconcile. The two did not come out to each other, but their relationship returned to what it was before. Hermione asked softly, Chu, did Wayne tell you what you were going to do tonight? No. Chu shook his head, mysterious, he only told me to leave the tower on time at 10 o'clock. Hermione's heart also felt itchy, and she condemned a certain boy together. Soon there was a silver bell-like laughter. Night falls, 10 o'clock. Wayne first went to the Gryffindor Tower to bring Hermione, and then went to the Ravenclaw Tower to find Chi. Where are we going? Forbidden Forest. Isn't there any danger? Hermione rubbed her arm. The book says there are many dangerous magical animals in the Forbidden Forest. Don't worry. Wayne comforted. I promise I won't do anything to them. The little witch opened her mouth. No, I mean magical animals are the danger? But in the end curiosity defeated fear, and Hermione had been yearning for the mysterious Forbidden Forest for a long time. What's more, with Wayne here, he can easily defeat even the trolls, so there won't be much danger in the Forbidden Forest. Wayne did not use the Phoenix King to apparate, but prepared to take a tour of the Forbidden Forest. Go here. The three of them came to a blank picture frame on the third floor. Wayne took out his wand and pointed it at the frame lightly. Suddenly, a door handle grew directly out of the picture frame. After pulling it open, a dark passage was revealed. Follow me. Wayne entered first, and the white light from his wand illuminated the path forward for the two little witches. By the time they walked out, they had arrived at the Owl Hut. To the west is Hagrid's hut, and to the east is the Quidditch pitch. We have to avoid Hagrid's cabin, Wayne reminded, and Cho and Hermione nodded excitedly. This was the first time they walked out of the castle at night. Looking back, under the quiet night sky, the castle was filled with mottled lights, quiet and peaceful. The two of them followed Wayne closely. The lights were on in Hagrid's cabin, and his huge figure could be seen through the window, seemingly cooking. In order to ensure that he would not be discovered, Wayne would not even spare the tooth that was passing by, sending it into a coma and sending it into sleep. The three finally entered the Forbidden Forest. Seeing Wayne heading straight in one direction, Hermione asked curiously, "Where are we going?" "Go to Kong Kong, my big baby." Wayne still refused to say it. The full moon hung high in the sky, and they encountered many magical animals along the way. Cats, bowtruckles, fire crabs, silent birds, and hawklaps. The area where the unicorns live is located deep in the Forbidden Forest. In order to speed up, Wayne used the light body technique on all three of them, allowing them to walk as fast as flying. Coming to an open area with no trees and only 2 hills, Hermione suddenly pointed to the hill on the right. "Look, something is coming out." Wayne looked at the moon, thought of something, and quickly pulled the 3 of them into hiding, and cast the disappearance charm. "Today is the night of the full moon. We are blessed." At this time, a bunch of small beasts came out of the cave inside the mountain. It has a round head, big eyes, a long neck, and 4 short legs. Cho and Hermione both had heart-shaped eyes. So cute. Chapter 75, Big-Eyed Cute Moon Crazy Beast. You deserve to make money. This is the Moon Crazy Beast. Wayne pointed out the identities of these cute creatures. I added silently in my mind. It can also be called the Big-Eyed Cute Eagle. The little thing looks quite unique, just like a little alpaca. Especially those weirdly big eyes, which are inexplicably cute. Chu and Hermione couldn't help but want to rush forward, but luckily Wayne held them back. "Don't worry, if we are discovered, these moon crazy beasts will all run away." The moon crazy beast is a very shy magical animal that only comes out of its lair to bathe in the moonlight on full moon nights. Once disturbed, they will run away quickly. "Take a look first, they are going to dance soon." Wayne comforted the 2 women in a low voice. On the open ground, the big-eyed cute beasts raised their heads, and their hind legs began to swing irregularly, jumping up and down. Hermione and Chu didn't even blink, just looking at Moon Crazy Beast. Gradually, little silver stars appeared around them, falling with the wind. "It's so beautiful." Chu sighed, and even recited an ancient poem her father once taught her. "It seems like the Milky Way has fallen into the sky." Chu's body moved slightly closer to Wayne, wanting to feel a different kind of romance with him. "This is not some kind of Milky Way," Wayne corrected. "Those silver things are the feces of the Moon Crazy Beast. It's amazing. It's the first creature that dances, and I heard that it also has the intention of courting." The ant's smile slowly disappeared from the faces of the 2 little witches, and they turned their heads to look at Wayne with numb eyes. Wayne felt baffled. "Look what I did. It's all written in Fantastic Beasts and where to find them." Chu's little hands climbed up to his waist, and Hermione also hit Wayne twice in annoyance. "I know everything you said is right, but could you pay attention to the occasion next time? What kind of shit is this atmosphere? Is it really appropriate?" However, the 2 of them just pretended to express their anger and didn't really hit hard, so Wayne just tolerated it. "Write it down in a small notebook and come back with revenge in the future." A quarter of an hour later, the silver brilliance gradually disappeared, and the crazy beasts also stopped dancing. Just wait for me. After giving instructions, Wayne lifted his phantom spell and walked towards the moon crazy beasts. At the same time, the succubus, no, the magical animal affinity talent was activated. Seeing a person suddenly appear, Yu Chimin screamed in fear, but feeling the kindness and affinity in Wayne, he did not run away. Easy easy. Wayne pressed his hands down. Relax, I'm just here to make friends. As he spoke, he also took out some dandelions. They were a little dry because they were not in flowering season, but they were still very attractive to the moon-crazy beasts. Among the dozen or so moon-crazed beasts, there are 2 that are bolder. They walked cautiously in front of Wayne, and after seeing that he didn't make any move, they began to eat with confidence. Seeing this, the other moon-crazy beasts followed suit, and in a blink of an eye, Wayne was surrounded by a group of cuties. I reached out and touched their heads. Their long necks stretched and contracted. It was so fun. Chu and Hermione, who were hiding aside, were drooling with envy. Come on. Fortunately, Wayne did not forget them and waved them over. Don't be afraid, they are my friends and will not hurt you. Having established initial trust, these moon-crazed beasts allowed the 2 women to approach. By the time the dandelions were eaten, the 3 of them had touched enough. Considering the limited time, Wayne grabbed the 2 reluctant people and continued to rush towards the depths of the forbidden forest. But before leaving, he still collected the moon-chi beast's feces and took it back to fertilize the biting pumpkin. By a small stream, there was fertile grassland, but there were no small animals. Hermione was a little confused and heard Wayne curl his thumb and index finger to his mouth and whistle. Woo. In the darkness, a white figure emitted a faint fluorescent light and rushed towards the 3 of them. Because the speed was too fast, Hermione and Chu couldn't see what it was. The white light reached Wayne, making them take 2 steps back in fright. Chirp. Phoenix King also flew over from not far away and wanted to land on Wayne's shoulders, but found that he was too big and could only land on a nearby tree. Compared to Fox, Phoenix King is twice as big. This is. Hermione's voice was trembling, her eyes widened. Unicorn. Shaped like a white horse, with a spiral horn in front of its forehead, it exudes a pure and sacred aura, and its snow-white hair is not stained with a trace of dust. All the distinctive features reveal the identity of the beautiful creature in front of her. Hestia, why are you running so fast? What if Diana falls? Wayne first touched Hestia's slender neck, and after enjoying her intimacy, he said with some reproach. Diana was the name he gave the baby unicorn. This word comes from ancient Roman mythology and is a representative of the moon goddess. In ancient Greece, she could also be called Artemis. The image of a light shining on her body impressed Wayne so much that he named it after that. Unicorns don't grow very slowly. In just over half a month, Diana has grown hair and can walk independently. Small and very cute. It's just that the hair is always golden, and it only turns into silvery white when they reach adulthood. After holding Diana in his arms and lifting her up, Wayne introduced. Hermione and Chu are my friends. I brought them here to see you today. The 2 little witches were too excited to speak now. They just looked at Wayne and Hestia eagerly, not knowing where to put their hands. Out of her trust in Wayne, Hestia did not remain wary of the 2 women. And as a senior ISP, Unicorn is even better than Wayne in judging whether a girl is pure or not. She walked gently to the 2 of them, lowered her head slightly, and bent her legs forward. Like the hippogriff's habits, it is a signal of friendship. Unfortunately, neither Chu nor Hermione had taken the care of magical creatures class, so Wayne could only remind him. Hestia has recognized you, just treat us like friends. Woo. Hermione and Chu looked at each other, both seeing the joy in each other's eyes. Unicorns are not the strongest group of magical creatures, with a danger rating of only 4x, but its meaning far exceeds that of many powerful magical creatures, especially for girls. Even if a fire dragon is placed in front of them, they will choose a unicorn without hesitation. Chirp. Now the Phoenix King is not happy. She is the master's favorite cub. Okay, you are so old that you can even be jealous of a child. Hearing King Feng's jealousy, Wayne criticized, while Diana blinked her big eyes with a look of worry on her face. Phoenix King? Master, do you want to see what you are talking about? I'm not even half a year old yet. But Wayne was just talking. He still had to care about his own birds. He put Diana on the ground and asked her to go play with her mother. Then he took out the prepared herbs from his pocket and gave King Feng a feast. Wayne now carries around 5 or 6 dragon skin bags with the invisible stretch charm cast on them, containing everything. Just the ingredients prepared for the Phoenix King and the unicorn filled a bag full and cost a lot of money. To be honest, Wayne doesn't know how powerful King Feng is now. There is no specific grade classification, but it's certainly far from its heyday. For Feng Wang, her role at this stage is to act as a taxi and part-time as a wet nurse to provide treatment. After arriving, it is to help Wayne and the people around him become immortal. As a mythical beast, Phoenix King has such strength. What Voldemort was searching for, he already had it before he entered the magical world. I have to say, this is very cruel to Tom. Wayne walked up to the 2 women. They had already established a relationship with Hestia and were able to have simple contact. Cho held Diana while Hermione turned her wand into a comb to comb Hestia's hair. Ah, so soft and comfortable. This is Hermione. Ah, so fluffy and fun. This is Wayne. You touch my horse and I touch your head. In the river, to river. Let's go. After checking the time, it was already close to 2 in the morning. Hermione and Chu both started to yawn and were reluctant to leave. Wayne was also helpless. It's not like we'll never see each other again after today, so we won't work so hard. Have a day off tomorrow, and I'll bring you back the day after tomorrow. After hearing Wayne's promise, the 2 stood up and said goodbye to the 2 unicorns. Watching them disappear into the dense bushes, the 3 of them walked towards the castle. There are even unicorns in the Forbidden Forest. Hermione muttered, are they just Hestia and Diana? No. Wayne shook his head. I asked Hestia. There are about a dozen unicorns in the Forbidden Forest, but they are not social animals. Instead, they like to live separately. How did you find them? Chu asked curiously. It was King Fang who discovered them. I often come here to see them, and I become familiar with them as soon as I go back and forth. Wayne did not tell the real situation. After all, it was mixed with killing and thrilling. Telling them would only make them worried and angry, so they simply didn't say anything. Fortunately, the two women did not continue to ask any more questions. After walking out of the Forbidden Forest and approaching the secret passage, Hermione suddenly laughed out loud. Feeling Chu and Wayne's confused looks, she quickly waved her hand and explained. I just remembered that unicorns are only allowed to be approached by pure girls, but Wayne. Having said this, Hermione laughed again, and even Chu laughed, looking at the boy teasingly, wanting to see his deflated and depressed expression. Unexpectedly, Wayne not only wasn't annoyed, but nodded thoughtfully. You are right, I should talk to Dumbledore and move into the girls' dormitory. You dare. The two girls shouted in unison. Wayne was unhappy. Isn't that what you said? I think it makes sense. 0, please give me flowers. Big pervert. Hermione pushed Wayne angrily. Go back to bed, I'm so sleepy. Chu also rolled his eyes at him with watery eyes. The three of them returned to school from the blank frame again. What a coincidence. Mrs. Norris looked directly at them as they came out. Hermione and Cho's faces turned pale with fright. What should I do? Filch will catch me. Don't be afraid, Mrs. Norris won't tell the truth, right? Wayne knelt down and rubbed Mrs. Norris's head. Mrs. Norris is a Norwegian forest cat with larger ears and thicker hair than other cats. It feels very soft when brushed. Meow. How did you do it? Seeing this scene, Hermione was surprised again. Mrs. Norris would not get close to anyone except Filch, and would even refuse to feed the little wizard, let alone touch him. I'm a Hufflepuff. I have a good relationship with animals. It's normal. Hermione rolled her eyes. Wayne was the least Hufflepuff she had ever seen. After seeing a unicorn once, the two little witches were completely fascinated by this beautiful creature. Even if it's against school rules, I have to go to the Forbidden Forest every 2 days to see Hestia and her daughter, and oh, by the way, see the Phoenix King. The other little wizards in the school were also agitated. Next weekend, the Quidditch match will officially begin. As the well-deserved #1 sport in the wizarding world, Quidditch's popularity has always been high. In the first week, the competition was between Slytherin and Gryffindor, which only intensified the atmosphere. Even professors are involved. 0-0. Snape granted Slytherin the right to use the Quidditch pitch for 3 days in a row, making Gryffindor captain Oliver Wood very angry. I could only watch helplessly as Slytherin's Marcus Flint occupied the court and played leisurely with his players. Just like the twins said, Flint is simply the son of the troll and Crabbe's future template. In the castle, the atmosphere became tense, and each Quidditch team member was protected by several classmates. It's a good thing they don't bother anyone other than the Weasley brothers. All team members must let others take a bite of the food they eat before they can continue to eat it without being drugged. Wayne was stunned. Is it necessary to be so cautious? You're still too young. Cedric patted Wayne on the shoulder like a veteran. Last semester, Weasley missed the Slytherin match because of diarrhea. Damn it. Wayne couldn't help but cursed. It's so outrageous. Why didn't you ask the professor? Why didn't you find it? Cedric sighed helplessly, but there is no evidence, and Snape helped to speak, so in the end we had to let it go. Tisk. Wayne looked at Snape at the guest of honor with contempt. Snape felt Wayne's eyes looking up, a little confused. No, I haven't settled the accounts with you yet. Why don't you pay me back? Make you look good on Tuesday night. Snape groaned, already thinking about what potion he would use to make life difficult for Wayne next week. Cedric, I have a task for you. Although he was speechless about the quality of Slytherin, Galung was innocent and deserved to be earned. He whispered in Cedric's ear for a long time. Cedric's expression became more and more strange, and finally he said, Wayne, you deserve the money you make. On Saturday, the weather was sunny and cold, and the restaurant was filled with the enticing smell of grilled sausages. Everyone is looking forward to a wonderful Quidditch match, but it can't last too long, as it will drive people crazy. The longest Quidditch match recorded in history was 3 months. In the end, the players on both sides went crazy and gave up on catching the golden snitch. There were several pregnant women in the audience who had given birth, by the way. In the history of Hogwarts, this record has been compressed a lot, but it is still 10 days long. At that time, the audience had to wait until they had time to come and watch. Unfortunately, the most exciting scene of catching the golden snitch happened in the early morning. No audience was present, and everyone was asleep. At 11 o'clock, almost all the teachers and students of the school came to the stands of the Quidditch stadium. Many students also brought telescopes, and the seats were more than 10 meters above the ground. The students of Slytherin and Gryffindor were working hard to cheer for their houses, while Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff were in charge of watching the fun. Bang! Huge green smoke filled the air, and a python and a lion made of smoke appeared in the Slytherin stand. The python opened its bloody mouth and swallowed the lion in one bite. Slytherin's little wizards instantly burst into loud cheers, as if they had won. The smoke did not dissipate for a long time and remained above their heads, pressing down on Gryffindor at all times. Ronald was very unhappy. Why haven't we prepared a similar show? Hermione heard his complaint and rolled her eyes, because we don't have chi ending. Chapter 76, Playing on the Field, Fighting off the Field, the most lively Quidditch match in history. Although Gryffindor also prepared a cheering banner, it looked rather shabby. Seamus, the explosive genius, contributed an old bed sheet and painted it into a huge banner that said Potter must win, and also drew a little lion. Then Hermione helped add magic to make the characters on the banner shine in different colors. Other grades just use magic fireworks to form a few letters, and then they disappear in a flash. Unlike the Slytherin side, where various gorgeous banners were spliced into the names of the team members, the iconic eye python was as majestic as if it had come alive. I'm afraid of comparison in everything, at least when it comes to cheering. Gryffindor lost miserably this time. Hermione, what does this have to do with money? Ronald asked inexplicably. Hermione curled her lips and told the truth helplessly. Wayne sold these things to Slytherin. What? Ronald's voice rose in surprise. Why does Wayne want to help Slytherin? I can understand if the opponent is Ravenclaw, after all Cho Chang is in their team, but that's Slytherin. Hermione clenched her fists. After the last troll incident, she and Ronald became friends. But no matter what time, Ronald's bad mouth can break her defense. It's really Galen who whispers, silences, and hits hard. Many people around also heard the conversation between Hermione and Ronald, and immediately showed angry expressions. Hermione quickly explained, Slytherin bought this from the Celia shop. It cost hundreds of galleons. It was not free help. If you have money, you can buy it. Wayne is not targeting anyone. He wants everyone's galleons. When I think of asking Wayne to make up lessons, I have to take out a few Seco 480 tokens. Hermione's chest felt tight. After hearing such a high price, the little lions were speechless. A few hundred galleons. Such a large amount of money, let alone Wayne, if they could make it, they would sell it to Slytherin, right? Hermione took in everything and watched with cold eyes. She suddenly remembered Wayne's evaluation of Gryffindor, and felt that it was extremely accurate. Blindly obedient, radical, and too easily misled and seduced. If there is a correct leader, they will be the most fanatical supporters, but even so, simple sowing discord can cause conflicts within them. Well, the little witch sighed. If Professor McGonagall hadn't been the head of Gryffindor and Dumbledore wasn't a Gryffindor, she would have regretted her choice. The Slytherin stand opposite turned into a sea of joy, and Malfoy was as happy as a grinning ferret. He made a lot of money out of these hundreds of galleons. Do those poor lions have this kind of money? Looking at the ball in his hand, Malfoy became even more excited. When the game starts, he will have an even bigger surprise for Potee. Time is up. Players from both teams walked out of the locker room, walked through the tunnel, and entered the crowded stadium. Wayne's heart also surged. This is the charm of sports events. It is difficult not to be infected by the fanatical atmosphere at the scene. As a referee, Ms. Hooch also wore windproof glasses. Standing in the middle of the court, she gave a warning. I hope everyone will play fair and pay attention to their foul actions. Marcus Flint smiled nonchalantly. Beep. Ms. Hooch blew the silver whistle, and the players from both teams flew into the sky, cheering even more enthusiastically. Boom. Another large cloud of smoke exploded, and the whole place burst into laughter. Harry looked over unconsciously, and saw the words Potter stinky shit squirming in the Slytherin stands, and finally converged into Harry's tearful expression. Malfoy smiled happily under the words. When he saw Harry looking over, he opened his mouth from ear to ear and made a motion of slitting his throat. In the Hufflepuff stands, Cedric twitched the corner of his mouth and elbowed Wayne. Don't you have a good relationship with Potter? Wayne nodded. It's pretty good, so he won't mind me making some money from him, right? At worst, I'll give him a few Seco. How much did Malfoy cost? 20 galleons. Cedric was completely convinced. Fortunately, Gryffindor is not helpless, they also have the best 8th man off the court. Leakeaden, a commentator, sarcastically said. We've all seen the Slytherin's fear of Potter and having to resort to dirty tricks like this off the court. Jordan. Professor McGonagall reminded displeasedly from the side. Oh, okay, who gave us an overly impartial dean? Let's get back to the game itself. Alia Spinnet takes the ball. She is a talent discovered by Wood's keen eye. Oh, look at how charming her blonde hair is. Jordan. Professor McGonagall said angrily, this is a Quidditch match, not a beauty pageant. Talk about football, don't talk about girls. Professor McGonagall is the most ardent Quidditch fan, and she hates others talking about irrelevant topics during the game. After being warned twice in a row, Leakeaden calmed down and explained the game dutifully, but he still subconsciously favored Gryffindor. Only then did Wayne discover that the 3 Gryffindor chasers were all heroic women. Slytherin's batters are true fighters for equal rights and are not merciless at all. He picked up the stick and hit the quaffle at Katie Bell with all his strength. There is nothing good about the stick. Oh, Angelina, the ball is in? Gryffindor scores. The cheers of the little lions echoed in the cold air, and several little wizards used their wands to launch fireworks in celebration. Marcus Flint flew to the other team members with a sullen face and said something. The rest of the game became very brutal. Taking advantage of his physical advantage, Slytherin simply hit the ball while hitting someone, and the score quickly became 30-1. It's so dirty, Wayne commented. Cedric nodded in agreement. It depends on Potter. If he can get the golden snitch before others are knocked unconscious, Gryffindor can still win. Harry in the field was also aware of this problem. He kept raising his height, trying to get a wider field of view to find the golden snitch. Just after he dodged a bludger, something unexpected happened. His broomstick suddenly shook horribly, and Harry almost fell off. What followed was a series of dangerous moves, as if the broom was trying to throw him off. There were exclamations of surprise from the stands, because they saw Harry rolling around like a sloth, with all 4 limbs hugging the broom. What's going on? Ronald was worried. Hermione snatched Hagrid's telescope away, not looking at Harry, but looking for something in the stands opposite. What are you looking at? Ronald asked. It's Snape, he's doing something. Hermione handed Ronald the telescope, and Ronald looked over. Sure enough, he saw Snape in the stands opposite, eyes fixed on Harry and mumbling something. What should we do? Ronald was a little confused when something happened. Don't worry about it, just look at me. After Hermione finished speaking, she disappeared. She struggled to squeeze through the crowd and moved towards the opposite side as quickly as possible. Hermione. Wayne saw the little witch and pulled her out of the crowd. Wayne. The little witch said anxiously, help me, Snape is casting a spell on Harry's broom. Everything creates dependence, Hermione said without thinking when she saw Wayne. This is also a sign of her trust in Wayne. Wayne glanced at it, but what he saw was not Snape, but Killuo. Don't be impatient yet. Wayne comforted Hermione, but the situation on the field for Gryffindor was not optimistic. In order to ensure that Harry would not fall to his death, the twins wanted to follow him, but they were thrown away every time they got close. Without containment, other Slytherin players became more unscrupulous, and Wood was already bruised and bruised. As soon as Wayne rolled his eyes, Hufflepuff's stand was close to Slytherin. He was at the very edge again. Separated by a few people were the Slytherin people, and then there was the teacher's desk. He suddenly slapped his thigh and said angrily, "Dirty? So dirty? Is Slytherin playing ball or hitting someone? Lawrence, what are you talking about?" The little Slytherin wizard looked at him displeased. "Aren't you allowed to talk about the dirty beating?" Wayne challenged. Your troll captain almost put the stick into Wood's mouth. Many little badgers nodded in agreement. No one wants to play Quidditch with a Slytherin. They will do whatever it takes to win. This is a game with Gryffindors. It's none of your business. Idiot, the Academy Cup is not a single game format. Every point is crucial. Why do you want to care about me? Hufflepuff's little badgers continued to nod. Another Slytherin couldn't help it. You damn mudblood. Parkinson, watch your mouth. Cedric stood up abruptly and rushed to Parkinson. Wayne is my friend. Robert Parkinson, Slytherin's fifth-year prefect and Pansy Parkinson's brother. Cedric, Marcus will teach you a lesson during the game. Parkinson pushed away Cedric, who was glaring at him. He wanted to say something, but a huge fist hit him in the face. You bully Harry Potter on the court, and you dare to hit Cedric off the court. Do you think there is no one in our badger yard? Parkinson's nosebleeds were flowing across the face, and the bridge of his nose was horribly twisted. It was obvious that it had been broken by a fist. Wayne. Cedric opened his mouth, wanting to say that he was just pushed away, not beaten. But Wayne had already taken action, and it was impossible for him to speak for Parkinson. You mudblood? How dare you hit me? Do you know who my dad is? Parkinson held the room, tears streaming down his face in pain. You don't even know who your father is. Go back and ask your mother. After Wayne finished speaking, he slapped his vaginal foot again. This completely stirred up a hornet's nest. The other little Slytherin snakes rushed up to help Parkinson. How could Cedric and the other little badgers watch them fight against each other? But they also rushed forward one after another. A group fight started without warning. Hermione was dumbfounded. Didn't you say save Harry? Why did the fight suddenly start? Boom! Wayne punched again and broke the bridge of another student's nose. Lycaon quickly noticed the situation here and raised his voice. What happened? The kind Hufflepuff suddenly got into a fight with the dirty Slytherin. Oh, nice left hook. Lawrence knocked down another one. He is God. He is the god of war. No one can stop him. Fighting is so exciting. Lee was so excited that he almost jumped up and cheered loudly for Hufflepuff, while Professor McGonagall almost passed out from anger. Stop! Stop it! What are you doing? No one listened to her because they were all slapped on the head. Screams continued to come from the stands of the two major colleges. Even the players on the Quidditch field were dumbfounded and suspended in midair. Forgot they were still playing. Hufflepuff has the advantage, if not for any other reason than because they have more people. The students in Slytherin are less than 2/3 of the number of Hufflepuff students, and almost every boy has to face the beatings of 2 Hufflepuff boys. Plus Wayne, he really is like a god of war as Lee said. Fight all the way from south to north, specifically hitting the bridge of the nose, and then adding a kick to ensure combat effectiveness. Soon he went deep into the enemy camp and approached the teacher's stand. Boom! Wayne had gone crazy, and Crabbe stopped him. Before he could figure out what was going on, he was knocked unconscious by the brick he turned into with his magic wand. Seeing such a ferocious Wayne, Malfoy's legs were shaking. You have beaten Crabbe, so you can't beat me. Lawrence, I didn't scold you. Of course, Malfoy, you are my friend. Wayne smiled brightly, his white teeth shining in the sun. Lend it to your follower. After saying that, without waiting for Malfoy to agree, he picked up the unconscious Crabbe and threw him towards the stands. Ouch. Quirrell, who was concentrating on chanting a spell, was knocked upside down and his turban almost fell off. He quickly cast a spell in the middle to straighten the turban. Harry, who had been struggling with the broom, finally returned to normal and saw the golden snitch. Snape also breathed a sigh of relief, then frowned and turned his head to the side. Why is it so noisy? Stop! Stop it all! All petrified! All petrified! Panting, McGonagall finally arrived at the scene of the battle. He shouted a few times, but when he saw that no one listened to him, he had no choice but to use magic. Snape also helped sullenly. All the boys in their college were beaten to the ground. Potter? He's swooping. Wayne? He picked up the brick? Oh, that's Snape in front of him. 11. What a pity. Why not smash it? Lycaon tried his best to explain. His eyes were about to be separated, and he was unwilling to let go of either side. Harry rolled and landed on the ground, as if he was vomiting, and something fell out of his mouth. It was the golden snitch. Grandstand. Wayne knocked Parkinson unconscious with a brick, causing his head to bleed, and he raised his hands with a smile. Click. A Ravenclaw with a camera captured this world-famous painting. The whole place was silent. Chapter 77, The Dean Who Protects His Shortcomings Makes Hufflepuff Great Again. The Gryffindor won. They successfully defeated Slytherin with a score of 160-40. Won the first Quidditch match of the school year. But no one is celebrating. Everyone's attention was attracted by another more exciting thing. Just 15 minutes after Harry caught the golden snitch. Principal's office. The principal's office was particularly lively today. Dumbledore, Snape, McGonagall, Sprout, Wayne. This is alive. And the principal's hanging on the wall. No one pretended to sleep, they were all shouting excitedly. 80 people entered the campus hospital lying down, and dozens more lined up outside. Duent, you have a good memory. Please tell me if this is the biggest accident in history. The bearded principal roared, and was so excited that he almost fell out of the picture frame. Principal Derwent thought for a moment and nodded slowly. That's true. Since I established the school doctor's office, the beds there have never been full. Boy, you did great. Where? Wayne said modestly, I only knocked out 12 people, and my friends helped me with the rest. Snape let out a heavy snort. Dumbledore, what else is there to say? He has already admitted it. Heavy punishment? Must be severely punished. Imprisoned for a whole year. Snape. Phineas said displeasedly, how many days have you been acting like this? Where did all your previous attack power go? Slytherin was beaten to the ground while riding full horse. He lost his face. Why don't we fire him and keep him for Christmas? Snape's face darkened. I am the head of Slytherin, you outdated old guy, shut up. After Wayne was fired, where could he find the Phoenix King's tears and other materials? Don't ask him to fire Wayne, even if Dumbledore wants to fire Wayne, he has to help him intercede. You. Okay, Phineas. Dumbledore interrupted, waving his hand and lowering the curtain, and the sound of the frame disappeared. The old man rubbed his eyebrows and had a headache. He just took a nap and didn't go to watch the game, but so many things happened. Mr. Lawrence, I believe you are not an impulsive person. The voice gradually became fainter. Wayne blinked 03 times. Dumbledore couldn't continue. He remembered what Wayne had done during the investigation. The code cannot be rounded. Tired. Can you tell me why? Several deans looked at Wayne in unison. After the fight ended, the professors rushed all the injured to the school infirmary, and then dragged Wayne to find Dumbledore. As for why it became like this, they didn't know the whole story. Well, because I'm a Quidditch enthusiast and saw Slytherin's dirty playing style. Ahem. Snape interrupted Wayne with a heavy cough and a look that could kill someone. Wayne's expression remained unchanged, but he still changed his adjective, a rather rough style of play, with a few curses. Then Parkinson called me a mudblood. 2 exclamations came from the mouths of Professor McGonagall and Professor Sprout. Snape's fists hidden under his robes were clenched tightly, and a sharp look flashed in his eyes. Even Dumbledore's expression changed from calm to cold. This is indeed an excessive title. Excessive. Sprout looked at him in disbelief. This is an insult. How could Parkinson say such dirty words? Dumbledore, can the pain caused to Lawrence by these words be offset by being always excessive? Wayne had never seen his dean angry before, but he had seen it today. The fat witch, who had always shown a peaceful face to others, turned into a short-haired lion with full beard and hair, glaring at Dumbledore. Only when I looked at Wayne, I felt a little distressed. Wayne is her favorite student. He has the kindness of a Hufflepuff, but also has an edge that most Hufflepuffs don't have. Coupled with talent, Sprout believes that Hufflepuff will definitely be proud of Wayne in the future. However, her favorite student was actually insulted just now. Pompona, I understand how you feel, but I worded it inappropriately. When an honest man gets angry, even Dumbledore has to avoid the edge for a while and admit his mistakes humbly. No matter what, 50 points will be deducted from Slytherin for this. 100%? Plus 1 month of confinement, the tasks will be assigned by me, Sprout announced mercilessly. Wayne loved his dean to death. He raised his eyebrows and looked at Snape. Speak, you speak. I agree, 1 month is too short, it's better to wait until before Christmas. Snape's face was as dark as water, and he tightened his robe tightly. The herbalist should need a lot of fertilizer. He is young and strong. You can use Sprout as much as you like. He directly agreed with Sprout's decision without any objection. If it had been for any other reason, Snape wouldn't have backed down even if there was a quarrel. But the word mudblood. He never wants to hear it again, but took his own student flag first, and then Snape pointed the finger at Wayne. This is ultimately a conflict between the two of you. Why did it evolve into the subsequent fight? I don't know either, Professor. Wayne looked very innocent and spread his hands. Cedric stood up for me, and Parkinson pushed my friend away rudely and unreasonably. Of course I couldn't back down, so I hit him. Then the students from your college rushed up. Naturally, my friends couldn't see me suffering, so they also came up to help. I had no choice but to fight back. After Wayne finished speaking, he thought thoughtfully, so, it doesn't seem like it's my fault. But you struck too hard. Professor McGonagall quickly found the loophole. 10 people have broken noses, 8 people have minor concussions, and poor Professor Quirrell was accidentally injured by you. I'm sorry, Professor. Wayne stood up and bowed slightly. After expressing his sincere apology, he straightened up and looked at Professor McGonagall. But I really don't think I did anything too much. At least, I didn't even use magic. 17. If I did pull out my wand, they would be even worse off. Professor McGonagall was speechless. Sprout looked at his baby with admiration. Be polite, know how to advance and retreat, and be measured. What a good boy. Okay, today's responsibility is clear. In order to avoid Wayne being punished, Sprout took the initiative and said, the fault is Parkinson's. But Lawrence accidentally injured Professor Quirrell after all. Just a deduction of 180 points. The Hufflepuff tradition continues. Students don't care about grades, and neither does the dean. When he opened his mouth, he was very angry. Then confinement. McGonagall wanted to say something else, but she felt that this punishment was too light. McGonagall does not hate Wayne, on the contrary, she admires him very much, but because of this, the punishment must be more severe. This is a strict teacher's unique way of protecting his beloved students. Forget about the confinement. Sprout said cheerfully, he shouldn't waste so much time on manual labor. No. Snape suddenly said, there is still one person who has not been punished, Cedric. It was him who forcibly stood up for Lawrence, which led to the subsequent incident. Cedric could not participate in the next Quidditch match, or even appear in the stadium? Sprout thought for a moment and reluctantly agreed. Slytherin suffered a big loss this time, so just let them go. After several people finished discussing, they looked at Dumbledore, who had been silent just now. Dumbledore smiled bitterly, you have finished discussing it, what do you want me to do? Just do it. Severus, go and help Poppy, Madame Pomfrey, she may not have enough potions. Next, nothing happened to Wayne. He was asked out of the principal's office, and many Hufflepuff badgers were guarding the door. Although Hufflepuff has a numerical advantage, there is no way he won't get injured in a fight. Many people were honored, but they didn't care much. They only cared about the punishment Wayne was about to face. Seeing Wayne coming out, a lot of people gathered around him: Cedric, Toby, Norman, Hannah, Bones. Wayne quickly told the results and told everyone not to worry anymore. Everyone was very happy when they heard that it was just a deduction of points. If they were not afraid of being heard by the professors inside, they would have started cheering. Wayne patted Cedric on the shoulder. "I'm sorry to make you miss a Quidditch competition." Cedric shook his head indifferently. "What the hell?" Professor Sprout probably agreed because he didn't want to embarrass Professor Snape. "Does the Academy still have a backup seeker?" Cedric sighed slightly. "No, let's just give in this time. Fortunately, we are facing Ravenclaw, so we can't lose too much." "Don't say this nonsense." Wayne joked. "If Chu hears this, he will definitely settle the score with you. How can she know if you don't tell her?" Cedric hit him on the shoulder angrily. Wayne smiled but said nothing. A group of people returned to the common room in great force. "Say nothing. Start partying right away." Wayne directly summoned the Phoenix King, and the pure white holy flames were sprinkled down, and all the skin injuries suffered by the little badgers disappeared. Seeing that everyone was full of curiosity about King Fang, he did not let King Fang leave. He would definitely not be allowed to touch him. Even if Wayne agreed, he would not be able to do so with King Fang's arrogance. Besides, Wayne wouldn't do that either. However, let everyone take a closer look at Phoenix King and feel her charm. This is a surprise bonus for most little badgers who like magical animals. After learning that King Fang liked herbal medicine, a bunch of people rushed into the dormitory excitedly and took out their collections, which contained all kinds of things. The little badgers had a feast, and so did the Phoenix King. Everyone is happy. Hufflepuff has never been so proud. Don't you Slytherins call themselves a pure-blood noble house and look down on Hufflepuff? After finishing today, let's see who dares to say Hufflepuff is not good in the future. Wayne also sighed. In the wizarding world, before the strength reaches a certain level, the number of people is really an important advantage. It would be no exaggeration to say that the Weasley family is impoverished, but they are still among the 28 pure-blooded holy clans. Who dares to look down upon them? Not for anything else, just because it can give birth. When Ginny came of age, several other people married wives, and there were a total of 20 wizards in this family. Who can withstand it? Are you going to let Malfoy, a 9th-generation single, take over? Even if he had the courage to do so, he wouldn't dare. At first, choosing Hufflepuff is the best choice. Wayne held up the cup filled with juice and shouted, "Make Hufflepuff great again! Make Hufflepuff great again!" The little badgers also got excited, raised their glasses and followed him. Make Hufflepuff great again. Late at night, Wayne was lying in bed. While Hufflepuff was celebrating, Wayne didn't forget to tell Hermione and Cho that he was fine. "I almost couldn't come back when I went to the Gryffindor lounge. The little lions are crazy. As long as you beat up Slytherin, you are our good friend." Harry also knew that Wayne created such chaos just to help him, and he was extremely moved. "I also made an appointment with Wayne to go to Hagrid's cabin tomorrow." In fact, this is not the case at all. On the one hand, it was indeed to help Hermione, but on the other hand, Wayne had long wanted to deal with these Slytherins. Those jealous purebloods thought he didn't know how many bad things they said about him behind his back. If you can't compare with talent, just use the so-called bloodline to slander him, just like a tongue-tied woman talking behind your back. Do you really think Wayne has no temper? Those who were knocked unconscious by him today and whose nose bones were broken, they were all people he knew had scolded him behind his back, or scolded Chu and Hermione because of his relationship. Wayne didn't know if there was any fish that slipped through the net, but once he found out, he would never be able to escape. Big event is being settled. The system beep sounded at the right time, and Wayne was not surprised. This time, he can be regarded as creating the largest group fight in the history of Hogwarts. It is strange that there is no critical hit reward. Big event - crush the arrogance of pure blood, event, and completion. Reward, points plus 3,500, 10 major event gift packs. The points were 3,500 points. Adding in the previous points, it suddenly reached more than 5,000 points. Wayne had his points withdrawn not long after his last complaint against Quirrell. There were 50 draws in total, and no gold rewards came out, but some purple rewards came out. This time, after more than 5,000 points are drawn, there will be another guaranteed deposit. System, open the big event gift package. Congratulations to the host, you have obtained the meditation technique, gold. Wayne sat up straight. Meditation? As the information flow in his mind continued to come in, he also understood the reward he had drawn. Through meditation, the quality of mental power can be purified and the total amount can be increased. Very practical. Unlike many worlds, spiritual power in this world is not equal to magic power, it is purely based on talent. People with strong spirits may not necessarily have a lot of magic power. People with a weak spirit may have endless magic power that they can't waste. But this does not mean that mental power is useless. Wands, spells, and gestures, these 3 points are actually designed to help the wizard concentrate and smoothly guide the body to use magic to complete the spell. So once you get used to it and your mental power is strong enough and concentrated, you can cast spells without a wand. As long as Wayne keeps exercising, he will learn spells and improve his proficiency much faster. The second is spiritual defense. Mind-reading magic like legilimency has a lot to do with mental power. The stronger the mental power, the stronger occlumency will be. In his conversation with Dumbledore, Wayne never used occlumency. It's not that he doesn't want to use it, but his level of occlumency is not high, and it's easy to see abnormalities. This would reduce Dumbledore's trust in him. So before, Wayne was walking a tightrope, and Dumbledore's character was not that despicable. This old man would not doubt his students easily, let alone use legilimency at every turn. It will be fine from now on. With meditation, Wayne feels refreshed instantly. The occlumency proficiency on the panel also jumps directly from intermediate to advanced. Advanced occlumency should not be so easy to detect. Taking advantage of his good luck, Wayne chose to start the lottery without hesitation. A burst of light flashed as the card shattered. In the first 40 draws, Wayne obtained Vulcan's Path, Magic Flame Protection, Apparition, All Curses End, and Fierce Fire. They are all relatively practical spells. It also made all of Wayne's curses come to an end. The Fire Curse was upgraded to a high level, and the total amount of magic power was increased. For the last 10 consecutive rounds, golden flashes of light arrived as promised. With anticipation, Wayne smashed the card. Chapter 78 Master Alchemist Zoyan, The Arrogance of a Gryffindor. Congratulations to the host, you have obtained an S-level character template, Yin and Yang transform into the 5 elements, and the 5 elements derive from all things Zoyan. Zoyan, the 4th century BC, was the greatest alchemist during the Warring States period. He created the theory of yin-yang and the 5 elements and applied it in the fields of alchemy and magic medicine. Character, Zoyan. Magic A+. Charm S. Defense against the dark arts A+. Black magic B. Transfiguration, S. Potion, SS. Alchemy SS. Special talents, elemental affinity, the power of elemental magic is increased. Master inspiration, there is a probability of being triggered during the process of alchemy and making potions. It can improve the quality of potions, improve formulas, and even create brand new works. Comprehensive evaluation, S. The comprehensive evaluation of the system is mainly based on direct combat power, with auxiliary disciplines such as potions and Chenjin accounting for a lower proportion. Note, when the host fuses multiple templates, talents will not be superimposed, and low-level talents will be directly overridden by high-level talents. Wayne's eyebrows almost flew up. Without any hesitation, he directly integrated Zoyan's template card. His original A-level potion talent and alchemy talent were already considered geniuses among students. But compared with real geniuses, such as Snape, it can be called dull. Every time he makes up for a lesson, he has to be ridiculed by the bat spirit several times. Zoyan's other talents are of no use to him now, but potions and alchemy alone are already comparable to SS-level templates. No matter which world it is, those who refine alchemy and weapons may not be strong, but their status is definitely among the very high ones. Moreover, his other talent levels are not low, only these 2 items are holding him back. Fusion of the template card did not produce any abnormality, and Wayne's body did not feel any changes. But when he recalled the purification potion that Snape talked about last week, many novel ideas instantly appeared in his mind, and he also noticed many details in his refining process. In order to test the effect of talent, I didn't even sleep. Walk out of the dormitory and go straight to the room of requirement. During the experiments, Snape once said that some of his problems did not arise, and he even further improved the formulas of the 2 potions to reduce the cost. SS-level talent is really terrifying. As for alchemy, looking at the gadgets I refined in the past, I can also find a lot of flaws. These inspirations and ideas do not come out of thin air, they are completely based on the knowledge and experience that have been mastered. You still have to study down to earth in order to realize your talent. The system has given him unlimited possibilities and some shortcuts, but the road lies at Wayne's feet. If he doesn't take it, even the system can't save him. Wayne has a clear understanding of all these and knows exactly what he wants. I didn't sleep all night, and it was already 8 o'clock in the morning when I came out of the room of requirement. Thinking that he would go to Hagrid's cabin with Harry later, he gave up the idea of going back to catch up on some sleep, took out a bottle of uplifting potion and poured it into his mouth. I immediately became energetic. This stuff is way better than Red Bull. Lawrence, a female voice came from behind Wayne. Looking back, Wayne also smiled and said hello, Senior Pinello, good morning. How did you come down from upstairs? The blonde senior with big waves walked to the position walking side by side with Wayne and asked doubtfully, oh, I came to find George and Fred. Wayne made up an excuse without changing his face, who knew that these 2 people hadn't gotten up yet, so I came down by myself. Are those 2 mischievous brothers? Pinello nodded. Recently, Gryffindor's prefect Percy had been pursuing her, but I met the twins not because of Percy, but because of Wayne's Celia store. Pinello bought a lot of useful quills from the twins. She said with some envy, what other clever ideas do you have? We are indeed preparing to launch some new products. Wayne didn't hide it, but considering that everyone's wallets are short of money, it's better to wait until after Christmas. Pfft. Pinello covered her mouth and chuckled, you are really straightforward. Wayne blinked, of course, I'm an honest Hufflepuff. Pinello was even more trembling with laughter. The senior's development level is much better than that of the shriveled Hermione and Chew. Even though she is not an adult, she still exudes her own charm. The 2 of them walked all the way towards the auditorium. Pinello also said with emotion, it would be great if I could be as talented as you. I can earn a lot of galleons by making props at will. Wayne understood what it meant. Senior, are you short of money? It doesn't count. Pinello shook his head, like you, I was born pure muggle, and I only get so many galleons every year. Life is worry-free, but many of the robes I like and the books I am interested in need to be purchased at my own discretion. What Pinello said was very realistic, but Wayne didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Most people are like this. After meeting their material needs, they will pursue spiritual enjoyment. Money is always a topic that cannot be avoided. Maybe I can help Senior Sister. The young man was gentle, with a faint smile on his face, but I believe that Senior Sister will never accept my help for nothing. If you have any ideas and need funds, or if you can do something for me, you can come to me. After saying these words, the 2 of them arrived at the entrance of the auditorium. Wayne nodded politely and said goodbye before heading to Hufflepuff. Pinello looked at the young man's leaving figure, stunned. This speech is really a Slytherin. In the auditorium, Wayne's appearance also attracted the attention of many people. Gryffindor greeted with a smile, Ravenclaw looked at him curiously, and Hufflepuff welcomed him warmly. Wayne, where were you so early? Come, have a grilled sausage. I have hot spring eggs here. As soon as he sat down, several little badgers helped him fill his plate. After Wayne thanked everyone for their enthusiasm, he caught a glimpse of Slytherin's long table and laughed unconsciously. There were only a dozen girls on the empty long table, and not a single boy could be seen. Seeing Wayne smile, the other little badgers also laughed. Their laughter fell into Slytherin's ears, like a sharp blade, continuing to torture their proud hearts. A Slytherin girl was angrily slicing sausages, making a screeching sound as her knife and fork scraped against the dinner plate. It's as if she's not slicing sausages, but Wayne. This girl is Pansy Parkinson, one of Malfoy's little followers and the sister of Robert Parkinson. Feeling that someone was looking at him with resentment, Wayne just glanced at who it was and ignored him. Speaking of Pansy, he still felt a little pity. In the movie world, Pansy in the first few movies is very beautiful, not at all as ugly as described in the book. As a result, in the real world, Wayne can only say, the description in the book is still conservative. One more look and he won't be able to eat in the morning. Unexpectedly, Pansy noticed Wayne's quick glance and interpreted it as fear. Just wait, Lawrence. The Parkinson family and other pure-blood families will not let you go. The ugly witch was furious. Yesterday, many Slytherin students wrote letters home, and they were planning to put pressure on Dumbledore through their parents to expel Wayne directly. Especially the worst victim, Robert Parkinson, learned that he would have to undergo confinement after being discharged from the hospital. The wound on his angry head burst open again, and he fainted again. Madame Pomfrey said he wouldn't be out of the hospital for at least next week. In the letter, Pansy made Robert's case extremely serious, hoping to make the family take it seriously and retaliate against Wayne severely. But it's a pity that these Slytherins still haven't learned to assess the situation. Hogwarts is now owned by Dumbledore. As long as he is still the principal, no one can affect this place. Principal's office. Early in the morning, dozens of owls poured into the office carrying envelopes. Many of them are still conspicuously red. Dumbledore waved the Elder Wand, and before the roaring letters could explode, they turned into black smoke, burned to ashes, and were blown out the window. Opening the rest of the letters, it turned out that most of them were complaints. Those Slytherin parents arrogantly demanded that Wayne be expelled. They must not let the murderer who hurt their children stay in Hogwarts. What surprised the old man were other letters, all for Wayne's behalf. Pruitt, Abbott, Macmillan, Bones, Cedric, Philip. Dumbledore was in a daze. He discovered blind spots that he had never noticed before. Is Hufflepuff's power so powerful? The first few families are also members of the 28 sacred families, and the latter ones, although they are not, are all officials of the Ministry of Magic, and their positions are not low. Especially Amelia Bones, currently the director of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement at the Ministry of Magic and a member of the Wisengamot. His position in the Ministry of Magic is second only to Fudge, and he is known for his fairness. So many people came together to plead for Wayne. Only then did Dumbledore finally realize what kind of group of people had gathered around Wayne. But in the old man's heart, there was no worry at all, only relief. Even if Wayne were a Gryffindor, he would have some bad thoughts. But who makes Wayne the Hufflepuff? There is a widely circulated joke in the wizarding world. Although it is a joke, it does have some truth. It is said that in Azkaban, all those who come from Slytherin are political prisoners and conspirators. Gryffindors are violent criminals. Those who come out of Ravenclaw are economic criminals. What about Hufflepuff? Sorry, Hufflepuff isn't old enough to be imprisoned in Azkaban yet. When it comes to Hufflepuff, what everyone talks about most is good employees and good helpers. Diligent, down to earth. Although Wayne is a little more lively, he is still a kind Hufflepuff at heart, so Loudang has nothing to worry about. The boy who was far away on the way to Hagrid's hut didn't know what Dumbledore was thinking. Even if he knew, he would just smile with disdain. Perhaps, this is the arrogance of Gryffindor. Come in quickly, it's too cold outside. Knocking on the door of Hagrid's hut, the hybrid giant quickly appeared and enthusiastically welcomed several people into the hut. Hello, I am Kaichang. Shu, who came here for the first time, introduced himself. Don't be so polite, you are Wayne's friend, you are my friend. Hagrid generously moved a few stools, all of which were newly made by him. He had not had many friends in the past, so he naturally did not need these furniture. But starting from this semester, Wayne and Harry would come over from time to time, and it was not good to have people sitting on the bed all the time, so Hagrid made some furniture by herself. It just looks a little rough and has some wood thorns. For his own sake, Wayne pulled out his wand and polished the stools. Only then did everyone sit down. Harry looked at himself. Hagrid on the left, Ronald on the right. Looking across at Wayne. On the left is Autumn, and the rocks are moving forward. Somewhat desperate. Everyone quickly talked about what happened yesterday, and Hagrid scolded. Wayne, you were too impulsive yesterday. Even if it was Parkinson's fault, you shouldn't take action directly. Just tell Dumbledore and he will make the decision for you. Hi. Wayne waved his hand nonchalantly and took a sip of scalding strong tea. At that time, my emotions were at my peak, and my fists no longer obeyed my command. No. Harry stood up and took the blame, saying with a moved face, you are all here to help me. Without you, I would have been thrown to death by Snape. Wayne gave Harry a thumbs up. This man was so resourceful that he not only helped him share the pot, but also gave Snape a free bite. What does it have to do with Snape? Hagrid scratched his head. He had no idea what happened yesterday. Hermione and I both saw it. Ronald shouted. Snape kept staring at Harry's broomstick and chanting a spell. Why? Chew covered her mouth in surprise. She still just found out. Is it really? Facing Chew's question, Harry lowered his head in embarrassment. I also heard what Ronald and Hermione said. It must be him. Hermione assured. The chaos started yesterday. Snape was distracted, and Harry was safe. I don't think he expected you to catch the golden snitch so quickly. That's right. Wayne nodded seriously and took the opportunity to retaliate. Snape is really not a thing. Seeing that Hagrid still didn't believe it, Harry decided to continue to throw out a shocking news. On Halloween, we found that Snape went to the 4th floor. He must have wanted to steal the guards' belongings through Luwei. Boom! Hagrid put down the teapot hard, startling everyone, and Chew, Zhao's, quickly asked Wayne to get closer. How do you know Lu? He asked in disbelief. Well, Wayne told me the name of the three-headed dog. Harry winced and sold Wayne. Hermione looked dissatisfied and turned her head. Why not tell her, but tell Harry instead? Wayne sighed and told the whole story. What a pig teammate. So that's it. Hagrid nodded. Thank you for your mercy, Wayne. I got Lu from a Greek guy last year. I lent him to Dumbledore to guard. Guarding what? Harry asked eagerly. He was about to know the answer. Okay, don't ask. Hagrid interrupted rudely. Dumbledore trusts me. I won't tell you. Is this something you should worry about? When he said that Dumbledore trusted him, the half-blood giant puffed up his chest proudly. It seemed like it was such an honor to serve Dumbledore. As for Snape, Hagrid paused. He is a professor at the school and someone Dumbledore trusts. He would never do anything like that. But yesterday, we all saw Snape cast a spell. Hermione now had a very bad impression of Snape. Chew sat aside and silently ate melon, blinking quietly. She felt Gryffindor curiosity now. There are so many professors at the school, and Headmaster Dumbledore. Several first-year wizards actually began to think about the school's property, and even suspected a dean of the school. Really interesting. Okay. Hagrid was a little anxious when asked. The reason why Dumbledore trusts me is because I have a strict mouth. You guys give up. I won't put him and Nicole dash. The words stopped abruptly. Harry and Hermione's eyes lit up. Wayne was speechless and held his forehead. This mouth is really strict. Chapter 79 Slytherin's Revenge, Sneak Attack. Hagrid, who knew he had made a mistake, completely turned into black and white and remained silent for the rest of the time. Harry asked for what he wanted without pushing too hard. After sitting for another half hour, a few people got up and left. Before leaving, Wayne gave Hagrid some moon-crazy beast excrement and asked him to help fertilize the biting cabbage. Hagrid broke through the defense again. Wayne, you went to the Forbidden Forest. The feces of the moon-crazy beast must be collected that night and must be preserved using special means. So, Wayne not only went to the Forbidden Forest, but he also went there during a night tour. Hagrid almost cried. Just after driving away a pair of twins, another Wayne came. He is so difficult. Hermione and Cho looked at each other, their blushes passing. Don't be angry, Hagrid. Wayne stood on tiptoes and patted the hybrid giant on the shoulder. The animals in the Forbidden Forest talk nicely and are full of treasures. I can't control how many I'm sending. If you don't tell me, if I don't tell you, who will know that I went to the Forbidden Forest? But the hybrid giant wanted to say something more, but was interrupted by Wayne, who activated his skill. Hagrid, you don't want others to know about Aragog, right? The hybrid giant's eyes widened and he couldn't say anything when he looked at Wayne, who still maintained a gentle smile. What is Aragog? Chew asked softly on the way back. Wayne pondered for 2 seconds. A good man provides me with many raw materials. Liar. Chew Cai couldn't believe it. If he was really a good person, why would Hagrid be so nervous and not even pursue Wayne's visit to the Forbidden Forest? I swear on Hufflepuff's name that I'm not lying. Wayne promised swornly. Of course he didn't lie. He just showed everyone the good side of Aragog. This is more indicative of the kindness of a true Hufflepuff. Seeing how serious he was, Chew didn't hesitate on this issue. The two turned to chat about the Quidditch game. Next week is the game between Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw, although Cedric's suspension has greatly increased Ravenclaw's winning rate. But Chew has some regrets. What she wants is an upright game, not a victory based on the opponent's shortage of major generals. Wayne thought thoughtfully, maybe the substitutes in our academy are very good. Do not make jokes. Chew said nonchalantly, Isaias Jar has already said that Hufflepuff has no substitute seeker at all. You'll know then. Several people came to the castle gate to say goodbye. Ronald was going to Diagon Alley with Professor McGonagall to buy a wand in the afternoon and was very excited. Hermione and Harry were going to the library to find out who Nicholas Flamel was. Wayne would not interfere with Hermione's friendship, since the little witch is so concerned about the Philosopher's Stone 290 thing. Then let her have fun. Back in the common room, Wayne found Hufflepuff's Quidditch captain Weasley. The 6th grader was holding an assignment he had borrowed from Ravenclaw's girlfriend and using a manuscript quill to reference it. Wayne got straight to the point. Weasley, does the team have no backup seeker? Don't worry. Weasley thought Wayne was feeling guilty about Cedric being punished, so he smiled and comforted. Our chasers are much better than Ravenclaw, so we won't lose too many points. No. Wayne shook his head slowly and pointed at himself. What do you think of me? Can I come on as a substitute? You. Weasley was surprised. Wayne, how are your flying skills? It's not bad, probably about the same as Harry. Wayne said modestly. Flying is about talent, mentality, and physical fitness. Wayne is not afraid of heights, his body has been strengthened, and he is not weak in the observation skills required by a seeker. Serving as a temporary substitute is not a problem. This time Cedric was suspended because he was trying to help him. When the other little wizards in Hufflepuff were fighting, almost all of them came up to help. He can trick others, but he cannot trick himself. So even if Wayne has no interest in Quidditch, no one can blame him, but he must make up for the consequences he has caused if he can. At the same time, he also wanted to see what kind of expression would appear on the girl's face when he suddenly stood in front of Chew and became his opponent. Really? Weasley also became excited. Then let's try it this afternoon. Let's not say it's almost the same as Potter, as long as it's better than Kreiser. Kreis, who was playing $1 wizard chess, stopped. Weasley, you forced me to be the substitute. Why do you still dislike me? This is not disdain. Weasley waved his hand. This is honesty. Many people around him burst into laughter, and Kreiser also laughed and scolded him a few times, but didn't take it to heart at all. Unlike Hufflepuff's happy place, far away at the other end of the castle, the Slytherin lounge was completely silent. In the dark and cold common room, dozens of Slytherin students were wrapped in bandages and sat there without saying a word. No, even if that mudblood is to be fired, I must come back with revenge. A senior student whose head was covered with bandages said angrily, Slytherin, you will be punished. His words were immediately echoed by others. No one has ever hit me in my life, damn Lawrence. Be careful and keep the situation under control so that it doesn't affect others, otherwise we won't be able to survive in circles. Yes, Dumbledore is particularly fond of these mixed bloods and mudbloods, and has long forgotten the glory of pure bloods. Try to avoid being discovered directly by the professor, so that you can have an excuse to get away. As a pure-blood descendant, not to mention talent, from a mental point of view, Slytherin is indeed much more mature than several other colleges. They are taught ambition and glory from the moment they enter school, and they are taught to do whatever it takes to achieve their goals. Under the cultivation of this wolf culture, many capable people have emerged. A conspiracy against Wayne was quickly formed. Due to the rumors about Wayne in the past, the lower grade students were excluded. The main actions are all taken by the seniors in grades 6 and 7. Soon, the time came to Monday. In the auditorium, Snape, who had been missing for 2 days, finally appeared, looking at Wayne with a look that almost made him soak in formalin. He had been helping Madame Pomfrey brew the healing potion for the past 2 days, and he was almost exhausted. The responsibility for all this lies entirely on Wayne's head. Why don't you hold down Robert and beat him to death alone? No one else scolded you. Wayne pretended that he didn't feel the potion's professor's regret and ate scrambled eggs mindlessly. He likes this method very much. Put the butter in the pot, heat the pot and add the eggs. Add the milk while stirring, keep stirring until it is finally out of the pot, and sprinkle some black pepper. The eggs produced in this way have a dense, smooth, and tender texture. He likes the sweet and sour taste, and will add some tomato sauce to make it more flavorful. It is always said that the British Empire is a food desert, but there are also some good highlights. After finishing breakfast, Wayne called Hermione and walked towards the History of Magic classroom. Several Slytherins who had been observing his movements looked slightly moved and followed him quietly. Wayne paused slightly. Then he pretended not to notice anything and started walking again. Hermione was oblivious, chirping to Wayne about the waste of the weekend. She flipped through 7 or 8 books, but couldn't find any news about Nicholm, which delayed her progress in preparing for next month's homework. That's right. Next month. If Toby and Norman, who were just preparing to prepare for this semester's homework before the final exam, heard this, they would definitely crawl under their seats in shame. Wayne dealt with it perfunctorily, observing the movements around him with his dynamic perception talent. When the two reached the 3rd floor, the number of people in the corridor became sparse. There was a sound of laughter and laughter from the other side of the corner. 2 boys were chasing each other and fighting in their direction. Hermione frowned, but still moved closer to Wayne's position to make room. Wayne still walked forward unconsciously. Just when the 2 sides were about to stagger away, the 2 boys who were laughing and joking suddenly turned ferocious. The wands they had planned for a long time slipped from their sleeves and chanted a spell. Everything is petrified. Collapse. Hermione was frightened by this sudden turn of events. The spell was cast extremely fast and was in front of the 2 of them in the blink of an eye. It was only then that Wayne said calmly, "Protego, armor protection." An invisible barrier was erected in front of the 2 of them, and the magic was instantly reflected back, hitting their caster accurately. One person's eyes widened and he fainted directly to the ground, while the other person's eyes widened in horror and he could not move. Boom! But it's not over yet. The closed door of a nearby teacher's room was suddenly pushed open, and there were still 2 people who cast a spell on Wayne at the same time. Expelliarmus! Expelliarmus! A cold look flashed across Wayne's face. He was not angry because of the successive sneak attacks. Just because one of the spells missed, instead of flying towards him, it shot straight towards Hermione. Is it intentional or just a lack of skill? These must be considered after capturing them. Spreading his 5 fingers, Wayne pushed his palm forward, and the 2 red magic spells were completely suppressed by him. The student who launched the sneak attack struggled to hold the wand and finally both flew backwards in front of the huge torrent of magic power. Hermione finally came back to her senses at this time, and screamed so hard that even Wayne felt uncomfortable. "Wayne, they're coming for you. I'm talking about Miss Granger." Wayne rubbed the little witch's head helplessly. "I've already killed everyone, and you're just saying this. Isn't it a little late?" Hermione lowered her head like a quail, and her face felt hot. She also felt that her performance just now was too bad. She felt like a fool when facing the curse. She even forgot to dodge, not to mention casting spells to resist. This is a normal reaction. Wayne comforted him, but he made up his mind to cultivate the little witch's practical experience in the future. It doesn't matter how powerful a fighter is, as long as he has the same fighting spirit and courage as Harry. Seeing the 2 people who were knocked away staggeringly getting up and trying to escape, Wayne just stretched out his hand to grab, then pulled back, and finally pressed down. The 2 men knelt down in front of him without any resistance. At this time, several students also came to the empty corridor, including the bewildered crowd from other colleges, as well as Slytherin students. Seeing that their plan had failed, their faces were extremely gloomy. "Hermione, you go to class first," Wayne said to Hermione. "No, I'm going to tell Professor McGonagall that they actually attacked you in the corridor." Hermione shook her head like a rattle, extremely angry. "No need, pass. The professor will naturally find out after a while." Wayne comforted the little witch with explosive hair, and then looked at the captive on the ground. "Recover quickly." The student who had been hit by the coma spell woke up quickly and knelt down with the other 3 before he was happy with the situation. "Lawrence, let them go," a Slytherin onlooker said gloomily. "Get lost." Wayne waved his hand. "You didn't take action today, so I'm embarrassed to deal with you. Don't make yourself miserable." The student gritted his teeth, but ultimately did not dare to take action directly. All 4 people's sneak attacks failed. How could he alone be Wayne's opponent? Slytherin is good at retribution, but he is also good at protecting himself wisely. Travers, Roger, Selwyn, Nott, Tisk, they are all young masters. Wayne named several people one by one, and finally looked at Selwyn. The curse he just shot at Hermione was Selwyn's disarming spell. Legilimency was activated, and the two only looked at each other for a moment before Wayne figured out his inner thoughts. Looked at him with disdain. You can bend the magic spell, but at this level, you still dare to sneak attack on me. That's right. This guy didn't do it intentionally, it was just because. Encountering such an idiot, the coldness that arose in Wayne's heart just now became a little speechless. If you are not as good as others, then you should be willing to admit defeat. Wayne waved his hand, and all four of them hung on the ceiling. You are welcome to sneak attack me at any time, if you dare to attack my friends. I will publish the news that you dare not face me directly in the Daily Prophet and name them for a month. Wayne smiled very happily, as if he was looking forward to that day. Do you think other people in such a pure blood family would be ashamed to be alongside him? Lawrence. Selwyn cursed, you are so vicious. My spell just missed. He was so anxious that he almost cried. If this matter really hits the newspapers, their family's glory will be completely lost. The 6th grade student did not dare to cause trouble for the first-year students, but instead bullied his friends. Word spread that his father could break his legs. It's still the kind that can't be cured. The other Slytherins also had cold expressions on their faces, looking at Wayne as if they were looking at the devil. Even though behind the scenes these families are not very clean, they bully the weak with guns, and bully the weak, but on the surface they are all shameless. Wayne's move was simply a blow to the bottom of the cauldron. I believe you just did it unintentionally, Wayne said very seriously, which made Selwyn feel relieved and a little touched at the same time. He understands me? I am very happy for your challenge and welcome you to sneak attacks at any time. Wayne also waved to the other Slytherins. You too, you're welcome, feel free to take action. The scene was silent. After waiting for a while, more and more people were attracted by the movement here, but still no Slytherin came forward. Wayne took Hermione to class out of boredom. The 4 people hanging were anxious. Lawrence, please let us down. Wayne waved his hand without looking back. Sorry, I didn't learn how to break the curse. I hung there for a long time and then you came down by yourself. After saying that, the 2 disappeared around the corner, and the 4 Selwyns were in tears. The other Slytherins tried to put them down, but predictably failed. Until Snape floated over. What happened? Seeing the 4 people hanging upside down, an unknown fire surged out of Snape's heart. He waved his magic wand and lifted the spell, and Selwyn and others were finally saved. It's Lawrence. Roger said bitterly, he was the one who hung us up. Snape's face looked as ugly as eating poop-flavored beans. He attacked you? Why? The Golden Bell was a spell he invented, but it was actually used by Wayne to attack his students? Damn it, isn't this what James Potter did to him back then? Snape was almost furious. Traverse's eyes evaded, but under Snape's almost cannibalistic gaze, he could only tell the truth honestly. Yes, we wanted to take revenge on him, but we failed. Snape's vision went dark. A bunch of trash. Sorry this chapter is late. Chapter 80, after beating the younger one, the older one comes, Snape Hungwin. History of Magic class. Today is about the fantasy history shaped by humans and magical animals. Ancient Greek period. In order to obtain a large amount of treasures, the wizard Siegfried teamed up with a black dragon named Fafnir of the Hesidian Islands, and staged the legend of dragon slaying many times. Then the gold and silver jewels and the dragon were equally divided. At the end of the Eastern Han dynasty, a muggle gained the favor of Thunderbird and launched a vigorous Yellow Turban uprising. Every time I summon the Thunderbird, I will shout Thunder God, help me. Cuthbert Binns was eloquent and eloquent. It's a pity that half of the class fell down, and the other half was also wandering away. Even Miss Granger, who was usually the only one who listened carefully to the lectures, could not sit still at this time. She was restless and unable to listen at all. Wayne. She gently pulled Wayne's robe and whispered, is it really okay to keep those people hanging? Is Snape going to give you any trouble? He is the most protective of his shortcomings. Calmly holding Hermione's little hand, the girl shuddered, but did not choose to pull it out. Wayne nodded with satisfaction, and the progress increased a little. Have you ever seen me suffer a loss? Snape's 3 axes are nothing more than a sharp tongue, deducted points, and confinement. It was the Slytherin students who attacked first this time, and my dean is not a vegetarian either. Reminds me of Professor Sprout showing off his power in front of Dumbledore. Wayne couldn't help but smile. What a dim sense of security. The truth was just as Wayne said, when what happened in the corridor spread. The little badgers were angry. Dean Sprout was angry. A few seniors from the 5th and 6th grades sneak up on the first-year freshmen. How shameless. Don't worry Wayne, we will definitely help you get revenge. Patrick, the 7th grade male prefect, clenched his fists and said, while the students around him nodded angrily. After the fight on the Quidditch field, the little badgers seemed to have awakened some extraordinary attributes. Are you used to solving problems with your fists? You must not take the initiative. Wayne quickly advised. In addition, you should also be careful not to act alone. It is best to work with several people. In case Slytherin jumps over the wall to cause trouble for you, we can also bully the small number with more people. I'm afraid they won't succeed. Cedric said indignantly, I learned some dueling skills from my father during the summer vacation, but I'm worried that I won't be able to use them. Don't cause trouble. Wayne patted his head angrily. We are all kind-hearted Hufflepuffs. Don't take the initiative to cause trouble. This is a grudge between me and Slytherin. We can't make things difficult for Dean. Hearing this, the little badgers looked at Wayne with emotion. What a nice person. In order not to cause trouble for the college and the dean, he would rather face the entire Slytherin college alone. No, they want to protect kind Wayne? Seeing the little badger that was on fire for no apparent reason, Wayne felt a little dizzy. No, he is really trying to break up the fight, not trying to provoke a fight. In the afternoon, the whole school was completely turned into a pot of porridge. Compared to the Slytherins who made a sneak attack in the first place, the little badgers were undoubtedly much more capable. They would take out their wands in front of someone, then look confused on the other side, throw away the spell and run away. And the spell used is not too powerful. The front teeth are like sticks, the mouth is grinning and spitting slugs. These evil curses used for pranks can teach people a lesson without hurting others. On the Slytherin side, Wayne's provocation made them equally angry. Usually Slytherin fights Gryffindor, but Hufflepuff can step on them at any time. Revenge? Must take revenge severely. In just one afternoon and dinner time, Wayne was attacked 4 or 5 times. No surprises. There were also several more Slytherin students in the corridors and on the ceilings of the classrooms. Professor McGonagall is almost going crazy. The scores of the 2 colleges are dropping at an alarming rate. When it was time for dinner, a funny scene appeared on the scoreboard. The Ravenclaws laughed. There are not many gems left representing the other 3 houses, leaving only Ravenclaw to stand out. This year's Academy Cup seems to be secure. Although he doesn't care too much, who doesn't like the honor he gets for free? At the guest of honor seat, Snape's face was as dark as water. Sprout, take care of the students in your college, and don't regard our tolerance as condonation of you. He has become Hufflepuff's poop manager today, searching the castle for students who were cursed by other little badgers and hung up by Wayne. Although there are some unlucky little badgers, their numbers are too few, just because they followed Wayne's teachings. Never act alone, at least in pairs. Learned from Slytherin's experience again. The senior students look for the lower students, and the lower students run to crowded places when they say the senior students. After a guerrilla war, Slytherin suffered heavy losses and Hufflepuff won a complete victory. It fully proves the truth that there is strength in numbers. Professor Sprout also had a bad look after hearing Snape's warning. Although Hufflepuff has the advantage now, it was Slytherin who started the matter after all. Your students are looking for trouble first. From this tone, you blame the good kids in our college. Immediately, regardless of the harmony between colleagues, he choked and said, "My children are doing very well. Professor Snape should give extra lessons to his students. The 5th and 6th graders can't beat a new student. If this spreads out, you, the dean, will be responsible." The good old man Flitwick wanted to smooth things over, but Snape had already broken through the defense. He snorted angrily, stood up, and left. Just like that, Professor Sprout still didn't forget to add another blow. "I forgot to tell you, Professor Snape, there are some problems with the cultivation of these batches of wolf-shaped aconite and mantle grass, and the number is less than half." Snape stiffened, then walked faster, mentally cursing Sprout for his lack of martial ethics. It actually got stuck in his neck. You know, Sprout's herbal greenhouse is Snape's supplier. He uses the materials himself and provides materials for students to use in classes. Most of them are produced and sold within the college. If we go out to buy it, even if there are 12 school directors and donations from the Ministry of Magic, they cannot support such a huge consumption. It's just a conflict between students. Sprout uses this trick to deal with him. This made Snape extremely uncomfortable, but there was nothing he could do about it. What's going on in this world? Is it possible that Slytherin is defeated by Hufflepuff? Pomona. Flitwick smiled bitterly. There's no need to go to this step, right? We are all colleagues. It is not good to have too much tension. I'm sensible, Phileas. When dealing with others, Sprout returned to his usual kindness. I'm just making him uncomfortable for a few days. It won't delay the students' potions class. Who asked him to bully Lawrence? Do you think Hufflepuff has no temper? Sprout snorted lightly and took the initiative to change the topic. The day passed quickly, and the storm still did not subside. Professor McGonagall's suppression only made everyone's actions more subtle. Throughout the day, Wayne killed more than a dozen people. There are also a few old faces from yesterday. He was a little impressed by this perseverance and tenacity, so he specially increased the intensity and not only hung it on the ceiling, but also included several jinxes for free. At night, Cedric stopped Wayne, who was trying to leave the lounge. "Are you still going to Snape's class? Why not go?" Wayne was surprised. "I even paid the tuition. What if he retaliates against you?" Cedric advised. "Why don't you go? If you have anything you don't understand, you can ask everyone. Many people have good grades in potions class." "Yes, Wayne, Snape will definitely take the opportunity to avenge his students. What if he casts a spell on you? Let's not go." The other little badgers also advised Wayne with concern. "Don't worry, everyone." Wayne comforted everyone, although Snape is unreasonable, doesn't pay attention to personal hygiene, and his words are worse than the sound of a mandrake. But he is a professor after all, so there is no way he would take action against a little wizard like me. Wayne's potion skills have improved rapidly in the past 2 days, and he has long wanted to show off to Snape and admire his shocked expression. "How can I not go?" But Cedric wanted to say something else, but Wayne had already taken the opportunity to slip out, so he had no choice but to give up. Near 8 o'clock, Wayne arrived at Snape's office with ease. He didn't even knock on the door, just pushed the door open and walked in. Unusually, Snape didn't show off with a newspaper as usual today. Instead, he looked directly at Wayne. "You came. I am coming. You shouldn't have come, but I paid all the tuition fees." Wayne looked at him with a look of disbelief. "Is it possible that you want to default on the bill?" Snape choked and took a long time to suppress his breath. "What are you going to teach me today?" Wayne came to the console he usually used and found that there was no material on it, and he was a little confused. Snape stood up slowly. Push both hands horizontally to the left and right sides. The lockers, operating tables, and all kinds of debris in the classroom quickly receded, and the space quickly expanded. In the blink of an eye, the office became empty and the area became about the same size as a football field. Today's class is not a potions class, but a defense against the dark arts class. The corners of Snape's mouth raised slightly, with a playful look on his face. "Are you good at fighting? Use the magic spell I invented to hang my students on the wall." "Lawrence, I haven't asked you yet. Where did you learn to hang the golden bell upside down?" "0, please give me flowers." Snape looked at Wayne carefully. In his day, the upside-down golden clock was very popular, and Snape was proud of it, but as more and more people were imprisoned in Azkaban, those who can master this spell are either former Death Eaters or James Potter's former group of talents. You can come up with such a simple spell just by thinking about it. Do you need someone else to teach you? Occlumency was activated silently, and Wayne looked directly into Snape's eyes without fear. There's nothing wrong with him saying that. Even if he doesn't get the upside-down golden bell among the system rewards, he can use it at will with just a little thought based on his talent. It's Slytherin who opened my eyes to the younger ones. Sharp teeth and sharp mouth. Hearing that his masterpiece was belittled, Snape's expression flashed with anger, but he did not doubt that Wayne was actually telling lies. The other party does have this capital. Whoosh! The wand appeared in his hand. Lawrence, this is my free dueling lesson for you. Holding the wand, Snape's aura also changed subtly. The change, from the gloomy before, suddenly became upright. Professor, are you sure you want to fight me? Wayne also smiled, very playfully. If you lose to me, will your dignity be ruined? He glanced at his panel. Host, Wayne Lawrence. Magic, 1.3 Snape. Has mastered the spells, Shattering Curse, Chain Lightning, Shield of Aquis, Disarming Curse, Patronus Charm, Vulcan opens the road, omitted. Strength Evaluation, Professor Level, all talents fully activated, Professor Level, Normal Strength. In terms of magic, Wayne has surpassed Snape. Even though it was only 0.3 seconds, Snape was not an ordinary person. The magic power in his body was at least several times that of an ordinary adult wizard. In terms of strength evaluation and normal strength, he has also reached the professor level. When his talents are fully activated, he is still at the professor level, but he will definitely be much stronger. After all, the division of power in the magical world is too blurry, and the painting style of the three Dumbledores is not that of the world at all. This is why everyone fears and respects Dumbledore, Grindelwald, and the Dark Lord. These three people are no longer wizards who can be dealt with by a small team of aurors. Wayne is really unsure about his current strength positioning. Snape's invitation came at the right time. He is not an ordinary professor. If he is not heard by love, maybe there will be a third Dark Lord in the magic world. Crazy brat. Snape, who was always ready to fight, was indifferent to Wayne's provocation. He must deal with this brat today. That's as you wish. Wayne also took out his wand. You should know the etiquette of dueling, Lawrence. Come on, bow. Snape bowed slowly, and Wayne did the same. Their movements were almost synchronized. The moment they stood up, their wands were quickly aimed at each other. Snape's casting speed was slightly slower, which was intentional. He felt that it was a bit too low priced to fight against a first-grade kid in a duel. Even though he was facing Wayne Lawrence, a genius who in Dumbledore's words was not inferior to Voldemort. Snape, who had enough time to wait for a counterspell, saw Wayne's ferocious smile, the familiar swing of the wand, and the emerald green light. The original calmness disappeared and turned into a numbscalp. Avada Kedavra. Wayne frantically shouted a spell that made everyone in the wizarding world fearful. Oolong is out. Snape went crazy and summoned a python at top speed to protect him firmly. The death curse cannot be protected by the iron armor curse and can only be blocked by physical objects. This python came out as a substitute for death. He never dreamed that Wayne wanted to go to Azkaban to further his studies. Starting with Avatar, you think you are the Dark Lord? Boom, boom. Snape, who was about to go all out to subdue Wayne, froze in place. The python used as a human shield did not die. The green curse hit it and turned into fireworks and exploded. Fake. Fake? Professor, why are you so nervous? Wayne showed an innocent smile. I'm a Hufflepuff. How could I attack my professor with the unforgivable curse? I was just trying to liven up the atmosphere. You're so active. Snape went completely crazy, with red areas in his eyes. Powerful magic burst out from the tip of his wand, and in an instant, it turned into 3 spells and struck Wayne. No one can save you today, I said. Lawrence, you deserve to die.